Am I the a-hole for making my daughter cry at a restaurant? My mom is an influencer and I hate her for it.
Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's making me fat? Am I the a-hole for telling my poor friend that he's actually the privileged one now? Am I the a-hole for calling my stepsister the ugly stepsister?
Death by sidewalk? And at his bachelor party, bro? My fiance cheated on me with my sister. Am I the a-hole for making my daughter miss once-in-a-lifetime events, homecoming and senior prom, and delete all her social media as a punishment for bullying? Yesterday, I was informed that my daughter Sam was part of a group of students who bullied another girl to the point that she had to switch schools. There were racial aspects to the bullying, which came as a complete shock since my wife and I truly did our best to raise our 3 kids to be kind and honest individuals. I don't believe that a grounding and a confiscation of electronics is harsh enough for what Sam did, so I told Sam that she won't be allowed to participate in homecoming or attend senior prom. I also told her that she won't be getting a car for her 18th birthday either. Finally, I told her that she'll have to delete all of her social media accounts with either me or her mother watching. Sam begged me to allow her to go to senior prom because it's a once-in-a-lifetime event and keep just her Instagram account because it had pictures going back years that weren't saved anywhere else. I told her that she shouldn't have been a racist bully. My parents are temporarily staying with us while their house is undergoing renovations. They agree that what Sam did was completely out of line and must be punished, but they think that making my daughter miss homecoming and senior prom and forcing her to delete her social media is far, far too harsh. I think no matter what my opinion is on this, definitely not the a-hole. Good parenting to say this deserves a harsh punishment. I will say I don't think she's gonna learn from this. She's not going to learn to not be a bully and to not be racist from you taking away her social media as well as making her miss these. If anything, I think she might become more spiteful because of that. In a lot of ways, she might blame that person, that race, and become more angry. There needs to be more. There needs to be education behind the racism. I'm a firm believer that bullying stems from something like internally or like happening at home. So maybe like therapy would be a good thing. Not the a-hole. This seems appropriate to the level of offense here, especially the deletion of social media accounts. That said, there's a chance to teach the idea of repentance and redemption. The school year is just about to start and prom isn't until April/early May. Create a plan of restorative actions she can take to earn back prom. These actions can include volunteer service, befriending someone who is an outcast at her school, cultural sensitivity classes, and if possible, something that can positively impact the girl she bullied. Yeah, that is a much better put way of what I said. I don't know though, do you think it's disingenuous if the kid is being forced to earn it back? Getting someone to realize what they're doing is wrong is hard. I don't know, I guess it depends on like where all this is stemming from. I think that's the biggest thing, is they need to figure out where all this is stemming from. Raising a teen means there have to be serious consequences for serious actions, but also teaching them how to behave in the right way, and that requires a path for earning back what they have lost. I actually agree with that. That's actually a good point that I didn't think of. Am I the a-hole for telling my son he can't stay with me when I found out why his wife kicked him out? My daughter-in-law is pregnant with my first grandchild. She is suffering from placenta previa. She is on bed rest. It would be dangerous for her to have sex. So my a-hole son decided that he should cheat. She found out and kicked him out of the house. He came to stay with us because she was having crazy pregnancy hormones. Every time he called her, they would fight. After a couple days, we told him to go see if she calmed down. Her mom is staying with them, so we weren't worried about her. My wife called her to check in on her and found out the truth. I was very upset. When he got home from work, I told him he needed to get out of my house. He wasn't someone I wanted to associate with at the moment, and it would be best if he wasn't near me. My wife tried to say that I was being too hard on him, that I should just give them a chance to work things out. I can't even look at him. I don't want such a stupid boy in my house. My wife and I are still fighting about it, but I am willing to die on this hill. You're gonna cheat on your wife because she is literally bleeding from the baby that you put in her? What? Yeah, I have to applaud this dad. I do have to say, the way he's talking about his son, you can address someone's stupid actions without really laying into them. Not saying that he shouldn't, but like, I would feel bad if my dad was talking about me the same way. Maybe the dad could tone back the amount that he's like attacking the kid, but definitely not the a-hole. I definitely think it's better for him to hold the kid accountable, and he's a good dad for that. The only way that I could see the dad being an a-hole is if the son had come to him and said, this is exactly exactly why she kicked me out, is because I was cheating on her and showing remorse, but it doesn't seem like he's showing any remorse, and him saying she was having crazy pregnancy hormones is not taking accountability for their actions at all. I can't believe OP's wife is saying he's being too hard on his son, like his son isn't being too hard on his wife, who is currently pregnant, mind you, by cheating. The selective outrage is astounding. It does sound like she's kind of being like, oh, it's my baby boy, have to give him the benefit of the doubt, they'll work it out. I don't know, what do you guys think? Definitely let me know in the comments. Am I the a-hole for not forcing my son to rename his hamster? My son is 11 and has been begging for a family pet for a while. I finally gave in when I felt we were ready to take one on, and also when I felt he was ready for the responsibility that comes with one. I expected a dog or cat, but he really wanted a hamster. So we spent a little over a week prepping, helping him study hamster care, and dedicated a sizable spot in our living room for necessities and a home. We finally got around to picking one out at the pet shop. He set on the name Sonic, but the lady ringing us up mentioned the one he picked out was a girl and that she could get him a boy if he wanted, and he just lit up and said, that's Amy, and that was that. We took Amy home. My sister-in-law found out she was pregnant somewhere around that time, and last month they found out they were having a girl. Basically what happened was they were picking out names, and one of the names they narrowed it down to had Amy as the middle name. I made a joke of something like, hey, we already have an Amy at our house, trying to be funny, but sister-in-law didn't think it was. I didn't think much about it at the time, but a couple days ago she asked to come by to talk. I started off by saying the joke I made was in bad taste. I apologized for it, and then she suggested I change the name. I told her I didn't think that would go over well with my son, and then she outright demanded it be changed, whether he likes it or not, because she wasn't going to have a child share the name with a hamster. I agreed to talk it over with my son to see what he thought, and of course he didn't want to. He even thought it was cool that his cousin would share her name with his hamster. I tried convincing him to rename her Sonic even, or some other Sonic character, but he didn't want that. I explained how sister-in-law feels about this, and he felt a bit hurt because he thought he upset sister-in-law, but he really didn't want to change the name and didn't understand why they couldn't just share it. I told sister-in-law that my son was set on Amy, and she blew up. I'll admit I got a bit defensive and reacted poorly, but I essentially told her that it wasn't a huge deal. It's not like anyone is going to make the connection, and by the time her child is old enough to know her name, Amy the hamster likely won't be around. She claimed it was embarrassing because she would always know the connection in her mind, to which I simply told her if it was such a strong reminder of a hamster, then maybe it wasn't a name she should use for her daughter. My brother has told me that I'm being selfish for not forcing my son to pick another name. Sister-in-law thinks I'm the a-hole, and my mom said the whole thing is childish. Yo, the mom, the whole thing is childish. That's it. That's a wrap. It's a middle name. I wasn't aware of like what my middle name was until I was probably like 10. And by that time, that hamster's gonna be long gone. It's such a waste of OP's time to even make this post, but it's hilarious. Like, it's actually funny to genuinely think this woman is getting her panties in a bunch because of a hamster named Amy. Am I the a-hole for overreacting after my wife lied about her baby's gender? I, 32 male, and my wife, 25 female, are expecting our first child. Background: my childhood was a tumultuous one. Growing up, I always craved a strong male figure in my life. I never had that bond with my father and always envisioned having it with my son. My wife was aware of this deep-rooted desire. During her first pregnancy appointments, I was on an essential business trip. These trips, though draining, are critical since I'm the only breadwinner trying to ensure a different life for my child than I had. In my absence, my wife and her adopted mother attended the checkups. Upon my return, she excitedly told me we were having a boy. We invested emotionally and financially, a blue nursery, boy-themed items, even naming him after my late grandfather. However, a chance remark from her mother disclosed we're having a girl. My wife admitted she knew from the beginning, but she didn't tell me, thinking she was protecting my feelings. I was devastated, feeling the weight of past hurts and fresh betrayals. In my pain, I cleared out the nursery, and in a moment I regret, I told her mother she wasn't welcome at upcoming family events, seeing her as part of the deceit. I acted out of deep-seated emotions and past traumas. I love my wife and regret my actions, but I feel lost. Am I the a-hole for how I responded? Maybe I'm a bad person for this, but like, it doesn't matter. Like, this is so pointless to me. I don't think OP is the a-hole. Could he be less emotional? Yeah. Obviously, I've never had a kid, and it sounded very important to him, but like, bro, you're still having a daughter, which is also pretty cool. Your wife is really dumb for lying to you as if it wasn't going to come out that you were having a girl. Respectfully, but also disrespectfully, like, is your wife stupid? Genuinely, like, what was she thinking? I don't think the husband's an a-hole. Just like, suck it up, bro. Go to your wife and be like, that was stupid. Why would you do that? You can always try to have another kid. That could be a boy. I don't know. Hold on. Let's see what the top comment says. I cannot imagine why she thought it would be less painful for you to think you were having a boy and then disappoint you later. Getting your hopes up accomplishes nothing. That said, you very much did overreact in clearing out the nursery and disinviting her mother from coming over. Wasn't it necessary for them to clear out the nursery? Like, they would have to eventually. It was boy themed, but they're having a girl. Maybe disinviting the mother from coming over? I don't know. I guess that's not the appropriate way, but is he not allowed to be upset that like, hey, you guys just lied to me and this mother was a part of it? I feel like he should focus more of that anger at the wife. This reaction is crazy, and you talking about this pain and devastation surrounding having a girl is probably the reason she was afraid to tell you, because she probably wants to be excited about this child and didn't want to deal with you acting like it's something devastating that it's a girl. He didn't say, I don't want a girl, or that there's pain and devastation around it. He just said, I wanted a boy. My reality was that I was going to have a son, and then I learned that you lied to me. Also, you are projecting way too much on an unborn child. What if you did have a boy, but he wasn't as interested in this intense father-son relationship that you were craving? Can any real-life father-son relationship actually even live up to the one in your head that is supposed to heal your past wounds? Okay, that's actually kind of a good point. I don't think this person sounds like they would be a bad parent. It just sounds like they like have this idea of like a perfect relationship with their son that they didn't have with their father when they were a child, and that's like what he's grieving almost, because he like emotionally came to this idea that this is going to happen and now it's pulled from him. Why lie in the first place? Eventually the truth is going to come out and make it worse. Yeah, I think that's why I can't get around OP being in the wrong at any point, because this would have just not happened if the wife didn't lie. Not the a-hole, the wife is the a-hole. I'm gonna stick with that. Am I the a-hole for telling my family how much my fiance earns after years of them making fun of his job? My family is very well educated and full of professionals, including several doctors, surgeons, dentists, etc. I have a good career and make a good living. When I met my fiance, he was at my house to supervise a roofing crew the insurance company hired to replace my damaged roof. I instantly fell for him when he pulled up in his truck and pulled up in my truck. Pulled up in his truck and couldn't keep my eyes off him for the rest of the day as he gave orders to his men. When we started dating, he was vague about his job, and I just chalked it up to him being insecure about me having a better career. I didn't care about our income imbalance. When we got serious, he talked about our future plans, and that was when he told me the full extent of his little construction company. I was shocked that his construction earnings is as much as my dad's surgeon salary. Gradually, he took me around to the handful of construction lots and shopping centers he owns. His rental income combined with his construction earnings is double that of my dad's. He said that few people know about his finances, and he expects me to keep what I know to myself. My parents disapproved of him since the first time I brought him home. My dad coined the term tool boy, and the rest of my family joined in whenever they talk behind my fiance's back. They don't call him that to his face, but instead make snide remarks. Once, my mom said during dinner that they're thinking about hiring someone to mow their lawn, then turned to my fiance and asked him what he charges. I always try to defend him, and it's a constant battle. It's gotten worse since we're planning our wedding, and the other day, my nerves just broke. Yesterday, my parents were trying to get me into getting a prenuptial. Then my dad said, you have to protect your assets just in case Tool Boy decides to go slumming. I lost it and yelled at my parents. During our shouting, I blurted out his earnings and that he makes more than both of them combined. Then I stormed out. I told my fiance what happened, but instead of supporting me, he got mad that I told his parents that. I argued that I was defending him, then we got into an argument. My parents and family are mad at me for keeping secrets. My fiance is mad at me for not keeping secrets. I'm stuck in the middle and don't know what to do. And they called OP the a-hole? Like, I get it. This is important. He said that few people know about his finances and he expects me to keep what I know to myself. That's super important. I understand that. Ugh, this is where like my personal opinions might come in here, because face value, I think OP is the a-hole, because at the end of the day, OP was not given permission to disclose her fiance's finances like that. However, I do have to say this relationship between the parents and a future in-law is not healthy, and the fact that they don't have respect for them is a huge problem. What should have been done is OP should have explained to her fiance, like, we need my parents to take you more seriously, and the way that that's going to happen is if they understand that you are not a little broke boy like you think. You're actually very, very successful. I mean, they're hanging out enough to where OP hears this frequently. That being the case, OP probably has a relationship with their parents, so it's important that they think highly of the fiance, and the way that they'll think highly of the fiance is to know that like he makes bank. I would go with everyone sucks here at the most. The fiance, in my opinion, kind of sucks. There's no way the fiance didn't know that this is how the parents thought of him, and if he doesn't care how his like future in-laws think about him, even though he has the ability to change that, that's kind of an a-hole move in my opinion. You should at least work to get in good standings with your in-laws as best as possible, and if the way to do that is just to be like, hey, I actually make more money than you, and that's really all you have to say, like, I think you're an a-hole for that. And then I think the parents are a-holes a-holes. Like, there's more to relationships and life than just like how much money somebody makes. In a lot of ways, I think OP's the only not a-hole. They wouldn't be the a-hole if they weren't put in this rock and a hard place. Am I the a-hole for not moving out of the property my parents gave me so that my golden child sister, her husband, and kid could move in? My 34 female sister, 31 female, was the first among 4 siblings to have a kid, 5 female. My niece is incredibly spoiled by my sister, our parents, and extended family, and my parents bend over backwards for my sister's requests, like canceling their anniversary trip because my sister asked to babysit while she goes on a girls' weekend. This spring, my boyfriend and rock in my life passed away. At the same time, I lost my job. I had a lot going on and moved back to my hometown. My parents own a rural property they used to rent out. The property had been empty for a while and fairly run down. My parents invited me to stay there rent-free and told me it was my home for as long as I needed. I invested a lot of my time and money, found a remote gig, into getting the house fixed up. I also made friends with Olha, a Ukrainian refugee with a young daughter. Olha was struggling, and I invited her to stay with me for a couple of months while she gets back on her feet. I could use company as well. My parents had no issue with this. Until recent drama, my brother-in-law had been working for a shady company which skirted regulations for profit. The law had caught up with the owner, who folded the company and left the country. My sister's family abruptly moved to our hometown, moving in with my parents. Almost immediately, my parents and sister approached me to swap. I move in with our parents, and sis and her family take my place. They said the house I lived in was too large for one person, and it'd be so much better for my niece to live on such a beautiful property in nature. I didn't understand. My parents have 2 guest rooms. My sister / brother-in-law and the kid have their own bedrooms. I sure didn't at 5. My brother-in-law is still loaded from his old job and could easily get them a place too. They are buying a flashy car. When I mentioned my work on the property, it was dismissed. When I reminded them about Olha, my parents were outraged I was still intent on helping someone else and their child, and not my own sister and niece. They kept making out my sister's situation to be nearly as bad as Olha's. Eventually, it came down to my parents saying, "You're living on our property, you'll do as we want." I said, "Well, you gave it to me and said this was my house as well, to be my home for as long as I needed. But if we want to talk in property terms and not family terms, evict me then." My parents are not evicting, but I receive daily calls and messages from them and extended family guilt-tripping me and calling me an a-hole for not giving up on the more comfortable space to my sister, who is in such a difficult situation and has a little child. Only my brothers see my side, but since they are young men in college, their opinions mean nothing to my family. It sounds like they're trying to implement like a lot of like family responsibility, but not a lot of like family values. I think there is a way to work this around so that everybody is accommodated, but also no one feels like someone is being prioritized. But I think just the start, from the beginning, from the title, there's a lot of resentment between OP, the parents, and this sister that is muddying finding an actual solution for this instead of you said and he said, she said. I feel like with my family, if we were in this situation, we would figure out something that would work for everybody and people would be willing to make sacrifices here and there. I honestly think it would be a good thing if the sisters had to live together and like get along, mend that relationship. I do think everyone sucks here just because I'm a sucker for a good family relationship. Everyone just sounds like they don't want to compromise when this situation is a situation where compromises need to be made. What did OP say? OP's boyfriend died and they lost their job. Those in combination are harder to recover from than the situation that the brother-in-law and sister are in. Granted, I guess they have a kid, but this section here is very telling to me. The brother-in-law is loaded, could easily get them a place, but they're spending that money on a flashy car, and they feel entitled to this free place from the parents that would require kicking out their sister. I don't know, I still think everyone sucks here. If we were gonna rank the a-holes, I would put sister and brother-in-law, parents, OP. Can we start doing that? Rank the a-holes. Am I the a-hole for checking out of parental duties after my wife said I'm not the father? Drama. My wife and I have been married for about 4 years. She brought 3 kids from previous relationships into the marriage while I have none. They moved into my house after the marriage because I live in a better school district. Obviously, we've had our ups and downs, but overall, it's been good until a couple weeks ago when I woke up and found a large dent running down the entire passenger side of the car. The dent is about a hand's wide, starts at the front of the fender and runs down all the way to the rear tire. I was furious and thought someone sideswept my car as it was parked in the street. I checked our doorbell camera to see if it recorded anything and was surprised to see our 16-year-old daughter sneaking out of the house in the middle of the night and driving off in my car. She later returned hours later, stumbling into the house. Outside of those 2 events, the doorbell camera didn't record anything else but a couple of passing cars that didn't come close to mine. I angrily showed my wife the recording and told her our daughter needs to be punished, but she said that she'll talk to her. I argued that talk isn't enough, which led us into an argument. My wife argued that the new family dynamic has been hard on the kids while I argued that it doesn't excuse the damage done to my car. I wanted her to agree to ground our daughter from social media and make her get a job to pay for the damage. We argued for hours until she said I don't get a say in any punishment because I'm not her father. That ended the argument and I walked off. Since then, I've checked out of any parental duties. I've been an adult and still make sure the kids are safe and fed, but I haven't done anything a father would do. They had doctor's appointments last week for their checkups because they play sports in school, and I refused to drive them, causing my wife to have to take off work. They start school next week and I've dropped them off ever since they moved in, but I told my wife she'll have to do it this year. She argued she can't because of her work schedule, and I answered a mother would figure it out. She called me a child and to grow up. I think since I'm not the father, I don't have to take on the responsibilities of one, but she obviously disagrees. My wife wants me to report it to my insurance as a hit and run. She said that way no one has to pay for it. I argued that I'll have to pay for it in the long run because they'll jack up my rates. I'm not ignoring the kids and I still talk to them daily. I just don't do or make any parental decisions like I stated above. Also, the other day, our son asked me if he should play basketball or football, and I told him to go ask his mother. I don't think OP is the a-hole, but I think their reaction was wrong. When you get married to someone and you know that they're bringing kids in the relationship, you're kind of just going to assume a fatherly role, whether you like it or not, and you can't just like run away from it. Two big things here. Number one, the wife is 100% in the wrong. She almost seems to be like covering the fact that a 16-year-old daughter might have drank and drove. Poor parenting. Like, just because the daughter's having a hard time doesn't mean she can't take accountability for actions that are very wrong, very dangerous. I think this is also a problem in general. Like, hey, before you get married, have this conversation. If your kid does something and I want to punish them, what are we going to do about it? Because I think that should be something you decide before you get married. If anything, everyone sucks here, not because of the actions in here, but everyone sucks here because they didn't figure this out beforehand. And even maybe have that conversation with the kids. Everyone sucks here. Yeah, wife is wrong. She needs to stop taking the daughter's side and make her take responsibility. But his reaction really makes it worse, especially on the other kids that had nothing to do with it. That's a very good point, Jules. It's honestly actually worse that he's taking it out on the other kids that aren't a part of it. Really, he only has a problem with one of the kids. Insurance fraud is a crime. Don't do it. Also, you had better report the theft of your car and the accident to the police. She obviously hit something with it, and there's a good chance a camera somewhere recorded your car and it can be tracked back to you. Then I think you should separate. Her daughter committed at least 3 serious crimes: auto theft, drunk driving, and a hit and run. She has put you at risk of being sued and possibly arrested. You can't live in a home where the behavior isn't dealt with. Wife and daughter are a-holes for obvious reasons. You are an a-hole for not taking this seriously enough. You're playing petty games about basketball and rides to school when there's a criminal in the house and her mother is enabling it. What else is she up to that you don't know about? Ooh, that is a fantastic point. I don't know if OP's an a-hole, but OP's stupid for getting themselves in this situation. If OP goes to their wife and is like, I want to say in this, I want to be able to punch this kid properly by reporting all these things, and the mom says no, cut your losses and separate. I find it funny when Reddit tells people to break up or divorce, like it will solve everything. I don't know if they should break up or divorce, but he definitely needs to like put his foot down and be like, I get a say in this. Yes, I think it is extreme for somebody on an internet forum to be like, get a divorce. But also, maybe they shouldn't have been together from the first place. If just like a normal single person with no kids, no previous marriages, gets married to somebody who's similar, like you're not bringing in all those different variables. Versus like if it's this, where one person is bringing in like 3 kids from possibly 3 different dads, you need to talk about what that's gonna look like before you actually dive right into it. Am I the a-hole for calling my 8-year-old selfish? I have 3 kids, 7, 8, 10, and my sister has 2, 7 and 10. We went on a vacation together recently and we took the kids to a zoo that also had a few rides. The kids went on the rides while my sister and I got coffee nearby. We told them to meet us at a certain table when they were done. My 8-year-old came to me much earlier than her siblings / cousins. I asked if the ride scared her and she said no, she just skipped the lines. I asked for clarification. She said when there was extra space on the ride, they asked for single riders to come up to the front, so she did that for all 5 rides. I told her the point of her going with her siblings and cousins is to have fun with them, and that it was selfish for her to leave them so she could cut the line. I told her I understand why she doesn't have many friends. Oh my god. I told her I understand why she doesn't have many friends if this is how she acts all the time, and she started to cry and ran to my sister. That is insane, dude. That's the craziest part, bro. Not that you called your 8-year-old selfish, that you were like, you know, this is probably why you don't have friends. My sister ended up buying her ice cream and said that I was too harsh. She told my husband and he's mad at me for speaking to her like that. Yeah, you are definitely the a-hole. I don't think there's any argument there. I don't think it's selfish. I think it is weird not to just like wait with your cousins, but like low-key it's a little smart. She's like, bro, I don't care if I go with you guys. It's just like kid brain. They're like, oh, I can ride these faster if I just not ride with them. If the 8-year-old had done something that was like truly selfish and needed a call out, I could maybe understand that. But this is not how you talk to an 8-year-old. This right here. Also, how about that's awesome. You feel so confident in choosing to go solo. I think that's great. Am I the a-hole for not babysitting my wife after she got super drunk? My wife and I were on vacation in a foreign city. We met up with some friends, went out to dinner, and then hit the bars. And I got fairly tipsy / borderline drunk. Out of nowhere, my wife decides it's time to go all out and informs me that it's her turn to get drunk. Problem was, I'm already tipsy / drunk, LMAO. Then she just disappears. We send a female from the group into the bathroom to find her. That was the assumption. But no, my wife vanished to the bar and proceeded to down 12 shots of Fireball whiskey and some flavored vodka. Huh? That is so much alcohol. In my prime in college, I could maybe handle like 7, and that would be a rough night. 12 shots? They have to be exaggerating. Yeah, you can imagine how that went down. She pukes all over the place, pukes again on the street, and drunk me is kind of all on my lonesome as our friends are all trash too. Somehow I managed to navigate both of us back to the hotel on foot. I get her into the shower to clean off the puke. She says she's okay, and I flop onto the bed, pass the fuck out immediately. All seems well until 2 a.m. rolls around and the hotel phone starts blaring. As I'm groggily trying to figure out what's happening, I get out of bed and I realize my feet are literally wading in water on the carpet, 2 inches deep. She passed out in the shower, not the bathtub, shower only, and her ass perfectly blocked the drain in the floor. It ended up flooding our entire hotel room and leaking out in the hallway and into someone else's room, presumably called the hotel staff. We managed to get ourselves dressed, hotel staff comes up to talk, and we're shuffled to a new room without a watery carpet. No real consequences and we're not charged any fees. But here's the crux of the issue. My wife turns around and blames me for the entire circus. Apparently, I should have been more attentive and made sure she got out of the shower. She said she was okay, sounded coherent at this point, and I was drunk AF too. I guess I would get it if she didn't spring this on me after it was too late for me not to drink. Maverick just says RIP to her liver. Yeah, dude, I'm surprised she didn't get alcohol poisoning. At the end of the day, this is 100% and everyone sucks here. The wife sucks because she didn't let him know earlier that she wanted to just completely obliterate herself. Unless the husband is over exaggerating and she didn't actually take 12 shots and she wasn't as drunk as they're explaining, which sounds like she was as drunk as they're explaining. I think the husband's the a-hole. The water on the floor is probably like the least worst situation of what could happen. If everything they're saying is true, they're so drunk that you cannot leave them alone. You cannot expect them to be able to handle themselves. They're honestly lucky that the worst that happened was they flooded their hotel room. This could have easily ended up in OP waking up and their wife had suffocated on their own puke. So I think OP's the a-hole because yes, they were drunk, but they should have identified this as a situation of like, I need to make sure my wife is okay. You can stay awake to just make sure this person doesn't choke on their own vomit. Is it all OP's fault? No, but I still think OP's an a-hole for it. Am I the a-hole for free bleeding at my mother-in-law's house? To start, free bleeding is essentially not wearing any form of protection on your period, so you are bleeding freely. Clues in the name. I'm currently staying at my mother-in-law's house with my husband for a family get-together. 6 birthdays in 1 week. I have horrifically painful periods and bad mobility. I cannot use cups, and I am allergic to all brands of pad I've used. Rashes on all genitalia, which does not feel good. I do have cloth pads, but I only brought a couple small ones for my trip, as I wasn't due one until days after we got home. But we're on day 4 of our trip, and I started my period on our first night. I tried to use some of those disposable pads I picked up, but I broke out in a rash, and I have blisters everywhere they should not be. So 2 days ago, I decided to say, what the hell, and free bleed like I do at home. I bring my own towels to my mother-in-law's, so I have been sitting and sleeping on those. I have bled through twice, but cleaned the mess and left no stain. My mother-in-law is pissed off to say the least. She's disgusted by my lack of decorum and carrying my bloody towel around everywhere. She also hates that I'm washing them in her machines and is now saying we need to pay to have them professionally cleaned, which we will do. I mean, what color are these towels? Like the fact that the mother-in-law knows means you're not doing a good job. If you're gonna do this, that's fine. It doesn't sound like they bled on anything. It doesn't sound like the mother knows, other than the fact that you're just doing a horrible job at hiding it. Get a red towel and just be a little bit more discreet about it. Everything came to a head last night when she lost it on me for behaving like an animal. She wants me to leave, but my husband to stay, which isn't possible. One car, I can't drive that far, especially not with the amount of pain I'm in. My husband is on damage control, but I just feel so shitty. I understand that it's not super sanitary, but my health matters more than some bed sheets. I'll replace them if she wants. I'm close to just gritting my teeth through the pain and putting a pad on, but I really don't want to. I don't want open sores down there when we're driving home. Am I the a-hole? I feel like I'm choosing the lesser of two evils, but now I don't know. I do have cloth pads, but I only brought a couple small ones. What is a cloth pad? And is that something that you could just like run to Target for? That's the key to my decision. Cloth pads. Let me do this Google search real quick. Yeah, reusable 5-piece bundle for heavy flows. Wait, if they're reusable, what's the problem? Maybe I'm reading this wrong. I do have cloth pads, but I only brought a couple small ones for my trip as I wasn't due. They're reusable pads for her to be discreet with. Jules, I don't understand. Like, I don't understand like why, if they're reusable cloth pads, why aren't you just reusing them? Yeah, she should be using those and not carrying around a towel all over the house in front of her mother-in-law. I want to clarify. I want to be sympathetic because like girls don't get to choose to bleed. They just do. It happens. And I normally would be like, be sympathetic to it, be accommodating to it, but this just sounds like OP has solutions, but they're choosing the absolute worst one. In terms of hygiene, it is disgusting, and the mother-in-law has a right to be like, yo bro, that's gross. Either hide it better or, I don't know, use the reusable cloth pads. I still don't understand this. Like, I don't understand why they can't use the cloth pads. You're the a-hole. This is completely unsanitary and disgusting to do in someone else's home. You do have options you know can work, including period panties. You should have come prepared. Period suppression is also an option with contraceptives for the future. Free bleeding in someone else's home is never an option. The better option would have been to leave, and if your husband needed to leave in order to facilitate that, that's fine. One must have quite a sense of entitlement to spill their biohazard. That is crazy. That is so wild. To spill their biohazard all over someone else's home and property, absolutely wild. Am I the a-hole for choosing my wife over my sister's wedding? For background, my wife, Alex, 29 female, and I, 30 female, have been together for 4 years total, and we've been married for 2 years. Alex has an anxiety disorder and depression. In addition, she is also a recovering alcoholic and has been sober for 5 years. Even with everything, she's an amazing person, and I love her with all my heart. Alex has been really stressed this last month as she had to take on the workload of a coworker who went on maternity leave. She had been in office 8+ hours every day, and even when she was home, she often used that time to catch up on work. The overworking caught up to Alex mentally, and she had a nervous breakdown so bad that we considered hospitalization. But even after we got through the worst of it, Alex was still not doing great. This wasn't a problem until Alex told me that she probably wasn't going to be up to Jamie, my sister's wedding, over the weekend. In all, my sister's wedding would have been a 3-day trip for us, as I was supposed to be the one. Oh my God, supposed to be one of the maids of honor. She planned to have 2. So we would have spent an additional day in her city to help with the preparations the day before. That, along with the fact that there would be an open bar at the reception of her wedding, meant that it really wouldn't have been a great situation for Alex to be in. So I was supportive of Alex making the decision to not attend. However, after thinking about it, I came to the conclusion on my own that I didn't feel comfortable going to Jamie's wedding if it meant leaving Alex at home alone, knowing what she was going through. To be clear, Alex was not doing well. I called Jamie on Thursday, 2 days before, to tell her what was going on, apologize, and explain Alex and I were not going to be able to attend her wedding this weekend. She instantly started crying and yelling at me, saying that you're supposed to show up for family, and accused Alex of manipulating me and told me that Alex should be able to take care of herself. She said that I'm being unbelievably selfish and ended the call telling me not to expect her to forgive me anytime soon. I haven't spoken with my sister in 5 days now, and her wedding already passed. I'm glad I didn't go to her wedding because I felt better knowing that I chose to support Alex. She's doing a lot better now. While I stand by my decision to be there for Alex when she needed me over Jamie, I can't help but wonder if I did the right thing here. It's one thing to miss a wedding that is just like, you know, a friend of a friend's wedding. It's another thing to miss your sister's wedding. And then on top of that, it's another thing to miss a wedding that you're a maid of honor for. That is insane. This right here too accused Alex of manipulating me might kind of hint to potentially OP's wife not being very good and that the family doesn't like that. Oh, you're worried about Alex being alone? Have you heard of friends before? Based on the one comment I saw from OOP, Alex didn't ask OOP to skip their wedding. It's convenient that as soon as the wedding is over, Alex is feeling better again. I have a feeling there is much more backstory to this. There's more to the story here. What I find strange is that Alex got too sick to function right before the wedding and seems to be doing better right after the wedding. I do usually agree that you choose your family sometimes, but you were the maid of honor here. I can't judge without more info, but this sounds like potentially you're the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother that it isn't my wife's job to clean his car? Last week, my wife, Emily, female 36, and I, male 38, and our son, Ian, male 4, were invited by my parents, female 65, and male 68, to have dinner at their house. My younger brother, Josh, male 34, was also invited. Since Josh and I live in the same city, about a 45-minute drive from our parents' house, he offered to drive me and my family. Josh has been really excited to show us his new car, a Kia K5. Ugh, a Kia? That might influence my decision. And thought this would be an excellent opportunity. The day before we were supposed to go, both Emily and Ian got a little bit of food poisoning, so they were feeling a bit ill. Emily hinted that she might want to stay home with Ian, but I convinced her to come along as I thought my parents would be upset if they didn't come. The morning of the trip, yesterday, Josh arrived on schedule and we were off. Josh is a slow driver and stopped a few times at Emily's request, so Ian could get some fresh air and use the restroom. This turned our 45-minute drive into a 70-minute one. I was getting a little frustrated with Emily as I had reminded her to make sure Ian used the restroom before we left. She forgot. And I had work-related tasks on my laptop to attend to once we arrived at my parents' house. Huh. I don't like this. Hey, it's your responsibility and yours alone to make sure our son does something. Okay. As we pulled up to our parents' house, Ian began to feel even more nauseous. While Emily and I were unloading the trunk, he vomited inside the car. Josh took him out of his child seat, and as he carried him towards my parents' house, Ian vomited on Josh again. Emily went inside with them to take care of Ian, and I brought the rest of our belongings into the house. My mom was concerned about Ian and asked me about him. When I mentioned how both he and Emily were not feeling well, she became upset with me and told me that they should have stayed home and recovered. About 30 minutes later, I was on the porch working on my laptop. Josh came out of the house with cleaning supplies and said he was going to clean his car. He seemed a bit annoyed, so I told him that the kids can be messy sometimes and that they couldn't be held accountable for situations like this. He said that he of course didn't blame Ian, but that he would appreciate some help cleaning up. I responded that Emily couldn't be expected to clean as she was ill. He said he didn't plan on asking her as she was ill and that I should be the one helping him. I explained that I was busy with work and couldn't assist. He appeared frustrated and started walking away. To ease the tension, I made a joke suggesting that he was acting like his car was some fancy European model and not just a Kia. He didn't say anything, just shook his head and put on his AirPods. Later, I told Emily about this interaction and how Josh was acting strange. She said that she thought I was being overly harsh. My intention wasn't to be rude, but I felt that Josh was being too pushy and I the a-hole. Bro, it's your kid. Your kid make the mess, you clean up the mess. I told him that kids can be messy sometimes and that they can't be held accountable for situations like this. That's true, but who does that fall on? The parents? As much as I'll laugh about the Kia thing, I'm not a big fan of Kias, but it seemed like the brother was really excited about the car, and for you to not only have your family member make the car disgusting, not help clean that up when honestly it is your responsibility to clean that up, and then to make a joke that his car actually wasn't fancy, like that's just like salt in the wound. Everything about how OP wrote this is rubbing me the wrong way, even how he like talked about his wife, even suggesting that like it was Emily's responsibility to help him clean in the first place. Nope. I think it's total sexist situation a little bit here where it's like, oh, it's the wife's responsibility. Jules, I think you're spot on. I think OP is like kind of misogynistic, probably like egomaniac, narcissist. You're the a-hole for not cleaning up the mess. You're the a-hole for whining that the drive was taking longer with 2 sick people in the car. And you're the biggest a-hole for making your sick wife and sick child go to dinner at your parents' house so you guys could share the stomach virus. Now call your brother and apologize. Then get him a gift certificate to have his car professionally cleaned after you put your sick child in it needlessly. Apologize to your parents for bringing sick people over. Apologize to your wife for forcing her to leave her house sick. And apologize to your son for the same reason. Damn. Wandering aimlessly 9 laid their entire dick on the table, and I respect it. Am I the a-hole for telling my wife off after getting our daughter to cut her hair off even after being told not to? My wife is currently battling cancer, and one of the things she's told me she's struggling with most was losing her hair. She's been given a near 100% chance of survival since we caught it early, but the chemotherapy has destroyed her hair anyways, and she had to shave off off what was left of it a few weeks ago. Not long after that, she suggested we attempt to get our 17-year-old daughter, Anna, to do so as well. Anna has very long hair that she puts a lot of care into, so I felt like it was appropriate to ask her in private if she wanted to / would be willing to do such a thing. She told me that she didn't want to cut her hair, and I figured that was the end of it. However, yesterday they came home from a girls' shopping trip, something they do very often, and Anna had a buzzed haircut. That struck me as odd after what she'd said, so after dinner I talked to her and she told me that my wife had said she would never forgive Anna if she didn't show her support by buzzing her head. That is evil. That's so manipulative. Oh my God. I asked her if she was happy about it and she said that she wasn't. When I went to bed, I brought it up with my wife and she said it was Anna's choice too or not, and I just told her how I'd see the situation. I told her off saying she needed to respect Anna's personal choices and that a 17-year-old being against shaving her head wasn't exactly out of the ordinary. However, my wife simply said it was to show support for her. I've been sleeping on the couch since. I love my wife and understand that she's going through something traumatic. However, her attitude comes off as very manipulative to me, and that's not a behavior I feel I can personally accept. I'm not sure if I can move past this to continue the relationship. That's like abusive. That's like emotionally abusive to be like, do this or I won't like you anymore. Especially coming from a parental figure. That is so absolutely terrible. Get rid of your wife or get her in therapy. That is never okay. Like, what does that actually do for her? Oh, I lost my hair. It's so hard for me. Oh, I'm gonna make my daughter cut her hair too. That'll make me feel better. What does that say about the wife? Not the a-hole. Your wife is a flaming a-hole. I'm sorry that she has cancer, but what she did to your daughter was very abusive. If she is unable to deal mentally with her disease and treatment, then she needs professional help, not to manipulate and coerce your daughter into making a choice that she didn't want to make. Make no mistake, she abused your daughter. There it is. Get rid of the whole wife. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that the name she chose for her son was not our grandpa's actual name, but the nickname he hated? My sister wanted to honor our late grandpa in her son's name and chose to call her son Bobby, which is what pretty much everyone called our grandpa. She mentioned the name being so special because it was his beloved great grandpa's name and that it would be so special for our grandpa to have his name lived on. So here's the thing. Bobby was my grandpa's nickname and he hated it. His actual name was Cyrus, which was grandpa's mom's maiden name. Grandpa was named that by her, and after she died and his dad remarried, they started calling him Bobby because his stepmother's dad was Robert. Grandpa always hated Bobby, but after years of people refusing to listen, he gave in. He had a handful of friends who called him Cyrus/Cy, but that was it. I told my sister this and she was upset and asked why he hated Bobby. Bobby is so cute. I asked her how she'd feel to be named after her late parent and for his surviving parent and step-parent to then rename you after the step-parent side unofficially, but to the point where it sticks more than your actual name. She was glad at first, but after a few weeks she snapped and told me she doesn't like Cyrus and I ruined the name Bobby for her. Edit, her baby was not born and is still not born, so I wanted her to know before he was here. Oh, well, I think there's an argument for them to be the a-hole if the baby was already born, but I don't think there's an argument if the baby isn't born yet. Definitely is not the a-hole, plus Cyrus is so cute, and if she wanted to honor him, why name her son something that doesn't actually honor her grandpa? If the sister's whole point was to honor the grandpa, wouldn't she want to know this so that she wasn't naming the kid after a name that he didn't like? I think Cyrus is a cute name. Like, it's not like a generic one. Cyrus is cool. Bobby is lame. The kid got a cooler name and they're actually honoring the grandpa. Yeah, not the a-hole. I'm gonna go with that. It makes it sound like she's honoring his stepmother's dad, not their grandpa. Ooh, that's a really good point. It seems weird to me that the grandpa didn't like tell them. Like, it's one thing if like the family that you might not like is calling you this against your will, but then like when you raise your own family and can control that and they're like, hey, call me Cyrus, not Bobby, you know? Or like with the grandma, like why didn't he tell the grandma, oh, I prefer Cyrus over Bobby because that's like my real name? Am I the a-hole for leaving my boyfriend at a bar because of a joke he made? I, 22 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 23 male, for about 9 months now. I am Asian and grew up in my home country pretty much all my life until I was 19 and went abroad to a European country to study. My boyfriend is from this country I'm currently studying in. He has shown interest in my background a bit and I honestly like talking to him about it. I never questioned anything about our relationship until last night when we went to a bar with some of his friends. One of his friends asked if my boyfriend was trying to learn my native language and we told him no. My boyfriend went on to joke about how my language sounded too rough and weird for him to even try. I gave him a confused look and he said that he would have if it were more like Japanese or Korean. I was completely silent after that and made up some excuse and left. It wasn't subtle at all, but I didn't care at the time and felt like crying. He's been blowing up my phone with messages and calls, and all the messages say is that I overreacted and embarrassed him in public. I have haven't replied or picked up any of his calls. I am in no way saying that he must learn my native language, but the way he explained it hurt me. Now I'm wondering if I really did overreact and I'm looking too deep into it, so am I the a-hole? No, I don't think so. Here's the thing, I don't think she reacted correctly. You can't expect somebody who experienced like borderline racism, not borderline, racism from somebody that they're dating to have a rational reaction to what just happened. Could she have sat there and like communicated why she was upset? Of course, but that should come after. If he had blown up her phone being like, I'm so sorry I said that was over the line. Maybe she's an a-hole if she's like, I don't want to talk it out with my boyfriend. But because of how this person doesn't even realize like how messed up, how racist it is to say something like that and to like turn it on them is just big no, big red flag. He's 100% the a-hole. He changes opinions to impress his friends. Experience many times it sucks. Well, I wonder if this is actually how he felt, or like if he doesn't realize like how messed up it is to like make fun of someone's home language. I wish she would have explained like what is her, she just says that she's Asian. I'm trying to think, like, I'm gonna be real honest, like I'm half Japanese, like I've heard Japanese, Korean, Chinese, like not gonna lie, they all sound a little similar to me. Like I can't really tell the difference. Like the fact that he's like, oh, it sounds too rough. It's like, what? Like what a weird bone to pick. Not like, oh, it's too complicated or I'm not smart enough. Like, oh, it sounds too rough. I don't think she should be with that guy, especially if he can't recognize that what he did was like messed up. Not the a-hole. He called your language rough and weird. How is that a joke? A lot of languages can be considered weird and rough. Yes, not disagreeing with you there, but you don't say that at your significant other's expense is a joke. Calling out her language like that was rude. No a-holes here. Oh, I am from the Balkans and I can count how many times people told me my language sounds rough. Like I am fighting all the time. I talk to my mom and my boyfriend asked me, why did you fight? What happened? Or, oh no, did something bad happen? I am like, we didn't fight. I literally told her I love her, LOL, but that's just how it sounds to people. I see it as just normal. I'm gonna stick with not the a-hole. I think no a-holes here doesn't really fit. Would I be the a-hole for uninviting anyone who attended a winery day from my bridal shower and possibly wedding? My fiance, 32 male, and I, 30 female, are getting married in a few months. We have been dating for 2 years. When we first started dating, his sister, 25 female, and I got along great. But when I asked her to be a bridesmaid, she turned me down. I assume because she would not be the center of attention. Everything spiraled from there, and now we are pretty much non-contact with her. She's a brat, truth be told, and it created a ton of unnecessary drama. Some highlights were showing up with no gift to our engagement party and not saying a word to us. She ran into my brother in public and was extremely rude to him. Her and her boyfriend denied this happened and called my brother a liar. Now she is no longer invited to the wedding. This summer, we made an effort to see other members of his family, so we've been spending our weekends meeting up for dinner with different members of his family. Naturally, the issues with his sister come up. I chose not to hold back and told them exactly what she did. I thought they should know how toxic she is and decide for themselves if they want her in their lives. Yesterday, I saw on Instagram, one of my fiance's cousins posted a bunch of pictures from a girl's wine day. All his female aunts and cousins were there, and of course his sister was there. I was so hurt that they wouldn't even invite me. It felt like the pictures were posted specifically to make me feel bad and show that they took her side. I'm supposed to be marrying into this family in a few months and they completely left me out. I reached out to one of his aunts I thought I was close to and asked if my fiance's sister planned this. She said no, it was another aunt. When I asked why I wasn't invited, she said it was because of the drama between me and fiance's sister. They didn't want the day to be uncomfortable, so chose to keep it to just family, which hurt to hear that they don't consider me family. I asked her if that meant that they all took her side. She claimed no one was taking sides, and if I chose to take it that way, it was up to me. I ended the phone call very upset. My bridal shower is in a few weeks, and I don't want any of them there. It's for friends and family, and obviously they don't consider me family, so they don't need to be there. I want no drama at my shower and only people who are happy for me and love me there. I'm debating if I want them at the wedding, but I will deal with that later. I have a mass email written up, ready to send, disinviting them from my shower. My fiance is fine with it. He can't stand his sister and is angry with his family. My maid of honor is trying to talk me out of sending it, saying it will ruin my relationship with his family and my wedding and upset my mother-in-law, but I think it's already ruined. I'm kind of leaning towards you're the a-hole here. Yes, you're supposed to be joining the family, but you're basically telling them you want them to pick her over their like actual family. I'm just picking up a really big sense of entitlement in here. It's basically he said, she said, and she's expecting them to take her side, trying to create this dissonance or this break between family members when you're just joining the family seems like an a-hole move to me. It felt like all the pictures were posted specifically to make me feel bad and show that they took her side. Probably not. Like they probably just were like, oh, hey, let me show my fun time. It would be an a-hole move for you to uninvite everybody, cause unnecessary drama. Like I think you just got to be the big person here. Clearly you don't like the fiance's sister, but like it seems like you're trying to break up the family. Yeah, she's a brat, but just like get over it. You know, what did she do? Hold on, let me read this. Some highlights were showing up with no gift to our engagement party. I'm gonna chalk that up to stupidity, or maybe she's broke. She ran into my brother in public and was extremely rude to him. Her and her boyfriend denied this happening and called my brother a liar. Sure, that's like not great, but it's not the end of the world. Like maybe the family doesn't like this girl and this sister is the only one to step up to it. She seems to think she's better than the sister in every way possible and is trying to justify it with poor excuses. Yeah, and she's also putting like all the people she wants to uninvite to the wedding, she's putting them in a tough situation. I chose not to hold back and told them exactly what she did. I thought they should know how toxic she is. It's one thing if it's like she's doing drugs and stealing money and cheating on all of her significant others, but it literally just sounds like she lied one time and was rude and didn't bring a gift. You're the a-hole if drama is constantly following you around, and I bet it is. You are the source of it. You cannot have a relationship with your future sister-in-law. You cannot, however, demand that everyone do the same. Am I the a-hole for refusing to switch seats with a kid on an 8-hour flight? This was my second 8-hour flight on my way home from Africa via Dubai. I had booked an aisle seat so I could get up without bothering others and a special meal due to health requirements. I boarded the plane, found my seat, and settled in. A family gets on with 3 kids. They don't speak much English and asks if I could switch seats with one of their kids so they can be together. The father of the family wasn't sat anywhere near the mother and kids, so it looked to me like they had left their seats to random assignment. I initially said yes, thinking it was just a move across the aisle, but then realized they wanted me to switch to sit in a middle seat, and I said no. Another passenger then gets up and says he has a seat in the back that I can move to, and I said no. I said that I had booked my seat and ordered a dietary meal, and there was no way I was going to move to a middle seat. He then starts loudly criticizing me and saying he hopes I understand that I'm splitting a family up. You're destroying this family by not sitting somewhere else on an airplane. This eventually attracts attention from the crew because it's holding up boarding. They got a passenger on the other end of the row to switch and sit somewhere else so their kids could sit together. The other passenger from before then starts loudly saying to his kids and family, do you understand what happened? She thought her seat was too special, so she wouldn't let you sit together. I told the guy to mind his own business, and he responded that he wasn't talking to me. I was exhausted and sleep deprived by this point and told him to stop talking about me. I didn't think I was in the wrong here. I organized myself beforehand and booked my seat. Not the a-hole at all. I don't think it's that big of a deal if kids sit by themselves on an airplane. Like, if anything, it's probably a good thing, because if 3 kids are right next to each other without their parents close by, those kids are gonna be annoying. Normalize splitting up kids. Normalize not having kids on planes at all. I don't think they did anything wrong. Like, you don't owe anybody anything. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister-in-law that the grudge she's been holding against me over wedding photos is stupid? I, female 20, have an older brother, male 34, Tim. Tim has a wife, Vicky, female 33. For a while now, I've noticed Vicky has been acting weird around me. She avoids interacting with me, avoids eye contact, and doesn't make conversation, and generally seems annoyed with my presence. I wasn't really sure what her problem was. It was starting to get to me, so I gently as possible asked Tim about it. He confirmed Vicky was angry at me over something. He explained that a while ago, my mother posted some old photos from his and Vicky's wedding on Facebook. I don't have a Facebook, so I didn't know. And that she used a filter or photo editor that made my dress look white when it was actually pastel blue. Later, Tim, Vicky, and me were alone, and Tim brought this issue up and said that it needs to be talked about. Vicky started to become visibly upset, and she pretty much repeated what Tim told me and said that the edited photos were disrespectful. Somehow this makes sense that they use Facebook. This is something that only consistent Facebook users would get upset about, because it's so unbelievably stupid how it doesn't make sense. And that I really shouldn't have worn a color that was so close to white anyways. I reminded Vicky that I was 9 years old when they got married and don't even remember much from it. She said I must have had some choice in what to wear. I told her I don't know because I don't remember, and that if it bothers her so much, she should take it up with my mom. And I told her that this grudge she's holding against me is stupid. Vicky looked mortified and said that I didn't have to be so calloused and that I had no reason to be rude to her and dismiss her concerns. Tim is now also mad because I disrespected his wife. No, OP is just pointing out how stupid your wife is. Let me get this straight. So this was 11 years ago. So she's really getting this bitter over 11 years ago over an edited photo that they couldn't control, a 9-year-old's decision. Do people have nothing better to do? Like, genuinely, bro, pick up a hobby, start gardening, get a cat, go to the gym. If you have time to get mad over something a 9-year-old did, be better. Am I the a-hole for not sharing my inheritance with the rest of my family? My family situation is messy. I, 25 female, was engaged 4 years ago to my high school sweetheart. My fiance cheated on me with my sister. Ooh, what a hot start. Oh my god. We had never had a good relationship even as kids, so after I found out, I went scorched earth on both of them. She was so in love with my fiance, but he dumped her within 2 weeks. I like that. We love that. We love the karma. And he was back trying to get me to forgive him. I didn't. My parents were initially on my side, but my sister had a nervous breakdown after she was dumped and was hospitalized, so they changed her tune to "It's over now and you can't be mad forever." No, that is a mad forever type of situation if I've ever heard one before. So I dumped them too and went to grad school on the other side of the country. My grandfather was livid with the whole thing, disowned my sister, and chewed out my parents. Sometimes it felt like he was the only one who was on my side, and I understood. I was able to get my job to let me work remotely and moved back to take care of him when he got sick last fall, and I was devastated when he passed a couple of months ago. I had been in limited contact with my parents since I came back, mostly because I didn't want to be an obstacle to my dad seeing my grandfather, but with the understanding that any discussion of my sister or what happened would end that. It turns out that my grandfather left me virtually everything. He left enough for my father to cover a debt and some token stuff for a couple of other relatives, but he wrote letters for everyone and did a videotape with his attorney explaining what his intentions were. I knew that he had done well for himself, but he lived a pretty simple lifestyle, so I didn't realize how much money and assets he really had. I would give it all up to have my papa back, but even after taxes, it is a set for life money. My parents are pretty mad about it. One of the reasons stated for cutting them out was how disappointed my grandfather was with how they had treated me growing up versus my sister and over the fiance debacle. There were other reasons, but that's what they're fixated on. The will is pretty airtight apparently, so my parents want me to do the right thing and share it equally between me, them, and their sister. Their argument is that I don't need it. I make more than both of them combined, and this would allow them to retire. My sister is not doing great and can't hold a job, so this would ensure she has something for when my parents pass. I don't want to. My grandfather's wishes were crystal clear, and also I kind of don't feel like doing more than the minimum for any of them. They've been telling me that I'm being vindictive because of a mistake years ago. I can't deny there might be a little vindictiveness there. I don't want them to suffer necessarily, but I also don't feel like they deserve my help. That's probably one of the easiest, not the a-holes I've ever seen. I don't think there's anything to argue here. You don't owe the parents anything. You don't owe the sister anything. All that money was left for you. Sister should have been so crappy. Parents shouldn't have sided with the sister. Maybe the parents, but sister, nah. If that sister is willing to do something so terrible to you, let her suffer. She can't hold a job, that's her problem. Am I the a-hole for making my son cook for his sister, even if it means cooking at midnight and waking him up? My daughter is 21, gets off work at 4 a.m. She usually stays up until lunchtime and then sleeps until she goes to work. She works night shift. My son is 17 and still in high school. I'm at work when she is sleeping, but my son was home for the summer and he would wake her up to make him food. He would pester her until she did it so she could go back to sleep. It came to a head a month ago where my daughter lost it and I finally learned about it. And as his punishment, he has to make my daughter food when she asked for it at any time, the same amount she did for him. So it was about 30 times he woke her up, so he has to make her 30 meals. Everyone agreed, though my son wasn't happy and picked it over losing his phone for a month. So my daughter will wake him up to make her food. She still has 15 meals left. He hates it, but it gets the point across. Now school started and he got woken up last night to make her food. So this morning he was tired as all hell. He went to his grandparents and I got in a huge argument with my mom. She thinks I'm an a-hole, but the punishment fits the crime. My son won't talk to me and I'm questioning myself even though my husband is backing up the punishment. This is great parenting. It's literally 14 days now out of 185 school days. He won't fail school. That's extremely dramatic for 2 weeks of being tired. 100% not the a-hole. I think this is great parenting. I think it would have been so much worse if the OP had just taken away the phone for a month. What are you going to learn from that? This is fuck around and find out. The 17-year-old son sounds awful too. Like if you have to wake up somebody else to make you food and you're 17 years old, figure it out, bro. Go get a packet of ramen. Like what kind of 17-year-old can't figure this out? Like what a bummy 17-year-old, bro. Absolutely not the a-hole. If I woke up my sister and told her to make me food, I would have gotten worse things to worry about. Yeah, bro, my sisters would have destroyed me, bro. Am I the a-hole? I told my daughter not to bother applying for college. I am 35 female and I have a 16-year-old daughter. My daughter has a late birthday, early mid-December, so she's going into her senior year of high school. She is a very smart girl and I'm proud of what she's accomplished, but she's also young and naive in a lot of ways. She's easily manipulated. She doesn't pay much attention to her surroundings. She can't stand up for herself. She constantly still calls or texts myself and her father for help with things. As a 16-year-old does. I've also been concerned about her doing dangerous things or submitting to peer pressure from her friends. I've met them and they are not good kids. I've told her to stop talking to them, but she refuses and tries to go behind my back. For these reasons, among others, her father and I have decided that we are not going to let her go off to college as long as she's a minor under our care. This means that she won't be going in fall 2024 because she doesn't turn 18 until that December. I'm not trying to stifle her, but I do want her to be safe. She was recently talking about starting to fill out college applications and I told her not to bother father. I explained that we weren't letting her go until she's old enough to make that decision for herself. She started crying and yelling at me, but I refused to budge. I don't think I'm being unreasonable, and honestly, her reaction is more evidence of immaturity. But apparently, she texted her aunt, who has been calling me an a-hole. Edit 2, people seem to think that I will not allow her to go to a college at all. I am absolutely willing to let her go to college since she's 18, and we will pay for it. Wherever she wants to go, we have the means. Even if what you're saying is like valid, like if your kid is immature and maybe doesn't belong at college, the reason for that is because of you. Literally, part of college is like being away from your parents and figuring it out for yourself. Like, you can't shelter your kid, or honestly, they're gonna get to college and fall apart. And it sounds like you probably shelter the hell out of this kid. This kind of stuff, like she's easily manipulated, she has bad friends, like you kind of just have to learn that on your own. Whether that happens in high school or in college, there were so many people I hung out with in college that I stopped hanging out with because I was like, ooh, you guys are kind of bums. You just have to trust in yourself that you've taught your kids enough to know how to identify stuff like that. Definitely the a-hole here. I'm 25. I called my mom the other day for some help on cooking like potatoes. That's like cool. That's how it's supposed to be. I'm gonna call my mom forever and ask her anything and everything. It's way better to let the kid make the choices and value your opinion, and this is only devaluing your opinion. My mom is an influencer and I hate her for it. My mom, female 45, has become a Facebook influencer. I, female 16, used to not care when she took photos, but it's gotten crazy. Everything she does is now posted or live streamed online. Even if someone says don't photograph or film, she'll find a way to film it. It was annoying at first, but now it's downright frustrating, especially since 3 months ago when she got really into it. I also completely understand the irony of me posting this to Reddit, but I just need someone to hear me out. I declined my 16th birthday party, so she threw a giant party claiming it was for her anniversary, my brother's graduation, and my birthday. There were 150 guests, and between my dad, my brother, and myself, we only covered 30 of them. I don't even know how much of that party she wasn't on her screen for, since she was constantly filming and uploading it, along with a lot of her friends. I really wanted to perform there. I practiced for months, but the idea of her filming and uploading it made me so nervous, and I backed out. I don't like being photographed or filmed. Even as a kid, I didn't. Another time, we went on vacation, and every second was filmed. When we got to a hotel, we weren't allowed in until she recorded the room, even if we just drove for 8 hours and wanted to sleep. She'd take her time in areas she could photograph, even if it was a rock, actual thing. But when me and my dad and brother tried to enjoy a non-aesthetic place, I felt rushed, like she wanted to just go. If we got food, she didn't let us eat or move the food until photos and videos were taken, even having us pose with the food or announce what it is. That one annoyed me. One time we traveled by car and it was over 10 hours since we ate. When we got a chance to eat dinner, she took my food before I got a chance and was recording it, saying things like, ooh, how delicious. And I was so tired and hungry, I just gave up and started tearing up. On the vacation when we went on a boat, but she was live streaming, she was calling out followers, thanking them and saying how much she loved them all. The boat was going to check out Alcatraz, and I thought it was so disrespectful, especially because it was a public area and not everyone wants to be filmed. And also, the history of the island makes me feel like it needs to be respected and not treated as a background video. Okay, this is a stretch. It's like, this one, whatever. Previous ones I can kind of understand. One thing that made me want to write this post was because I was trying to get a drink out of the soda machine. She had me pour out the ice from the cup so she could record me doing it for a shot. I have a certain ice to soda ratio I like, and it was perfect the first time. After that, I didn't get it correct, and it was just a damper on an already not so great day. After that, she held up my soda and was showing it off to the camera, and I had to just wait until she was done. Another thing is I've started to envy her followers. She gives them so much more attention than me. She goes off on my dad about how much closer I am with him than her, but then I ask to watch a movie with her and she declines. Her reasoning is always that she has a live stream later she's hosting, or a video to film, or her followers are live. She's turned me down so many times I stopped even trying to hang out with her, since if I do go around her, she's on her phone. One time I asked her for her opinion and she snapped that she was tired from her job and that she needed time to post. She live streams so much that I sometimes have to skip meals because she can't have the background noise, and she live streams in the middle of the kitchen. She live streams for hours, and if she had any issue with the internet, she makes everyone power down with their devices so she can get better connection. So does she not do this full time? Because now I have a lot less empathy. I already didn't, but that just is like icing on the cake for me. The most attention she's given me recently was recorded. I was in dance class, and the only time she looked at me was when she was recording what I was doing. The instructor praised me to them for my work multiple times and she didn't even notice. I checked and she was watching a live stream. I feel like I'm going crazy when she posts about me. I feel exposed, like I have no control. My dad keeps saying she views the world through a lens, and I have no clue if this is how parents are nowadays, but it's terrible. I'm so sorry for anyone else who has to grow up like this. If this was the mom's job, the kid has a little less to complain about. Not saying that what the kid is complaining about, they don't have merit to it, but if it was their job, I was going to at least defend them a little bit. Also, it's on Facebook, which is just like the worst social media to have a following on, in my opinion. Maybe they have, but in no point in this place was she like, yeah, I sat my mom down and told her how I really feel. But like, also, that's not the 16-year-old's responsibility. I think that needs to happen, but the person who needs to initiate initiate that is the dad. I often wonder how influencers' kids really feel. Here's the thing. This is such a bad example because, like, I wouldn't even consider your mom an influencer. Everyone is quote unquote an influencer now. I'm very curious, like Cody Ko's having a kid. This is a mix of like an annoying mom who was given a platform. But I feel like someone like Cody Ko is going to have a kid and like know how to operate with that kid without that kid like resenting them. What really needs to happen is the kid needs to go to the mom or to the dad and be like, dad, we need to set up family therapy. Like, I literally despise mom, especially if she can't, like, if she doesn't have the balls to go up to the mom and be like, I hate you and your stupid Facebook influencer shit. Am I wrong for not giving my sister my baby? I'm aware how insane this title is, but hear me out. It's me, female 28, my husband Lucas 39, and my younger half sister, dad's side, Leah 24. My husband and I met through work 5 years ago, but didn't date right away. We tied the knot by eloping 2 years ago, as I predicted Leah would cause wedding drama. Leah herself had a failed engagement 1 year ago. We gave her our condolences, but she said if I really cared, I would stop wearing my engagement ring around her, flaunting it. I obviously did not take it off. It's a vintage ring that is an heirloom in Lucas's family. I'm now 5 months pregnant with a baby girl. She wasn't planned, but she's a very welcome surprise. Ever since I announced my pregnancy, it wasn't a fancy thing just over dinner. Leah has been very snippy and standoffish with me. Fine, it didn't really affect me. We're not close. But then I noticed when we'd go to visit my dad or are at family gatherings, she's very touchy with Lucas. She giggles at every joke he makes. Doesn't really bother me. I'm secure in my marriage, and if anything, it makes her look silly. We had a blended family event with both mom and dad's side, and we were discussing baby names when Leah freaked out, screeching at me that she's the one who deserves a husband and a baby, not me. I never wanted marriage or kids. I was focused on getting a career, and stormed off. Later on, my dad and his wife said she shouldn't have shouted, but I was flaunting my marriage and pregnancy when I know she had a failed engagement and had always wanted a baby. I thought that was it, but yesterday the three of them asked to talk, and they came over to ours and they legitimately asked if I would give Leah my baby. Like, they weren't joking. They said it seriously. They said she deserved it more than me, as she wouldn't neglect being a mother for a career. Lucas was stunned, but then promptly got them out of our house. I heard Leah clinging to his arm, telling him she could be a good stay-at-home mom. My mom and her side of the family are furious. Leah's mom said it was malicious of me to tell my mom's family and that I had really upset Leah when we eloped, so I had to make it up to her and that my mom doesn't get a say. Yeah, definitely not wrong, but that's actually so insane. Like, maybe I could understand if like the person had a drug problem or if they're an alcoholic and they were clearly not going to be a good mom, but it's like, hey, you have a great career, you have a great husband, you're clearly going to care about this baby. Like, Leah sounds like a nightmare. Dude, if I had a sister like this, I would go no contact so fast. Same with the dad and his wife, dude. I would not fathom talking to them. Update August 11, 2023. Point 1. Obviously, I'm not actually asking if I should give Leah my baby. I was venting. Sorry if I put it in the wrong sub. Lucas and I are in Sweden right now on vacation and have explored the possibility of moving here. He works for a Swedish company in the US anyway, so it would just be a case of moving, and my work is fluid. I can pick up a job in most countries. I've asked my mom if she would think about coming with us. We would help her set up and make sure she was looked after, and this way she could see her grandbaby whenever rather than being an ocean apart. Leah is fuming, apparently, sulking, and being an all-around awful person. Am I the a-hole for confronting my roommate? So I, 23 female, have a roommate, Gwen, 19 female, and we share an apartment. Gwen works night shifts at CVS from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. She typically gets home around 6:30 a.m. On days I work, I have to get up at 7 a.m. I have a really bad issue of sleeping through alarms, so she gets me up at 7 on days I work so that I don't oversleep. I don't set my alarm anymore because she works Tuesday through Saturday and I work Wednesday through Saturday, so she's always available to get me up at 7 a.m. She knows I don't set an alarm. Anyways, a few days ago, she did not wake me up and I ended up sleeping in until 8 a.m. I was extremely late to work because of this and got in trouble with my boss because of it. I was super pissed about this, so I confronted her about this when I got home. She told me that her shift relief called out, so she had to stay until noon and was not able to get home. I told her she could have at least called me to try to wake me up. She just kept making excuses about how she couldn't make phone calls at work, even though she could have just went to the bathroom. When I tried to explain this to her, she claimed I am ungrateful for her waking me up and said she won't do it anymore. I called her immature for trying to avoid her responsibility, and she called me self-centered. Avoid her responsibility? I went to my room because I was tired of the disrespectful things she was calling me. The next morning, she was gone again when I got up for work and texted me saying she wouldn't be back until late morning because she and her brother went out to eat breakfast after she got off work. This really upset me because it felt like she was throwing it in my face, her lack of responsibility. So I didn't respond. When I got off work and came home, I told her she's being petty and that she could at least be civil since she wants to avoid her responsibility. She is saying responsibilities a lot for something that isn't really her responsibility. She called me a horrible roommate roommate and told me that she can't tolerate living with me anymore. We started arguing. She ended up leaving the apartment crying, and now she won't answer any of my texts or calls. I know I may have said some rude things in the heat of the moment, but I felt really disrespected by her actions and was trying to communicate that. Yeah, definitely the a-hole. That's not even a debate. How do people not feel bad? I would feel so bad if my roommate was like waking me up every morning. Like, you are a grunt. How old are they? 23, female. You can't get up and get yourself to work. Like, that is your problem. That is your responsibility. Nobody else's. And if you're late, like, it just, like, this person just sounds like they can't take any accountability for their actions. Sounds like a mental health crisis, kinda. I saw this earlier this week and I needed a more community reaction to it. Yeah, this isn't the roommate's responsibility. As an adult, you have to teach yourself how to do things yourself and not rely on a barely adult. Facts. You know, if a 19-year-old is more responsible than you, that is definitely saying something. Yeah, responsibility is a crazy word. I don't know why. That was kind of hitting me the wrong way. You think after like 3 times of OP typing responsibility, they would have come to a point where they were like, responsibility. You know, I don't have much responsibility. Like, you know, oh, you're so close, but like, not your roommate. Who else has responsibility? Oh, you. I'm leaving my boyfriend over a prank. I, 18 female, have been with my boyfriend, 20 male, for almost 2 years. I moved in with him last August and things have been pretty rocky. My whole life, I've struggled with my mental health, specifically depression, anxiety, and self-harm. I've been clean for a while though. I also have a history of trauma, but I don't need to get into that. I made sure my boyfriend knew this when we started dating because I wanted him to be able to opt out of the relationship if that was too much for him to deal with. He assured me it wasn't an issue. He never seemed to really get the whole mental health thing though. He would make comments saying stuff like depression is just spicy sad and people with trauma should just get over it. He also thinks that only veterans can get PTSD. I've tried explaining things to him, but he just brushes me off, so I do my best to ignore him. Recently, he started watching a couple prank channels on YouTube and he started pranking me. At first, it was just small things like putting way too much flavor in my water or salt in a bite of my food. I laughed it off. It didn't really bother me. But then he started jumping out and scaring me. That kind of stuff really affects me sometimes because of my PTSD, and I tried to explain that to him. He would apologize, but then do it again the next day. I was getting annoyed and frustrated, but I tried to let it be. Things escalated last week when he put some noisemakers under the toilet seat in the middle of the night. I woke up to go to the bathroom, sat down, boom. It being late at night, me being half awake, and the loud noise all mixed together and gave me a full-blown panic attack. I was on the bathroom floor crying and having flashbacks. After, I don't know how long, I stopped crying and was just staring into space. He came in because I guess he noticed I was gone for a while. When he saw me sitting on the floor, he remembered his little prank and started laughing. I just stared at him for a second, got up, and called him an ass. I slept in the living room the rest of the night. The next day, I sat him down and told him he cannot keep scaring me like this. No more jumping out at me, no more loud noises. He pretty much sighed and rolled his eyes, but said he would stop. Everything was fine for a week. I thought this whole prank thing was finally over. Yesterday, I got home from being out with a friend, actually feeling better for the first time in a while. When I walked in the house, all the lights were off, so I assumed he was still at work, which isn't abnormal because sometimes he works late. I plugged my phone in because it died on my way back home, and when it powered on, I got a notification that he had sent me a text. It just read, "So sorry, I love you." It's going where I thought it was going. I replied saying it's okay, I'll see you when you get home, love you, and I heard his phone ding in the bathroom. That was weird, I thought. I got up to go get his phone, and when I got into the bathroom, I saw him laying in the tub. The bath was full of water, there were empty bottles of pills on the sink, and he was covered in blood. His wrists were cut, and there was just so much blood. Oh my god. Oh my god. My heart just sank. I started having a panic attack. I was hyperventilating, crying, and I was just frozen. After a minute, I ran to the living room to get my phone to call 911, and I hear splashing and then laughter. I turned around to see him standing in the hallway just laughing. He said he got me, and I should have seen the look on my face. I don't even know how to describe the feelings I was experiencing. I was so mad and sad and scared. I didn't even say anything. I just walked out of the house. I just kept walking, and eventually I figured out I needed to call my friend to come get me. At first, I didn't tell her what happened. I just told her I needed her to come get me. It was an emergency. She came and took me to her house where I'm at now. My boyfriend keeps calling me, and he sent me some text saying he was sorry and it was just a joke, and I'm overreacting and I need to come home. I'm not answering. I don't even know what I would say to him. My friend is going over to his house tomorrow to get my things when he's at work. She said I can stay with her however long I need. I don't know what I'm going to do. I just feel numb. I'm speechless. I can't do anything except for shake my head. I can't believe people would think that's funny. That is so terrifying. Huge red flag. He never really seemed to get the whole mental health thing. If he doesn't get mental health, don't be in a relationship with him. That is like the bare minimum. Like if you have mental health issues and you get in a relationship with somebody who doesn't understand them, cut your losses and leave. leave. That's not gonna work. What he did is unacceptable, but like also, hey, maybe you should have used your brain at the start of this. What sane person would do this to their partner? That friend is the real one here. Yeah, that's true. What a great friend. This is just as bad as the Sam and Colby kidnapping and killing best friend prank. Literally, dude, who thinks that's funny? If someone did that to me, I would stop being friends with them. I don't have PTSD and I still would have broken up with him. You are better off, OP. No, I think that's a really good point. I wouldn't even like do what you did where you were just like, I need to go and kind of give them like the cold shoulder. I would on the spot have been like, unacceptable. You're a shitty person. I'm out. Like, we're done. I would have kicked him out. I don't know who's paying the lease on that, but I would be like, you need to leave. Cousin 36 mad I dropped my nephew off at the police station because she never came back to get him and wouldn't return my calls. Am I wrong? I don't have kids, so I don't know. I have studies and a job. I was only supposed to watch him for 5 days. She was supposed to come get him at 10 p.m. the 5th day. She went to the beach. She never responded, but kept posting Snap stories of her the day she was coming home on Snap. I waited another 2 days. She still wouldn't answer me. Her parents live 8 hours away. I do not have a license. I'm dealing with an injury and cannot drive. I was not going to Uber or fly him back as it's a lot of money. My parents couldn't watch him either, so I dropped him with my cousin's contact info / location to the local police station. She is mad at me. I was only supposed to watch him 5 days. I had him for 7. She lied and didn't come back for 4 more days. She got mad and said, why didn't just put him in daycare? I told her it's not my kid and I'm not paying $300 a week for him. Is there like 24/7 daycare? Does that exist? I think this is the key thing. If she's posting Snap stories, it means she's just straight up ignoring you. I think you're just for doing that. Drop them off. Let them know how shitty of a mother this person is. That's so sad. Also, a 36-year-old dropping off a kid on a 24-year-old? That's literally a year younger than me. I think the days too, like 5 days taking care of a kid is a lot. If that's not something you're used to or you're like not prepped for. I ignored my husband so much that he went away without telling me. I, Carla 30, am 6 months pregnant with mine and my husband's Harry 31 first child. During this pregnancy, I've been very exhausted every day and would usually come home from work and go to bed an hour later, then wake up at midnight and reheat what Harry made us for dinner. For context, I've been part of a huge work project that's been going on for months and I've been extremely overworked. On top of this, my husband doesn't have a job at this moment and isn't looking for one unless I remind him. I've been working overtime to get as much money as I can before maternity leave. Our anniversary was on the 6th of August and I asked him if we could have a romantic dinner at home and then snuggled up to watch TV under a warm blanket. I thought it was a wonderful idea since I was too tired to go out and because I knew Harry was doing most, if not all, of the household chores. However, he seemed a little annoyed when he agreed, but I thought nothing of it. The next morning, Harry seemed quite cold towards me and barely looked me in the eyes. Once I got home from work, he wasn't there, but that was normal since he could have been out with friends or at an interview, so I went to sleep. I woke up at 11 that night to see that I was still alone in the house, so I checked my phone. I had about 8 missed calls from Harry and a long text. I'm summarizing, but the text read, I understand how tired you are because of this pregnancy and you having to work extra hours most days, but I'm over being ignored every day and having a 5-minute conversation with you every so often. You expect me to do all the housework and plan our boring anniversary alone. I'm really annoyed, so I'm staying at a friend's tonight. Text me when you see this. Of course, I called him and texted him about being sorry and wanting to talk, but I never got an answer. In the morning, I called my boss about having a day off and spent most of it waiting for Harry and planning my apology. However, when he came home, he silently handed me a rose and a card saying he loves me, but needs a few days away for me to figure out what he's going to say / do. Then those days became a week. This part happened on the 13th, 8 days later. I messaged him every day and he would constantly say he needed one more day or just another night at his friend's to figure this all out, but on the 13th, I decided to go to the friend's home he was staying at to confront him. So I drove over nearly 30 minutes away and banged on the door so hard that I could hear echo from inside. By this point, I'd realized I should have put more effort into our relationship, but he also should have talked to me about this instead of running away. Harry's friend came to the door and was confused but pleased to see me. He seemed a little on edge as I talked to him, and he had to break the silence every so often with comments about my pregnancy and how he couldn't wait to meet the baby. Finally, we stopped talking and I practically demanded to see Harry, saying that I wanted to apologize, but also explain how childish he was being by hiding from me. The thing that I found absolutely hilarious, but actually not at all, was that his friend said that Harry wasn't there and had left for Ireland on the 9th. Ireland! To say I was absolutely beyond furious and extremely confused would be such an understatement. His friend invited me in and sat me down to talk. Turns out, Harry had told his friend of our problems and had come up with the solution of going on a holiday as as a couple to sort everything out and learn to love each other again, in Harry's words. So of course his friend thought this was a lovely idea and helped him book the flight on the evening of the 5th, the first time he stayed at his friend's house. Since it was a last-minute booking, Harry's friend had stayed up with him for quite a while before they found a flight, who was taking a few more passengers due to canceled tickets. His friend then explained how he'd been confused when I arrived at the door, but didn't say anything about the holiday in case it had ended early due to us arguing. Harry's return ticket is booked for the 20th of August. I am just so angry and quite heartbroken, to be completely honest. I messaged him the moment his friend had finished talking, and Harry only responded an hour ago with nothing more than a "had to figure things out, sorry." So now I'm home alone again and trying to figure out what I'm going to say / do when he gets home. A question that keeps repeating is, where did he get the money from without you noticing? So I'll leave my explanation from the comments here. He has a bank account with his money from when he worked as a teenager and a little into his 20s before we met. And a few years ago, we agreed not to touch that money and to add to it every so often. It was a backup savings account. So I'm assuming he took the money from there since it wasn't from the joint account. Small update, it's the 17th now. I've had longer to think. I'm not deciding anything until our talk, but I definitely won't be staying in my home with him after this. I can't trust him not to run away again. I'll talk more about this on my actual update, but I've gained some self-respect and realized he's being an a-hole. I talked to my mom and she's happy for me to move in with her on the 21st, and I'm free to stay for as long as I need to. I think we're gonna break this in chunks. I think OP has to take a little bit of responsibility for the fact that, yeah, she probably was neglecting her husband a lot. It's hard when you're married and like those things go on the back burner, but at the end of the day, the husband feeling this way was probably merited, especially because OP felt bad about it. Like, I don't think Harry's trying to gaslight them or manipulate them in any sort of way, but Harry's also in the wrong because he never confronted OP about it. Like, his confrontation was to leave, call her, and then leave a long text. That's not how you handle a marriage. And OP clearly like felt bad, like when they realized like, oh, I need to apologize, I need to do these things. As for like Harry dipping off to Ireland, that's just like super sketchy. Maybe he has a mistress, because if he booked 2 tickets, I mean, you could look at him like doing all those romantic gestures, like giving her a rose and a card as like from guilt. Also just kind of dramatic for him to be like, I need to think about what I'm gonna do. It's like, bro, that's your wife. Talk to her. Don't be a little bitch about it. Like, update. I want to start this out by saying that a lot of questions have been answered since Harry came home yesterday evening. The main one being that he did use the second ticket before his sister. Okay. For the last few days, Harry's friend has been living with me and helping me through this. One way was that he scheduled a couples and individual counselor for Harry and I. I have also been calling my mom every day since the 13th, and with the one counseling session, Harry's friend and my mom all giving me the same advice. I scheduled an early maternity leave with a slight bonus to each paycheck because of all my overtime and unpaid help. I officially leave work in 4 days. Back to yesterday, Harry's friend went to pick Harry up and sent me photos of who he was with as reassurance that it was his sister, Tiff. When they arrived, I prepared dinner and cleaned the downstairs of our home so that we could have a civilized conversation without hunger or distractions to stop us. Harry looked extremely tired and he seemed to be on the verge of crying the moment I opened the door to them all. I was incredibly patient for the sole reason of being able to go through this discussion in one piece, and so when Harry wouldn't speak, I let Tiff explain why she had gone with him. Tiff is a lovely lady who helped me through the few months before my pregnancy. However, Harry didn't stay close in contact with her and I lost touch when the work project started. Because of this, she had no clue about anything going on until Harry called her and said that he had a spare ticket to Ireland. At first, she was reluctant since she knew that I was pregnant, and so she tried to ask why he would leave and if I was with someone who could care for me. Eventually, Harry snapped and told her the real reason of why he was going away. She joined him to make sure that he knew it was wrong, but also to help him through all the emotions he was feeling. She was the reason that Harry came back to me. If she hadn't gone with him, then Harry admitted he might have moved to central London or small village in the countryside to hide from this. It took everything in me not to cry when she admitted that. I could clearly see the shame in Harry's face. I'm not going to recite everything word for word, so I'll quickly clear up some things. Harry did use the backup savings account like I thought to pay for the tickets. 2, the reason that Harry's friend didn't see who the other ticket was for was because once they had found the tickets, Harry's friend went to bed. 3, Tiff was by Harry's side the entire holiday in Ireland and confirmed without a doubt that this wasn't to find a fling. They spent most of the days in the cheapest hotel room possible in silence before Harry started talking about everything. 4, when we met and married, Harry was a loving, hardworking, job-having man whose only dream was to have a wonderful family and then retire to one of those cute stone villages in the south of England. After an hour, Harry finally spoke up. Tiff and Harry's friend went to the living room, but I never realized how strange it would feel to be with Harry again. He confessed that he stopped loving me a month into my pregnancy. It wasn't to do with the fact that I was sick all the time, dirty as a mole, or wouldn't stop talking about the baby. He just didn't have a reason. Over time, that love didn't come back, and he started to feel incredibly guilty and alone in it all, which is when he got fired from his job. He told me it was because his work performance was belittled by new management, but it was really because he was too trapped in his feelings to think of anything but how much he still didn't love me. Then he never tried to get a job because sitting at home without me, since I had to work more, was much better than sitting at work and possibly getting fired again. He came to love how he had alone time until the moment he felt alone. That was when he refused to work just so he wouldn't have to see me. He wanted to sit and wait and see how long it would be before I came to him. But he doesn't want her to come to him? I don't know, guys. I don't fuck with what Harry's saying. I think his only problem was not communicating this stuff to her earlier. Like, I want to support that. Like, needing to go self-discover. Maybe, like, if he would have communicated to her, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling and this is what I need to do, I think he would not be in the wrong, but he's in the wrong because he just dipped without telling her anything, giving her massive amounts of anxiety, and then coming back and explaining all this to her. He needed to do this, but just like in the opposite order. The trip was to test the waters. It was to see if life would be better without me. He still hasn't decided. In his whole explanation, he kept emphasizing how he didn't love me and said it was like I was a child who needed to hear something 1,000 times just to understand it. Now I'm not defending him at all. That is so disrespectful. Hear what 1,000 times? This is the first time OP's hearing about it. He never apologized. In a rough way, I was shocked, distraught. If you have a word to describe that awful emotion, then I felt it. I cried, I shouted, I cried again, and we sat in silence until I could talk. Then I told him how I could never trust him again. How could I possibly trust him to not walk out on me or the baby? How could I trust him to tell me these things or explain his emotions or see the story from both sides? How could I possibly work myself dry again for an unloving husband? That level of like self-respect. Let me get this fucking notepad out. We're taking notes. And so I made the decision for him. We would go to couples counseling, not to be a better couple, but to just understand each other and learn to communicate properly while together and to other people. No matter what, our lives would always involve each other because of the marriage and baby, and so we need to be able to talk. I've moved into my mom's home and I'm free to stay for as long as I need to. My mom is helping me to make the spare room into a nursery and is being the most amazing, supportive, incredible mom anybody could be. Tiff and I are going to stay in close contact, and Harry's ex-friend said that he can be the appointment driver and is going to be my second emergency contact. Something about this second friend though, maybe I'm toxic for this, but he just seems a little too friendly. As for when I'm in labor, my mom will be with me and Tiff and Harry's ex-friend will be waiting to meet the baby and to stop Harry from even seeing the delivery room. Finally, I made it clear to Harry that we will separate for now, but will divorce / remain separated after the baby is born. I will make sure that he is not mentioned on my emergency contacts. He can't be trusted to show up or even be where he says he is. I've just told my wife, who scares me, I want a divorce. I'm not sure how I let it get this bad. I, 40 male, just told my wife, 43 female, this week that I want a divorce, and I am buzzing with pride and happiness. We've been together 12 years and have 2 small boys, 6 and 2. When we met, all went well. We had jobs in the same industry. We traveled a lot. But very quickly, it became clear that my wife doesn't have any tolerance or even understanding for things that are not done the way she would want them. She idealizes her childhood and is very close to her mother and sister. Admittedly, she grew up in a very close, large family and had a pretty great childhood. But as an adult, this has morphed into a fanaticism with things being done normally. To her, normally means the way she would do them or how her mother did them. Ironically, her mom is super chill and not at all like that. Over the years, this annoyed me, but it became way worse once our children were born. Everything had to be done as she wanted in the house. I couldn't choose how to dress the kids because I didn't pick the right blend of colors. If I put on a diaper, it was redone. If I packed lunch, snacks for the school, she would change the snacks to the ones she wanted. That was still the short end of the wedge. The major issue is I wake up early in the morning, 5:30 a.m. I always have, and I love it. I also do fine at night on little sleep, whereas my wife is a demon if she doesn't get 8 hours. That means that I take care of 99% of kids waking up at night. I do 99% of morning prep, lunchboxes, breakfast, getting dressed for which she chooses the clothes the night before. I always take the kids to school. Another reason I do this early is that if I do it when she's awake, I get criticized for using the wrong spoon to serve the food, or using the wrong milk for oatmeal, or not cleaning up every tiny spill the second it happens, or using the wrong dish rag, etc. Every criticism is exasperated and aggressive. She's right on some of them, but it's a constant barrage. I tune her out. I've even been told going to the bathroom is a problem because they feel me being awake. The issue is that our oldest loves to wake up early to be with me. It's a real cool time for us. We have breakfast, we watch the news, we talk about nerdy shit, but she won't have it. She insists he has to stay in bed until 6:30. I wouldn't mind, but it's torture for the kid. He hates it, he cries and moans and whines and just wants to be up and about. I'm exactly the same. Now that our second is doing the same, she has begun blowing up on me aggressively. The other day, she woke up at 6 and accused me of putting them in front of the TV in the morning, and that our eldest is short because he doesn't sleep enough. They get 1 hour of TV during the holidays, and I come up with the vast majority of outing ideas. He's quite short for his age group, but nothing out of the ordinary. And I finally snapped. As I was getting yelled at again in front of both my kids, I just said enough. I calmly said I wanted a divorce and that she would never speak to me like that again. We are away from home until next week, but I already contacted a lawyer. I am so happy. It will suck in the short term and then be such a relief. I can't wait to have my own place and the kids on my own half the time. Her response: so this happened while we were on holiday at our families in Portugal. Because we're here and she's surrounded by her people, she hasn't blown up yet. She's been distant. We are sleeping in different rooms, but nothing major. When we go home next week and she realizes I'm committed to what I'm doing, oh boy. Prior discussions and counseling. A lot of people are asking about this. I did try and confront her about her behavior. I tried calmly when I was feeling good to explain to her how I felt. She literally told me my issues are more important than yours. I tried angrily when I had enough. It turned into a war of words. I tried sadly when I was at my wit's end. She didn't care. Therapy. We went to therapy a few times together and each wrote a list of things for the other to work on. She wanted me to learn to cook and work out. I now do 70% of the cooking since 2 years, and I play padel 3 to 4 times a week. I asked her to learn to compromise and tidy the house more. None of that ever happened. She always said she had no time to tidy because of the job and 2 kids. Funny how I found the time. I also went to therapy alone and worked a lot on building up my confidence, standing up for myself, and setting boundaries. Dude's being told not to pee, let him be. Yeah, exactly. I think a person gets, like, in a marriage especially, that you're living with every single day, person gets like max 5 pet peeves. The wrong spoon to serve food, using the wrong milk, not cleaning up every tiny spill the second it happens. Dude, I would get so sick of this. I laced my braid with thumbtacks as a self-defense tactic. I, 28 female, was 24 years old at the time and worked in this independent kitchen with no HR department as a cook for several years. There was a brief period of time where a coworker was pulling my hair repeatedly after being asked and told not to. He didn't even stop when my managers told him to fuck off. So I got permission from my sue to take things into my own hands. I braided my hair for work one day and wove thumbtacks into it. I was met with a yelp when he tried to pull my hair again, and he never did it again. This has been on my mind lately because it was a pivotal moment for me in the way I allowed people to treat me. Dude, that's savage. This is a perfect example of fuck around and find out. Normalize this stuff. I hate there's nothing built into the law that, like, dude, if you're asking for it, you're gonna get your ass beat. People are like talking shit and saying racist shit. They should be allowed to get punched. I firmly believe that. They're doing sexist shit. If they're like catcalling a girl, bro, like, let that guy fuck around and find out. People would be such less shitty people in public if there was like a fuck around and find out law. Why he married me. Not safe for work. So maybe a few months after we got married, my husband described to me the day he decided he wanted to marry me. He said he went to his friend's house where everyone was hanging out and announced that I was the one and he was going to marry me. He then went on to describe how everyone was shocked because he had always said he was never getting married. I asked him what made him realize I was the one, and he told me it was the way I took care of him. Flash forward 16 years and he expands on what he meant. It was a BJ. It was the first time I put his franken beans in my mouth at the same time. I remember that day because he enjoys it so much. It's still a move he absolutely... Wait, at the same time? Either homeboy is rocking some really small equipment or this woman is talented. Knowing this has caused a small anxiety spiral. It makes me feel, I don't know how to describe it, but not great. I feel like an idiot for feeling weird about it. He wasn't trying to be mean or manipulate me by telling me, simply expressing his gratitude for my skills while we were discussing the fun we had the night before. This is such a dumb thing to feel weird about. I should feel powerful or desire something better than I do. Of course, he loves me for other reasons beyond my bedroom skills, and he's a wonder husband. I want to be with him forever. And to those asking, I can only do it when he's not fully hard. If he is, I can only get my tongue around the balls, but not in my mouth. I do have a big mouth and a long tongue. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, okay. Now it's not as impressive though. I do think that is weird. Like, I'm sure he loves you for more reasons than that, but that is a weird thing to say. I never wanted to get married, but the way I knew you were the one was because you put my dick and balls in your mouth. Okay. Anything else? Maybe my personality or the way I make you feel. Even my cooking. I'll take my cooking. Like, that's so crazy. That's such a crazy concept. That was like the final lock in the door for him, not the only lock, but it's still a weird lock. We have a great sex life. That's like a foundation, but like the cherry on top should be like, we were on vacation together, watching the sunset, and I looked at you and you looked at me. And then at that moment, I knew that I wanted to live the rest of my life with you. But instead he was like, yeah, you put the Franken beans in your mouth. That's it. Cherry on top. All she wrote. I hope that wasn't in his vows. What if it was in her vows? I promise, for as long as I live, to put your dick and balls in my mouth at the same time. You may now kiss the bride. My partner is out of town and I had another man sleep over. My 26 female partner, 25 male, has been out of town most of the last 3 months for work. We have been dating for almost 2 years. I miss him every day, but for the most part have gotten used to it because I am very independent and also know that this is the best thing for his career. However, last night, I think I really fucked up. I went out with a bunch of other PhD students. We got pretty hammered. Some of them wanted to go to a strip and I had never been, so I said, sure. The strip club was going to close in 30 minutes, so I figured if I didn't like it, it would be over soon anyways. I ended up having a decent enough time, but I feel very guilty for going to a strip club with men. I am also bisexual, so that adds to the guilt. However, my partner and I had discussed strip clubs before and we both believed it is not cheating and is not a hard boundary for either of us. I do think he will be surprised to hear that I went to one. After the strip club, one of my best friends, 25 male in the program, drove me home. We will call him Sam. This is quite typical as he lives near me. My partner has met Sam on multiple occasions before and knows that he drives me home a lot and we are strictly very platonic. We joke around about me and him are like family. When Sam was dropping me off, I offered for him to come in to take a hit of my bong and he said sure. He comes in and takes one of the nastiest hits I've ever seen. He's dying on my couch, so I go to bring him water and some cough spray, but it's clear at this point he's way beyond the point he can drive, and I am also way beyond the point of driving. I have a full guest room, so I move him up in there and we let him pass out for the night. At this point, it's 4 a.m. I went in my room and closed the door, but immediately started freaking out. I mean, this night started out with a strip club and is ending with another man in my house while my partner is away. The whole situation looks so suspicious, and I know I would be very mad if my partner did this to me with a woman. We had never talked about what happens in this situation and what our boundaries are. Luckily, I noticed that one of my friends, 26 female, also in the PhD program that lives a few blocks away, is sending me Instagram reels. So I text her and ask her to come over and stay the night to make it more like a sleepover so that I was more comfortable. She's an angel, so she did, and it made me feel a lot better. Now it's morning and I know when my partner gets home in a few days, I'm going to tell him everything. This is all extremely out of character for me, so I feel like he's going to be shocked. I can't help but feel like I self-sabotaged myself and let my impulsivity hurt my relationship. But like, they didn't do anything wrong. They had talked previously about going to strip clubs, said that was completely okay. The dude genuinely, like, they're just being a responsible friend, and they had a guest room. I think it'd be weird if they like slept in the same bed. They put them in another room. They called another friend who could like corroborate the story. I don't know. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Like, she didn't do anything wrong, but like her fear of being suspicious is suspicious, but not necessarily in like she's cheating type of way, but just like, why is she feeling like this? Edit to add some details. When 26 female came over, she had to wake her BF to drive her because she doesn't have a car. Her boyfriend is my partner's best friend here and also close with Sam. So if you don't think my 26 female friend can vouch for me, then his little best friend here will. I cannot call him right now as he is on a boat in another country. I texted him briefly what happened and told him to call me when he gets a chance / connection. I want to make it clear I made horrible choices about inviting him in for a bong rip. I mean, I don't think that's a horrible choice. That's pretty normal. Like, I think other people have done that. I was inebriated and made a grave error. I wasn't thinking about how the situation was different because he was a man. He is truly just a friend to me, so it didn't occur to me that in this situation was too wild until I realized he needed to crash. Once again, I was drunk and therefore lacked some common sense, you know, like we all do when we are drunk. I don't see OP doing anything wrong. Like, they just made sure their friend didn't like die. I know no matter what I say, some of y'all will think I'm cheating. Not that it matters, but I genuinely didn't. I genuinely have no romantic feelings for Sam whatsoever. He truly is just a homie, like a brother to me. Update, just got off the phone with my boyfriend, told him the full story of what I posted here. Unfortunately for a lot of commenters, he did not break up with me. After 2 years of having a loving, healthy, and communicative relationship, he did not think I cheated, nor did he want to end our relationship over this mistake. Like I said in the post, last night was very out of character for me. I maybe get drunk 2 to 3 times a year, and 95% of the time, I still end up in bed by 1 a.m. That being said, he is not the happiest either. I did cross a boundary of having a man in our house late at night without my partner here. Adding the drugs in the story added salt to the wound for sure. Overall, I do see how having a man over here late at night alone and drugs is a very bad look, and I did not take his feelings into consideration. I was clearly lacking some common sense. I would be like, yeah, like obviously that makes me feel a little jealous, but like I trust you. It's like, oh, that's just your friend, you know? This feels very controlling to me. She was actually right to not let him leave. I agree. As long long as this never happens again, we are going to be good. I may be in the metaphorical doghouse for a bit. He will take some time to be able to heal from this, but overall, we have a lot of love for each other and we'll continue to build an amazing life together. I talked to Sam and said that I personally crossed the boundary with my boyfriend and that he will not be able to crash here again. I also said that we will have to cool it on our late night adventures for a while, but we can still hang in our group of friends so long as I Uber or drive myself home. I suspect my boyfriend is not going to be the biggest fan of his, but I don't think anything too bad will come from it. I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. Like, unless Sam and her have like a past history. If they had a past history, I could totally see where all this is coming from. But if they didn't, then it's like, get over it. Like, you're supposed to trust your partner as long as they're deserving of that trust. My ex-boyfriend posted naked selfies sent by his new girlfriend online. I wonder if she knows. My ex-boyfriend has an account on an adult website, which I know of because I'm really nosy and had trust issues with him. Every month or so, I go on it to make sure he didn't post any pictures of me because he did it behind my back when we were still dating. He then took them off. Now I see that he shared naked selfies taken by his new girlfriend and a really intimate video of her. The thing is, you can see her face and 100% recognize her. I was tempted to tell her since I know her. I already met her IRL. She was just a friend of my ex, LOL. I feel bad because I wonder if she knows, but I don't know if I should just mind my own business. Also, I kind of feel guilty for still spying on him, but I want to make sure he doesn't put any new pics or videos of me. First off, OP should tell them because if he's posted videos of her without her consent, there's probably a high likelihood that he's posting these videos without this new girlfriend's consent. They should tell them, but they got to be careful because it sounds like a super scummy dude. I could totally see a situation where OP could tell the new girlfriend, and when the new girlfriend confronts the boyfriend, she could tell the boyfriend that it was the ex OP that told her, and then he could post her stuff because he doesn't sound like a guy who would have gotten rid of that. I could totally see that happening. But if OP can like send an anonymous tip, I think that's the best bet. Am I the a-hole for demanding respect from my daughter-in-law? And if she can't, then get the F out. I'm a young mother-in-law. I'm only 39. Had my kids pretty young, and I am very lucky that my husband makes a lot of money so I don't have to work. I was a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and once they started to spread their wings instead of going to work, my husband and I decided I would be a homemaker and be active in the community. That's what I've been up to, and I try to make the community a better place. Now my oldest son, 22, married, and I was really excited until I met her. In general, she is a very business-focused person that is very blunt. I actively dislike her, but I try to be polite for my son's sake. A few examples of why I don't like her. Her wedding gift, I handed over saying it was from me and my husband. She responded back with just your husband since I know it wasn't your money that paid for it. Saying I am volunteering, well, that's not a real job since it doesn't make money. It's passive aggressive, and yes, I have talked to my son about it, and even once with her to try to clear the air. We had a get together last night and I made a homemade meal. When I was cooking everything, she came up and made the comment, no wonder I can make a home cooked meal. I don't do anything else with my day. I lost it and told her that she needs to respect me or get the F out of my house. She was shocked and then started to cry when I did kick her out. My son is pissed and we had a huge argument and he called me a huge a-hole. I need an outside opinion. Yeah, no. Are people just stupid? Like, why do people do this? Yo, this is the person that is literally like going to be in your family. Like, the least you can do is just show them some respect. Wow, she's a total a-hole. Just because you don't conform to her business-focused personality doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. What you and your husband have works for the two of you, and you volunteer for the community. Whether it pays or not doesn't take away from your commitment or responsibility to show to others. Sketchy. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for how I, 37 male, reacted to my son, 17 male, coming out to me? I've always known my son had an interest in men. He was slow on the pickup of incognito mode, and from the searches he made, I figured he was at least bi-curious, since he had hit puberty. Well, last year he started bringing a boy around, and it was obvious they were dating, to the point I figured that he knew I knew, and it wasn't a big deal to anybody. Well, apparently I was wrong. After school yesterday, he and his boyfriend came up to me and said there was something really important they needed to tell me. My son said that they were dating and had been for a year. Well, I was surprised that he wasn't aware I knew and was a bit thrown off. My mouth moved faster than my brain, and I said, well, that's My mouth moved faster than my brain, and I said, well, that's pretty effing gay. You know what? That's a pretty funny reaction. I don't know, maybe I have a sick sense of humor. If I had come out to somebody, like, granted, I guess I'm not gay, and so, like, I can't experience the anxiety and, like, the pressure of that. This is a pretty funny answer. Now, I thought this was peak comedy since it is, in fact, gay. However, I understand using the word gay in that way gives it a very negative undertone, hence the mouth faster than brain comment. Now, my son and I are usually pretty edgy with our humor, this being fairly tame for the stuff we joke about. While probably not appropriate for the situation, it wasn't our norm for a conversation between us. However, he and his boyfriend were very, very upset and left. I'm probably the a-hole, but I thought I would check and see if y'all have some advice on what I can say to fix it. Currently won't respond to my texts or calls. I did not expect this to gain so much traction. It's a bit intimidating, lol. I'm reading the comments though. Anyways, here's a small update. He's at his grandparents' house, which I knew. He told them to tell me he'll be at home tomorrow after school to talk. I'll update you all after this conversation. I wouldn't label them the a-hole. I would just be like, hey, yo, bro, like, it was a delicate situation, read the room, you know? You're the a-hole for the wording, I won't lie. As someone who's been out and proud for years, that joke made me laugh my A off, but your son needed support more than humor. In the grand scheme of things, though, I expected much worse from the title. So I think if you just apologize and explain that you meant it in a humorous way and that you fully accept him and his partner, you and your son will be fine. I think for him, maybe in his head, he was like, dude, I was so good at like keeping this from my dad. Like, he had no idea, bro. He had no idea I was gay. In that context, like if he didn't know that you already knew that he was gay, I could see how that maybe wasn't the best response, but I don't think OP's the a-hole. Like, this person even said, it's funny, bro. It's funny. That's hilarious. There are so many worse ways that you could have reacted that would have made you an actual a-hole. That's like a light in the mood type of thing. Maybe not the correct response, but definitely not an a-hole response in my opinion. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he doesn't get to talk about my period? I, 16 female, have made it really awkward to be around my dad, 46 male, and I have probably ruined my relationship with him. I know I'm kind of young to be on Reddit, but I need help. I'm currently on my period and I only use pads because tampons make me uncomfortable. In January, my family got a dog. I'm not really a fan of dogs, but I tolerate her. When I replace a pad, I wrap it up in toilet paper or wrap it in a wrapper of the new pad and seal it closed with the little tape still on the wrapper. This has never been a problem until we got a dog. She likes going into the bathroom and taking my used pads out of the trash and ripping them apart. For the last couple months, I've had to chase her around the house and clean up ripped apart pads, but it's never really bothered the rest of the family as long as I'm the one cleaning them up. Today, the dog got to a pad I had thrown away earlier this morning. I caught her and threw the pad back in the trash and closed the bathroom door so she couldn't get to the trash again. While I was in my bedroom, my dad confronted me about it. He told me that the dog kept getting my pads out of the trash and that it was a problem. I was confused and asked him what he wanted me to do about it, since the only way to dispose of a pad was to throw it away. He told me that he wanted me to grow the F up and start using tampons. Izzy and Joanne, please clarify. Tampons also go in the trash, correct? And I know they also have blood on them. How would it be any different from pads? Like, that's not a good argument. Oh, go to tampons so that the dog can just get the tampons out of the trash now? I was horrified. I told him that I wasn't comfortable with tampons and that he didn't get to talk to me about my period. He asked why not. I was speechless and had no idea what to say and just started crying from the embarrassment and shock and shut my bedroom door. My mom, 47 female, is currently in Florida visiting family, but she was my last resort. I'll copy and paste the exact message I sent her. Tell dad to stay in his own effing lane and leave me alone because he just told me I had to grow up and start using tampons so that the dog would stop eating my pads. He doesn't get to say that to me. It's not fair. I can't help that my uterus sheds every month and I go through almost unbearable pain, and his only remarks is that I have to grow up and use something I'm not comfortable with. I know it sounds a bit bratty, but I was crying my eyes out and had no idea what to say. She's furious with him. She's texted back saying it was inappropriate that he said that to me and that it was a total dick move on his part and it wouldn't happen again. I have no idea what she texted him, but I haven't seen or talked to him since. I think he's probably mad at me for bringing my mom into this, and I don't know how to confront him, and I, the a-hole. I need the education from our female viewers about the tampon thing. Yes, they do, and they get used more frequently as you have to change, or at least I'd have to change every 2 to 3 hours opposed to 5 to 6 hours with my pads. Tampons would be more dangerous for the dog to swallow as they expand with moisture and would create blockages if they ate them. So it would be the same problem. So let me get this straight. Number one, the dad's solution isn't really a solution. It's the same thing, but something that terrifies his own daughter. Second, he's also wrong for trying to tell her how to do something he's never done in his entire life. Third, there is an even simpler one. It's called get a trash can with a lid. Make it big enough so the stupid dog can't knock it over, or get rid of the dog. Sounds like not very many people like it anyways. Absolutely not the a-hole. No way they are the a-hole. Update 1. Thank you all so much for the advice and being so understanding in the comments. I've scrolled through quite a bit and a lot of people are asking how using tampons would fix the situation and why using tampons is a sign of me growing up. Both my mom and twin sister use tampons and flush them. Not what you're supposed to do. We covered this in the last live stream. I'm a dude and I know that, okay? But I guess, yes, in that case, it would solve the problem. The dad is probably gonna have to pay for some expensive plumbing fixes. But sure, if that's how you want your house to roll. I'm the only one in the house that currently uses pads, as my 8-year-old sister obviously doesn't have a period yet. He thinks that flushing tampons down the toilet is normal and that I just need to grow up and start using tampons like my twin. Update 2. Thank you so much for more supportive comments and suggestions. I told my mom that I caved and posted on Reddit and that everyone suggested getting a trash bin with a lid, and she agreed. When she returns from Florida tomorrow, we'll get a bin with a lid. The only reason my dad isn't buying the trash bin today and solving the problem quicker is because my mom doesn't want him to get an ugly one, LMAO. That is such a dad move and a mom like laying down her dick on the table. I love that. Am I the a-hole for leaving my son's wedding early? My son, Alan, has just recently gotten married to Helen, 25, 26 female. I love them both very much. It's relevant to mention that I really dislike parties and large gatherings. I'm not sociable at all, and I really just dislike them. So it was kind of a downer when I heard that Alan and Helen were going to have a wedding with around 150 people. I told Alan ahead of time that I would probably leave early and that me and the rest of our family would take 2 cars so that they could stay if they wanted to. He looked like he didn't mind at all. So at the wedding itself, after the ceremony, I basically told him that I was glad and it looked great, but I was going home. He asked if I was going to at least stay for cake or for food, but the food didn't look at all appetizing to me, so I told him I was going to leave. He said, all right, whatever, just go. And I went back to my table to get my stuff. I told my wife, and she said she didn't feel comfortable driving back alone. The venue was very far from us and the roads were not great. I said in that case she should come with me, and after some hemming and hawing she agreed, so we left. Then 2 days later, Alan's new wife bombarded me and my wife with messages that she was disgusted with us, saying horrible things about us and insulting us as people and as parents. Really just sickening. I told her off and asked why she thought it was okay to talk to her in-laws like that, and she said that us leaving ruined the wedding for Alan and said he was very upset for the rest of the night. She continued to berate us. I politely told her to leave us alone and called Alan, mainly to inform him that his wife had a temper that he should know about. Ooh, I do not like that. When we talked about it, he basically started berating me too, saying things like, you always do this and just leave me alone before hanging up. I feel like I'm justified since I told him ahead of time that I wasn't going to stay. Edit, since so many people care about the details. Yes, there was a mother-son dance planned. Yes, he included me in the count for the food costs. Yes, I love him. No, this does not mean I do not care about him. This might mean that you're really self-centered. Dude, bare minimum of like the happiest day of your son's life that you allegedly care about. Stay for his wedding. Celebrate one of the happiest days of his life. Also, the fact that he dragged the wife into it too. I don't think the daughter-in-law should have done anything. I think they should have heard it from Alan first, but I'm glad somebody stood up for it. I also think it's a little bit Alan's fault too. Like, Alan should have said to his dad, like, if it really made him upset, like, hey, I want you to stay for this. I'm sure it made him even more upset when you drag the wife along with you, especially if there was a mother-son dance planned. Am I the a-hole? Wife saved up for months to buy me an expensive birthday gift and I rejected it. Money's been kind of tight lately. One thing me and my oldest son like to do is play Fortnite together, me on an old Xbox 360 and him on a hand-me-down PS4. Here lately, I've been looking at the new Xboxes and I've said multiple times I would like to buy one, but cannot fathom the price tag of them. My birthday was last week, and today after work, the wife took me over to get some parts for my grandpa's old truck I inherited after we went to eat at a little sit-down restaurant we liked. After she said she wanted to run into the local game store to look at something. She took me in and told the guy she wanted to buy a new Xbox. She then immediately turned to me and said, happy birthday. I told her no, that it is too much, and proceeded to tell her that if she has that much money floating on the side, maybe we could use it on something for the family. Immediately after, she got really hurt and left the store. She's been short with me ever since. I kind of think I am the a-hole because I rejected something my wife worked hard to get and hurt her feelings, but I also feel like I am not because I would like any free money to go towards her and my son. And they labeled this a-hole? I think the delivery was bad. What he should have done is praise her, like, thank you so much for wanting to get me this present, but like, hey, money's been tight. I would much rather be secure in the fact that we have some extra money if needed to support our family rather than get this Xbox. You and my son are more important to me than an Xbox ever will be. Like, that delivery is a lot safer than the way that he delivered it. I ended up accepting it after we went to a second store to get some things for my son, and they had the same one but a bit cheaper, and thanked her for it. I got it all set up last night and let it start its thing on downloading and updating. I woke her up briefly at 5 a.m. to tell her I appreciated it and that I was/am still in shock that she went through all the trouble and expense for my birthday. For those saying about the money we share bank accounts, that she has been saving this money on the side without me noticing, like taking 10 bucks here or there. Also, she flips rummage finds on the side. Normally, we don't buy each other gifts and just give our sons money to buy something or make something for mom and dad. Aw, wholesome ending. I don't think OP's the a-hole. Like, OP has his family, like, in mind. He's willing to make the sacrifice of, like, oh, I could have the brand new console, play with my son, but instead he's like, I'd much rather sacrifice that. Money's tight, trying to be a responsible adult here. Let's not buy this. I have a problem calling him an a-hole for, like, being responsible or being a good dad. Am I the a-hole if I ask my girlfriend to put on some makeup for a party? I love that the top edit is just very clear on the a-hole. Won't make that mistake again. So just typing out that title, it sounds terrible. I love my girlfriend. I love the way she looks. I love her humor, everything. We've been dating since college and are now almost 30. I was invited to a birthday party by some new friends recently, and they asked me if my girlfriend was coming. I always talk about her and hype her up, so they were all excited to meet her. The day of the party comes and she looks amazing. She had some nice jeans on and a cute crop top. I noticed she wasn't wearing any makeup, so I asked her if she was going to put any on. She took this terribly and made it sound like I was making her out as some sort of trophy wife/girlfriend. Keep in mind, I never asked this from her. When we go out on dates, I could care less what she looks like. it's also not like she never wears makeup. Whenever she goes out with the girls, she's all done up. At least for me, if I were being introduced to some of my friends and my girlfriend, I would try to look my absolute best for her. I want to look as good as I can to make her look good as well. We are practically married at this point, and I see her as an extension of me and vice versa. I also understand I have no say / control in what she wants to do / wear. I do think OP is the a-hole. I kind of agree with what he's saying though. Like, I'm not trying to say the girlfriend's disrespectful, but like, I would want that same expectation too. Granted, I'm sure what the girl was wearing was like fine. Maybe she was just like, oh, today's a no makeup day. But I see where his like expectation is coming from, where it's like, hey, you're meeting my friends for the first time, want to make a good impression. Once again, not his place, but I can see where he's coming from. Am I the a-hole for making my daughter cry at a restaurant? My female 45, daughter 12, decided 12 weeks ago she wanted to be vegetarian. I would support and encourage her if that's what she wanted. The past 2 weeks, she's been looking down on the rest of the family with snooty comments like, you know, that will just sit in your colon, right? And it doesn't make you the murderer, but it definitely makes you the accomplice. Her brother 7 is getting sick of it, and so am I. Especially when I just got home from work and I just want to relax and enjoy my meal. 3 days ago was my son's birthday, and we decided to take him out to his favorite restaurant. This place had vegetarian options, so I was not worried about my daughter being upset about that. I asked her if she wanted to go, and she excitedly said yes. We get there, and when the waiter takes our order, my daughter decided she wanted a mushroom burger. I said, whoa, I thought you wanted to go vegetarian. She says, I'm taking a break since it's a special occasion. I told the waiter to cancel that order and give us a few minutes. I looked at her and said, look here, Missy, you have been nothing but a jerk these last few days with your passive-aggressive comments since going vegan, vegetarian, whatever. You either commit to it now or you get nothing at all. She doesn't even look at me. She just flops her head on the table and starts crying the moment I start talking. My husband does nothing but says, way to go. She doesn't move her head the entire dinner, even when I ask if we need to talk outside. Go to the bathroom to collect herself, nothing. We get home and she just goes to her room. My husband thinks I'm the a-hole because I had to ruin a night out. Should I go to the edits? All right, let's just read the edits and then we can keep going. So my husband and I told her to knock it off with the comments before this happened. At first, it was random cons about eating meat. I told her I'm aware, but that is my choice. Then came the rude remarks like, so you're gonna take 2 years off your lifespan like that? When I chose to reheat meatloaf for dinner instead of a pizza. At that point, I told her that she does not get to make rude comments about people's lifestyle choices like that, and if she says something rude like that again, I'm taking away her phone. Of course, she cried and ran to her room. She stopped saying things to me and her dad, but then she would start picking on her brother when we were out of earshot and would deny it when he would tell us. Apparently, she's been telling her brother that he's a loser for eating meat, and so are his friends. Wow, to a 7-year-old? That's crazy. Well, I guess I was pretty mean to my siblings too, so like, it's a kid thing, I guess. After doing this twice, I took her phone away and told her to apologize to her brother, and if she wants to educate people on vegetarianism, that's fine, but she needs to stop being a bully about it. Again, she breaks down and just runs to her room. I'm not even yelling at her. This is how she tries to deflect accountability. I tried to talk to her an hour later about it, but she flailed onto her bed and started bawling. I told her she needed to calm down and have a conversation with me about what's going on. She just screamed no, so I left before I lost my cool. At this point, I am really considering therapy for us. When I said mushroom burger, I mean a hamburger with sauteed mushrooms on top with melted cheese. It's definitely not a portobello patty. Here's the thing, I think the kid needs to hear this. I'm not a huge fan of people who like, if you want to believe in something, if you want to do something, that's fine. But the second you start using it as like a tool to make people feel bad, then it's wrong. Christianity, if you're a Christian, that's fine. Cool. You do you. I'm an atheist. I could care less. If you start saying stuff to me about God and how I need to save myself and how God blah, 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 I'm gonna rip you for it. Like, at no point should you tell people how to live their life. Unless they're harming other human beings, like this girl is. A little part of me doesn't like that she did this in public in front of her other family members, but also after reading the edit, it sounds like she's tried to address this issue in other areas and it hasn't worked. I kind of agree with the mom where if she's gonna tell other people that they're living their life wrong and then cheat on her own lifestyle, I've met plenty of Christians who do not do Christian things. They just go to church every single Sunday, but then they're awful human beings. This is kind of the same thing. I'm gonna take a bold stance. You know what? My heart is leaning towards not the a. It sounds like the mom tried to do it in a private setting, and this was kind of like the icing on the cake. I think this is gonna be a learning moment. Like, the fact that she had this reaction, let's see what other people have to say. Everyone sucks here. Your daughter was being rude, but you are focusing on the wrong issue. The issue is not that she's going back and forth about her dietary choices. The issue is that she's actively being rude to her brother and you. Why don't you address her comments the first time she said something and give her an appropriate consequence? Okay, but it sounds like she did. I think this person probably posted this before this person made the edit. I don't know. I do have to say, like, just like we should call out, hey, yo, you're saying you're Christian and religious Jesus and treat everybody the way you want to be treated, and then they are an awful person. Like, someone should call them out on that. But the hard part is it's a 12-year-old and it's your daughter who you're supposed to be, like, guiding through this. You're the a-hole. Demanding an instant commitment is ridiculous. Even adults have to explore their options in various ways as they consider committing to a lifestyle change. Yes, but if she's being this annoying about it, I can understand how she would want to call her out. She's 12. Starving her to punish her being rude isn't productive, but it could lead to an eating disorder. She's not starving her. She said just order something vegetarian. Big stupid. I don't like this comment because they clearly didn't read into it. They're like, you're starving a 12-year-old. No, she's teaching that 12-year-old that if you're going to commit to something and like double down on it, then I would much rather have a lesson taught to a kid that's like, if this is how you want to be, you can't be half-ass about it. If I was told to commit to every conviction I had when I was 12, I would be a vegetarian, ballerina, astronaut, playboy bunny. You're the a-hole. She might have been okay, I guess that's fair. I don't know. If I have like a 12-year-old, I would probably do the same thing. I don't know though. Maybe I'm just a mean person. Am I the a-hole for not letting my son's boyfriend come on vacation with us unless he pays his own way, even though I'm paying for everybody else? For summer vacation this year, I went all out. I rented a houseboat for 5 days. It cost about $22,000. We are celebrating my wife's 50th birthday and our 30th anniversary. It is a huge houseboat, and we have been planning this for a while. All the kids are coming and bringing their significant others and family. I am flying my son and his wife over from the Philippines for this. My youngest son attends university on the East Coast, and he has a new person in his life every few weeks. He is staying out there for the summer, but I am also flying him in for the party. He wants me to pay for his new boyfriend to come. This is news to me because when he last spoke to me in July, he had a girlfriend. He changes partners more often than he does laundry. I said his boyfriend was more than welcome to come join us, but that he would have to pay for his own flight. The girl he was dating wasn't going to come out because she felt awkward being at a family party after only dating for a month, so I wasn't going to buy her a ticket. My son says that I'm being homophobic and an a-hole for not bringing his boyfriend out. I pointed out that his sister and her wife of 2 years would be there. He hung up and called his mom. She thinks I should just pay. I probably will to keep the peace, but I think it is stupid to pay for a vacation for a kid I will never see again, and he is going to be in family pictures forever. Wow, this sounds like that episode of How I Met Your Mother. There was like an episode where Ted wanted his girlfriend to be in there, and he's like, she's the one, and then they go through like all of the girls that he said she's the one about and have made it in their photos. If he's not a part of the family and he's not a long-term boyfriend, I think he has the right to say no. No matter what, they really can't tell him how to spend his own money. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This has nothing to do with him being a guy. It's about him only being with this person for a month. Who in their right mind would expect a person to pay for a vacation for a complete stranger? Yeah, kind of a crappy thing for the son to do, to like call him homophobic just because he won't pay for. That's something I see a lot with Gen Z, is they'll like call out the older generation like, you're being homophobic, almost like use it as a weapon sometimes. Not a huge fan of that. Not saying there aren't homophobic people out there, but this is an example of one of those. Would I be the a-hole for telling my half-sister's new family that she kind of assumed my identity? I, female 25, have a half-sister, female 24, called Hannah. I suppose from our ages, the circumstances of her birth are very obvious, and because of this, the subsequent drama. She was never in my life growing up. I would say I've met her less than 10 times in my life. When she was 16, she started consistently reaching out to me via social media, but I was never interested. This stopped when we were about 20. Since then, I mostly forgot about her existence until she reached out to me again at the start of this year, saying she'd got engaged. She wanted me to come to her engagement party and help her get in contact with the rest of my dad's side of the family. I told her I wasn't interested, but I did ask the rest of the family, granddad, aunts, cousins, if they wanted me to put them in touch with her, and they said no. So I told her that too. About a week later, I got a message on social media from her fiance, digging me out for how I treated her. He told me he understood that it was tough being the product of an affair, and he gets that I would be jealous of her since I was shunned by the family, but that she felt terrible about it and had always wanted a relationship with me. I was as confused as I was angry because he had the entire story arsed backwards. I forwarded the messages to Hannah with a question mark, and she admitted that her fiance and his whole family didn't know that she is the affair baby, that they think she stayed in contact with my dad's family, that she went to the schools and university and basically lived the life I did. I didn't blast her for the lies. I just told her that if I ever heard from any of the people in her life again, I would tell them the truth. A few days ago, I received more messages from the fiance's sister, calling me a heartless witch for refusing Hannah's attempts at contact. The sister said I needed to get over my jealousy of Hannah. The fiance called me a spiteful witch for emotionally blackmailing Hannah's dad into not going to the wedding. It took everything in me not to reply and read the lot of them to filth. So now I'm contemplating whether I would be the a-hole for messaging them back with the truth. It can't go on like this. I told Hannah to handle her business and she didn't. Also, her lies are pretty creepy. She's marrying a guy who has no idea who she is. Then again, it's not like she sent these people after me. So maybe I would be the a-hole for tearing apart her whole life over something that isn't technically her fault. I think you can do the right thing, but the right thing is to be an a-hole. It is not okay for the half-sister to be marrying someone soon and they don't actually know about her life, that like basically her whole life is a lie. The right thing for her to do is to tell the people like, hey, I've been lying to you. This is how it is. I was embarrassed about it, right? I think OP should tell them because they have the right to know, but it would be kind of an a-hole move because it's not necessarily her place. She should go whatever way she's most comfortable with. Like if she's comfortable being the bad guy and revealing that information. Like I'm just thinking if I were in the fiance's shoes, I'd at least want to know, not saying that it would decide whether or not I'd actually still want to be with them, but like I'd want to know my partner's actual backstory rather than getting married to the person and then learning the backstory, because there's no way they can keep it up this long. Like they're gonna start asking questions. I'm gonna go with you would be the a-hole, but it's the right thing to do. Curious to see what all the other people's have to say. Okay, we got a not the a-hole. Tell them the truth and block them all. You're not tearing her life apart. She is. It is technically her fault that she lied to everyone. She not only lied, but she outed you. And after having some family harass you, she still didn't tell them the truth and let more family harass you. She is perpetrating the lies even knowing you know she's lying, and she's adding more lies. She's now making them think things are your fault. Write up a message that's the truth, simple and honest, and then block anyone who contacts you from her side of the family. I don't know, I guess are we saying that it's not an a-hole thing to ruin someone's relationship? It's all about perspective, right? From the sister's perspective, you would be an a-hole, but from the fiance's perspective, you would person bearing the truth, which wouldn't really be the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for eating my 32 male girlfriend's 36 female leftover food after a long day? I returned home very hungry after a long stressful day at work. I ate some of the leftover food which my girlfriend ordered. She was so angry that I ate it and thinks I don't care or think about her. She thinks I stole her $50 food. I spend around $1,000 to $1,500 every month on taking her to restaurants and takeouts. We were just back from the $6,000 South American trip paid completely by me. All right, this right here, I could have maybe made an argument for homeboy not being an a-hole, but this right here makes me think that he is very like, I pay for everything, so I have all the power, and that is wrong. Like, just because you pay for stuff in a relationship doesn't mean you have all the power. Maybe you could be like, hey, like I kind of help pay for this. I'm really hungry. This would be nice comfort food for me. And hey, if you really have this much money, just go buy more food for yourself. She is the one who mentioned money first. I did not mention money I spend in my argument with her. Ugh, I doubt that. Edit 2, I come from a culture where sharing food is love. She's from a different culture. Update, I told her to not bring up money and it's petty. I explained that it is triggering to me because she cares more about one-off leftover $50 meal than caring about me. I also offered her that I will order lunch for next day. We both apologized and are good now. Out of that conversation, you got that she cares more about the $50 food than you. Am I reading that right, guys? Is that what you're picking up? Are you picking up what I'm putting down on this? Because that is stupid. This dude kind of sounds like he gaslights. Like he's almost trying to gaslight the actual Reddit thread. I mean, I think it's stupid and petty, like it's just food, but we've all been there. Sometimes I'll eat my siblings' leftovers. I'm gonna go with you're the a-hole just because I don't like his overall vibe. I can't wait to hear what other people are saying. You're the a-hole. You chose to spend that money on her. She was clearly looking forward to her leftovers. That's a big difference. I also think you're trying to sway people by saying you pay for expensive things for her, and I wouldn't be surprised if you do the same thing with your girlfriend. That's a really manipulative thing to do, both to people reading your posts and your girlfriend. I told you, he was trying to manipulate all of us. This is how I imagine he said it. It's just really triggering for me that you care more about $50 food than me, and that's your fault. You should feel bad for that. That is so crazy. Am I the a-hole for putting a lock on my dresser drawer to keep my girlfriend from taking my clothes? We're both in our late 20s. Recently, my girlfriend has taken to wearing my boxers and underwear, not shirts and shorts or stuff like that, just my underwear. She says they're comfy and likes how they feel. I bought her some of the kinds I always get, but she won't wear those ones. She wants mine for whatever reason. She probably likes how they smell, or maybe she's into that. Bro, that just sounds like a win. I don't know why you're complaining. It was cute when it first started, but she changes clothes twice a day, so that's 3 pairs of underoos coming out of my drawer daily. I've asked her to stop. She won't stop and thinks I'm getting upset over nothing because, as she states, none of her previous relationships had a problem with her taking their clothes. I put a lock on my underwear drawer. It's just a safety lock, but I won't tell her how to open it, and she got frustrated when she couldn't get it open. Apparently, she told her best friend about about it because when I got home last night, her friend commented that only an ass would do something like that. I get what they're saying about it being clothes, but I think it's a pretty simple ask to not do it daily because that adds up quickly. The 3 pairs a day seems to be causing some confusion. She wears 2 pairs, wear to work, and another pair she puts on after she gets home from work and showers, and then take a pair to wear for the day. There are 3 reasons I don't like sharing my underwear. 1, I don't just like sharing underwear, it's gross to me and a hard no. Bro, this is definitely a dude who doesn't eat box. For sure. Homeboy is scared of that thing. She's been told this every time I bring the topic up. 2, her wearing them stretches it out and puts extra wear and tear in addition to what constant washing does. 3, not to be gross or judgy, but vagines have all kinds of discharge and I don't want stained undies. I guess I'm not a picky person. Like, I don't care about discharge or if a girl's vagine has been where my balls are gonna be. Like, hey, newsflash, man. Unless you and your girlfriend are doing something very wrong, that's probably already happening. Like, dude, who cares? Throw a pair. Or maybe your girlfriend has them in her underwear with her. I don't know. Why the heck do you need to wear your man's underwear and changes so often? That's actually annoying. It's also a waste of laundry detergent. Yeah, I just think it's cute, but the extra washing / laundry would be annoying. If they've expressed the frustration and the GF isn't listening, then that's different. I don't know, man. I feel like I have to go with the you're the a-hole. I don't think it matters, bro. Like, if this is like the person you are gonna live with and like you love, like, let them wear your underwear. Not the a-hole. May I suggest an alternative that you may or may not like? If she keeps at it, just start wearing 3 pairs of hers daily, and when she offers to buy you your own in the same style, tell her you want hers. Take the cute ones, the granny panties, take them all. Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Fight fire with fire. Why not? OP's life might be changed when he realizes how well ladies' undies compliment his ass. If you need to lock up your clothes because your girlfriend refused your simple request to stop wearing them, you don't need a lock, you need a new girlfriend. Okay, underwear, who cares, bro? Like, there's a lot worse things she could be doing. Like, it's kind of hot. That's like when a girl wears your shirt, like she's like wearing the flag. You're like, yeah, like that's my girl. She's got the shirt that smells like me. If she's wearing this underwear everywhere she goes, like, that's you, dog. You did that. I don't know. Maybe that's, I don't know. Maybe that's stupid to like think of it like that. Not the a-hole. This isn't really about clothes. You made a reasonable compromise in buying her more underwear to supplement what she takes from your stash, but it would have been helpful to also discuss why she feels it is so crucial to wear your specific underwear. Does she feel closer to you? Does it make her feel naughty? Is it a control issue? If she'd actually be willing to discuss it and a possible compromise, like 1 pair per day, you would not have to secure your belongings. Not only was she dismissive of your feelings on the issue, but she doubled down by saying it's a non-issue because her past boyfriends didn't mind her behavior. Then, when you locked your belongings, she tells a friend who calls you a jerk. Why do her exes and friends have more sway in this relationship than you? Reddit really kind of be free therapy. That's pretty convincing. If you guys are going to battle over underwear, I can't imagine how you will troubleshoot larger issues. It's also a huge turnoff if a partner justifies trampling over your boundaries by saying, you can't have that boundary because my exes didn't. What else does she have to reference other than her past boyfriends? Let's say it's makes her feel naughty, like it's a turn on for her that she's grown accustomed to in past relationships. Then I kind of understand why she would bring it up. Like, that's her only frame of reference, right? She's basically developed a habit. So like, now that the habit that she's used to in a relationship isn't being accepted, I could understand how she would be like, well, like, nobody else cared, so like, is there something wrong with you that you do care? I don't know. I don't think bringing up exes is a bad thing. Why do her friends have more sway in this relationship? Friends always have a say in the situation. Girls that I've dated, like, something will happen and the first thing they do is they go tell their girlfriend. Like, that's just how it works. Like, I don't think that's toxic or anything like that. I do think like the girlfriend needs to be willing to compromise if like, hey, this actually bothers you. There has to be a compromise here. Let's go with everyone sucks here. Your girlfriend needs to be more accommodating to how you feel and your boundaries. Am I the a-hole for cursing out my husband after finding out he lied about our son's illness? My husband, 23 male, and I, 21 female, have been together for 6 years. We have a baby boy together, and just last week we brought him to the hospital for failure to thrive. They didn't find anything wrong, but after 5 days and being placed on a higher calorie formula and noticing weight gain, he was discharged. Just an hour ago, I went to the store right up the street from us. This particular store just opened. When my husband and I first went in, I noticed the woman that ran the store was being very flirtatious with my husband, giving him the eyes, laughing at literally everything he said, staring at him. I kept it to myself though, because I didn't want to seem jealous and insecure. My husband has been going to that store about 3 times a week, whether it's for quick snacks or a beer. It always takes him longer than it should, but I never brought it up because I didn't want to make a fuss. So when I walked in that store, that same woman poked her head up from behind the counter counter and gave me the most empathetic look I've ever seen. She asked me, "Oh my goodness, hi, how's your baby boy?" I walked over to her smiling, about to tell her about the weight gain and why he was there, when she then told me that my husband was up there a few days ago, we were in the hospital at this time, saying that our son had a hole in his heart. Not knowing what to do, I went along with it to avoid telling her that my husband is a damn liar. I was stuttering, thinking why would he lie about something so serious, wondering how that conversation even started. I paid for my items and left. Was he trying to get sympathy from this woman? I called my husband's phone as soon as I got home and let him have it. He said I'm being unreasonable and it wasn't like that. Interesting. I'm gonna go with not the a-hole because that's suspicious. The issue is that he told her that so that she would feel bad and maybe want to sleep with him. Oh, vulnerable man. He's so sad. Maybe I should cheer him up with this pussy because that's how men think. It's so dumb, but that is how dudes think. So that's why she's chewing her out. Let's dive into this update. So first update, we are currently arguing over text. He's at work now and gets off tonight, so I'll update you guys when he gets home and what lies he tries to spin. He keeps saying she misunderstood my words. This woman doesn't know anything about me. She has no reason to lie. He's pissing me off. I'm thinking about leaving. This is not just him flirting with a woman or him liking Instagram pictures. You lied about our son's health to get sympathy. I think I'm done. I want to separate. Update 2. So the dick is home and we finally argued. I know when my husband is lying. His eyes dart back and forth a lot and that's exactly what he's doing along with shaky breathing. He kept trying to lie to me and tell me that's not what he said. Claiming he said, I said he has a hole in his heart because I have a hole in mine because he's in the hospital. What? That doesn't... So he went up to her and he was like, yeah, my son has a hole in his heart because I have a hole in my heart because he's in the hospital. What? I'm not saying he should have lied. If I were in this situation, if I were a crappy person, I said they might think he has a hole in his heart. She must have not heard me say think. Lord, I wanted to smack him. I just stared at him and walked off. I came back and told him if you don't tell me the truth right now, I'm leaving, getting a divorce and I'm taking our kids. He started to cry and beg me not to. Then he finally told the truth. He told me exactly what the woman told me. I just shook my head and told him to get out. He's packed his stuff right now and gone to his dad's house. I'm gonna take some time away from my husband until I figure out what I want, but right now I'm considering getting a divorce. That's why, children, you don't get married young and you don't have a kid at the age of, wow, 17 and 15. Boop, boop. That's the sound of the police. Would I be the a-hole if I don't change my son's name even though it may cause him to lose an inheritance? I, 24, got pregnant while I was taking a gap year traveling. I met an older guy, nothing gross. I was 19 and he was 23. I was working in a bar to make money while I explored his city. When I got pregnant, he lost interest really quickly. I understood, but I am pro-choice and I chose not to terminate. I went home and had my son. I also made sure to get child support. He could afford it. He did fight it though. I had to prove paternity and everything. Through that, his parents found out. They are well off. They have met my son and they truly do seem to love him. They have provided gifts for his birthday and Christmas. They helped me with extra money so I could complete my university without going into debt. They have taken us on vacation with them so they could spend time with him. They aren't my biggest fans, but we are cordial to each other. 3 months ago, my son's father passed away. He got drunk at his bachelor party, tripped on the sidewalk, and hit his head. And that was all she wrote. Death by sidewalk is kind of crazy. And at his bachelor party, bro. My son and I attended the funeral. We spent a week in that city so his grandparents could see him. They approached me with an offer. They had no other children or grandchildren. Their son was only 28, so he had lots of time to provide them legitimate kids. They did not say this, I'm just assuming. So they never thought about my son's name. They said that if I changed his surname to theirs legally, they would make him their primary heir. I think this is dumb. He is their only grandchild, and they would deny him an inheritance because of his last name. I said I would consider it to be polite and have left it at that. I actually have a pretty good life as it is. My family has been very supportive, and because of the whole court thing, my son's father had to have life insurance with him as a beneficiary. Would it be nice for my kid to get a big sum of money? Yes. Do I want him to have the surname of a man who didn't want him, see him, or love him? No. I have been talking to my family about it, and a few of them think I am being an a-hole for giving up this kind of money for my son. It is generational wealth, and I'm making the decision based on emotion. I think they are a-holes for thinking money is the only thing that matters. I think I will tell my son's grandparents that they can talk to him about it when he is 16. He will be old enough to understand the implications, but young enough not to be tied professionally to his last name. I don't like that the grandparents are like using it as a weapon though. I think I'm gonna go with not the a-hole because in my head, I was like, maybe I could go with everyone sucks here. But then I was like, the grandparents suck way more than OP. This line right here, would it be nice for my kid to have a big sum of money? Yes. Do I want him to have a surname of a man who didn't want him, see him, or love him? No. I think it's her choice. I guess the grandparents are just trying to cling on to the connection of their son. You can have the connection without the surname. I just don't understand like why they're pulling that card. So like manipulative. of, you're the a-hole, F that dude, but also you're kind of screwing your kid by not changing the name. That money is your child's future, and guess what? They'll probably want it regardless of y'all's beef. If they find out, that could also wreck y'all's relationship. Get the bag, you can be honoring the grandparents that have been involved in your son's life, and ultimately your kid can change the name if they don't like it, but the money can allow your child to pursue their dreams without having to worry about the stress of loans, etc. That's a good point. Like, this is what I was thinking of, is like having that amount of money never hurts. So I see where this person's coming from. I also don't think it's fair to call OP the a-hole though. I mean, personally, if someone had told my mom I could get generational wealth as long as she named me dumbass hoe, and my mom didn't and I found out, I would be mad that my mom didn't rename me LOL. Those are good points. Not the a-hole. They are the a-hole for tying money to the name. If they want them to have it, they should give it to them regardless of the last name. You know, I'm curious what other strings that money will have. That's actually a very good point. Am I the a-hole for telling my 19-year-old daughter that she'll pay the plumbing bill if required for continuing to flush her tampons in our house? My 54 male daughter, 19 female, is living with me this summer before heading to college later this month. She spent the majority of her middle and high school years at her mom's due to divorce custody arrangements. My daughter had knee surgery at the end of July to fix a torn ACL. As a result, I've been with her a lot, helping her recover. Last week, I noticed in the hallway bathroom that she uses that there were tampon covers and wraps. The next time I checked on her, I asked her to confirm that she was throwing her tampons away and not flushing them. She said no, they get flushed down the toilet. She said I should be kind of embarrassed that I have a 19-year-old daughter and don't even realize that. I told her no, they don't. I reminded her of all the doctor's office and hospital bathrooms where reminder notes are left asking women not to flush their feminine hygiene products. At the same time as I said that, she finished looking on her phone and I could tell she found information online that confirmed the garbage is the correct disposal method. I asked her to please use the garbage from now on. Later that night, I sent her 2 different internet searches confirming not to put tampons down the toilet and instead put them in the garbage. Several days later, when I was checking on her, I asked her if she was using the garbage for her tampons. She said no. I reminded her what we talked about and what I had asked her to do. She said I didn't understand since I was a man. I told her yes, I am a man, and yes, I don't understand. However, millions of American women have figured it out. I asked her if she had Googled how to dispose of bloody tampons. She said, I'm not going to Google that. I asked her if she thought about using plastic bags to wrap her tampons in or using something like that. She said again that I wouldn't understand what it's like to dispose of a bloody tampon. I agreed with her again. I said, it sounds like you are not willing to try or learn something new in order to do it differently. I told her if that was the case, then she could pay the plumber bill if I ever needed to call the plumber to come fix a clogged drain line due to a tampon. She basically gave up and said fine. As I was leaving, she said that I was being just like mom. They wanted to clarify that they're in the USA. There's a garbage can in the bathroom directly underneath the toilet paper, both in arm's reach of the toilet. No lid on the trash can. Thanks for suggesting. Not the a-hole. One should throw tampons/pads in a bin, not the toilet. Not the a-hole by all means. I have to ask, WTF is she thinking? She should be the one who is embarrassed. How does one reach the age of 19 years old, female, and not know that only shit, piss, puke, and toilet paper go down the bowl into the sewage/septic tank, nothing else? I don't use tampons, never liked it, but even as a preteen, I was told to never flush those products down the toilet. Yeah, I thought that was just a common sense thing. Like, that's what you're taught as a kid.
And this first one where OP denies an old woman shelter from a storm. I, 23 female, am an avid hiker in Australia. Last week, I encountered a middle-aged woman around 50 years old as I was coming off a trail. She was walking in my direction as I came out of the bush. It was strange to see her. The sun was almost down and the weather was starting to turn. Also, this was an intermediate collection of trails at best. Difficult even for me at worst. And she didn't look super athletic. Point is, my weird radar was going off already. She walked up to me and stopped, standing too close for my comfort, gestured towards the clearing where my car was parked and asked whether it was my car. No greeting or anything. When I looked over, something made me uncomfortable. There were no cars other than mine in sight. The trail I was on isn't crazy far from civilization, but it's not a walk away. One of those highway rest stops that's there for the trail and a few parking spots. No way she could have got there without driving. I let her know that yes, it was my car, to which she responded something like, perfect. There's a storm coming. I can't be caught in it and I need to go home. She was very matter of fact. It seemed like she had already decided what would happen. Without waiting for my response, she started striding for my car. I am glad I always lock my doors because she would have hopped right in the passenger seat had the door open. As she was walking over to it, I went after her, trying to explain that I wasn't sure it was a good idea for her to hitch a ride, asking why she was out there in the first place. I was talking to a brick wall until she realized realized the car was locked, at which point she turned around with this look of anger and frustration on her face. She starts ranting the same stuff as before. I need to get home. A storm is coming. I cannot be caught in it. Why don't you get it? I was confused at this point and a little scared, as this woman was now a barrier between me and my vehicle. I told her something like, I'm sorry, but I don't feel comfortable with having a stranger in my car. She stared me down for a few seconds, I guess trying to gauge her chances at asking again. And just like that, the anger drops from her face and she's silent. I was really uncomfortable. I asked if I could call someone if there was another way to help. She starts walking towards me, scary, but then right past me. I'm still asking her questions, then just saying things like, hello and excuse me, no response. She walked to the other end of the rest stop and maintained eye contact with me as she sat down on a log, then just stared at nothing. I didn't follow her. I got into my car really shaken up and drove away. As soon as I was back in cell range, I called fire and rescue. They said they would send someone out. I was scared for my safety in the moment, but she was just some woman alone in the middle of nowhere. Am I the asshole for refusing this strange woman a ride/shelter in my car? Dude, that sounds straight out of a horror movie. I would have never let that woman in your car, and there's no way you're the asshole for just prioritizing your own safety over a stranger that you just met, who, if you're gonna ask for a ride, this is the worst way possible. Like, just assuming like, oh yeah, this stranger will give me a ride. What? This sounds like A, out of a horror movie, B, out of like a trafficking nightmare. I'm very curious what the comments say. Not the a-hole. I think calling fire and rescue was a kind thing to do. Yeah, no, I agree. I think that was probably in that moment the smartest thing you could do. Am I the a-hole for telling someone I'm not friendly when their dog came up to me? Went to a brewery restaurant with my wife. Our name was called, and to get our table indoors, we had to cut through the patio. We got stopped for a few moments behind a table, leaving and saying goodbye. In those moments, a lab-type dog gets up and starts sniffing my ankles. I look at the owners, say, what the hell, and point at the dog. They just say the classic line of, oh, don't worry, he's friendly. I admit I was a touch rude. I just say, I'm not friendly. They pull the dog back under the table. They start saying, if you aren't friendly, you shouldn't be coming to a dog-friendly restaurant. I tell them just because the place is dog-friendly doesn't mean that it is okay for your dog to come up to me. I don't want it in my effing space. They seem baffled that somebody didn't like their dog. He called me an a-hole and told me to find somewhere else to walk. I say F off as we head to our table. My wife was like, you're right, but could have been friendlier. Was I the a-hole? Yeah, I mean, there's a-holes on both sides. Like, he didn't need to be as mean as he was about it. Definitely not something you have to be rude about, but also I do think people thinking like, oh, hey, I take my dog out in public and everyone should just deal with it. I don't agree with that. Just because dogs are cute and fluffy and people traditionally like them doesn't mean that everybody is going to like them. Control your dog, but also I just think this whole situation was not a big deal at all. OP made a big deal. The owner made a big deal. They both just need to shut up and go do their own thing. Everyone sucks here. They could have kept the dog closer to them. You didn't have to be such an a-hole about it. Here's a you're the a-hole. You were hostile from beginning to end of this interaction. You could have asked them politely, but chose to be rude for no reason. ETA to people commenting that some people have PTSD/trauma related to dogs. That could justify such a strong reaction. Do you seriously think OP wouldn't have included that in his post if it were true to him? He knows he was touch rude in his first reaction, and the whole interaction spiraled from there. I mean, you don't have to have like PTSD or trauma necessarily related to dogs, just not like them. Maybe you're allergic or something, but yeah, I think you just need to be a nicer person. Like, this person doesn't sound like in a regular interaction they would be a nice human being anyways. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to play a game my girlfriend created? My 27, girlfriend 24, has been working on a visual novel game as a side project for almost 2 years and recently finished it. She wanted me to play it, but I initially declined because I'm not into visual novels or reading long stories. But after she begged, I gave it a try and played for a good 15 minutes. Now, I can tell she put a lot of effort in the writing and the art, and it was a good start, but I just got tired of reading and stopped. She asked what I thought and wanted me to eventually finish it, and I tell her what I thought about the choices and the endings, but I told her I had no plans to. She looked shocked and asked if it was boring. I told her no. It's just that I'm not into this type of genre, and she knows I'm not into reading, but asked me to make exceptions this time since she made it. I got upset because I think she's being childish and wants to blackmail me into doing something I don't want. After I made it clear I wasn't continuing, she hasn't talked to me. I already know that she is talented and smart, so just because I don't want to play it doesn't mean I don't support her. Some of my friends agree she's being immature, but others think I should be more supportive, so am I the a-hole? Does OP know what blackmail is? Like, I don't see any form of blackmail in this post at all. The post is flared as a-hole. I don't know, man. I think, like, if he doesn't enjoy it, he can say it a lot nicer or at least explain it to her. I would personally put in everyone sucks here. Like, dude, just suck it up like it's your girlfriend. If it's someone that you actually want to spend your life with, with, you're gonna have to do things that you're not necessarily going to enjoy. But on the other hand, if the girlfriend's looking for a serious opinion on whether or not this game is actually fun, her target audience or her testing audience shouldn't be this boyfriend. Like, clearly he doesn't enjoy it. Go show it to somebody who enjoys this type of game, whether you find him on a Reddit thread or whether it's a friend of yours. Don't use your boyfriend's opinion because clearly he doesn't even enjoy it in general. You're the a-hole. I just read the rubbish you wrote and I'm not your significant other. Fair. When I first started writing, sharing it was the hardest thing. It really is opening yourself up to be vulnerable. Unfortunately, some people will jam their spite knife in when you do, but in my experience, the only people rude enough to do so are faceless people on the internet. I get that some people don't want to view/read your work, and that's fine for extended family or if you already have a wider pool of people interested in your art, since you don't need validation. And that's the key here. Fucking validation. Pour yourself out for 2 years on a project and you're insanely self-conscious about, and ask your partner, the person who is supposed to support you, to dedicate some of your time to it, and they won't do it because they say they don't like reading. Not even more than 15 fucking minutes. OP is such an asshole here. After reading that, I do sympathize with the whole vulnerability thing. I don't know, this is so hard because especially with my work, I don't look for validation in my partners or the people I'm seeing at the time, because honestly, a lot of what I do, a lot of what I make is not for them. Like, I would never send this video to a girl I was seeing and being like, what did you think? Because honestly, their opinion doesn't mean shit. Like, your guys' opinions mean shit to me, at least, and to, you know, the success of the video, right? But I understand what this person's saying. It is really hard to be vulnerable to people, and when someone is vulnerable with you, you want to be nice. I think there's a way he could have said, like, hey, I don't like reading and I'm not that interested in the game. That doesn't mean it's a bad game, but for somebody who isn't interested in reading, it's probably not going to rope them in. I feel like people are going to insanely disagree with me on this one, but let me know what you guys think in the comments below about this post or any other post that I read. Am I the a-hole for mostly ignoring my girlfriend on her birthday? Yesterday, we celebrated my male 23 girlfriend's female 21 21st birthday. Her parents threw a big celebration party with all her friends and family. For me personally, this was the first time I met anyone in her family with the exception of her parents. It was also her first birthday I celebrated with her since we've been dating for around 7 months. Now, I'm originally from Romania, from a region called Murmuris. I probably fucking butchered that. But I've been living abroad for 11 years now. My girlfriend mentioned at some point that one of her grandmas was also from Romania, but we didn't discuss it in detail. So yesterday I met my girlfriend's grandmother, and what can I say? I couldn't believe how small the world was. Not only was she Romanian, but from the same county as me. So we talked a lot. She told me her life story. We reminisced about I really enjoyed the conversation, especially talking in my native language, and that's how I spent most of the party. Of course, when my girlfriend asked me to take pictures with her or when the cake came, I gave her my full attention, but for the most part, she spent time with her friends, dancing, drinking, etc., while I was just talking with her grandmother. I didn't pay it much mind, but after the party was done, she told me she felt neglected by me during her birthday, and this morning, she seems pissed off at me. Interesting, they labeled this no a-holes here. I don't know, man, I think he's a little bit of the a-hole here. Like, bro, if you really want to talk to the grandma, invite her to coffee or something. Like, why are you choosing now to have this? I get it. Like, you want to experience your home country, and I want to be sympathetic and empathetic towards that, but, like, you know, this is your girlfriend. This day needs to be about her, and also maybe she should have communicated to him, like, during the party, hey, pay attention to me, right? At the end of the day, like, that day is supposed to be about her. His main focus should be her. The grandma, well, maybe the grandma might die. In theory, the grandma should be there tomorrow. Invite the grandma to go grab coffee so you guys can have those conversations and whatnot. And I'm sure the grandmother would appreciate that as well. And maybe the girlfriend would want to sit in on that, or who knows. I definitely would go more towards you're the a-hole. Reason for no a-holes here. I would think she'd be excited you connected so well with her grandmother. Family approval makes relationships a lot easier. That being said, you probably could have done a better job striking a balance between talking to her grandma and hanging out with her during the party. It's hard to fault her based on your description of events. I think the only, like, quote-unquote fault that the girlfriend has is just not communicating it, like being like, hey, like, I know you're connecting with my grandma, but I kind of want you to spend time with me. Like, dudes are dumb and oblivious sometimes, and that's our own fault, but, you know, communication. Am I the a-hole for ruining Steve Irwin for my friend's daughter? What? I-38 female got to visit my friend recently and spent the night. One of her daughters, 13 female, spent a couple of hours watching old episodes of The Crocodile Hunter on TV. My friend said her daughter's been pretty interested interested in animals and wildlife nature, so they got her some of those to watch, since she remembers enjoying those shows as a kid and the modern versions of them don't seem as good. I thought this was great as I actually grew up near Beerwah, Australia, where the Australia Zoo is. We went a lot, even into my young adulthood before moving to the US for work. Got to see Steve a couple of times, and later Bindi when she got older at a couple talks / small group settings. My friend said, wow, you should totally tell my daughter about that. So a while later, I went to the living room where the daughter was watching the shows. I told her I got to see Steve a couple times before he died, and later Bindi, and she got excited and started asking me a lot of questions. I told her he seemed like a great guy as much as I could remember about the animals. Then I told her about the detail about the first talk / smallish group I saw him at, where he warned us that he had to help cover for a keeper who called in sick and cleaned out the primate houses right before this talk and hadn't showered yet. So we really might not want a front row seat. I didn't listen and got one anyways, and oof, I regretted it. I'm sure it was a great talk and a treasured memory looking back, but at the same time, all I could think of was how not to gag. This horrified my friend's daughter more than I thought, as she went, ew, he smelled bad? I was sort of taken aback and said, well, what do you think, being around animals all day, every day? That day was worse than others, I'm sure, but come to think of it, he stunk pretty bad the other time I got close enough to smell him too. So did Bindi, for that matter. My friend's daughter is apparently also very into spas and perfumes and smelling nice, and this has put a great damper on her thoughts of working with wildlife and even her enthusiasm for seeing it through a screen. My friend called me the next day and said, of all the things to share with her, did you really have to bring up how Steve Irwin smelled like monkey waste when you met him and distracted you from the talk? She said that seemed like an inappropriate thing to bring up to a young girl and also disrespectful to Steve's memory. But I don't think it was inappropriate to bring up. I think it's a realistic part of the work Steve did and was certainly something that stuck in my memory. If anything, it made me respect the work he did more. Yeah, definitely not the a-hole. It seems like, once again, a situation that just blew up for no reason. Like, eventually the daughter is going to learn that, hey, animals do be kind of stinky though. And it's honestly better for her to learn now and to be like, maybe I don't want to do that, versus like if they get into college and start a veterinary program and they're like a year in and they start working with stinky animals and they're like, maybe I don't want to do that. Learn that young. I would put money that this parent like kind of coddles their kid, shelters them a little bit. Like, this just seems like something really stupid to get upset about. So not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She's 13, for crying out loud. This isn't Santa Claus. Her world isn't going to end now that she knows animals can smell. Honestly, I'm more shocked that it took her till the age of 13 to learn that animals... I'm pretty sure I knew that by the time I was 8. Animals be stanky. Am I the a-hole for telling my mom she's making me fat? A couple of years ago, I, 34 female, lost my job due to the company I worked for going into financial trouble. My husband at the time didn't work, which caused us to struggle for money and eventually led to him abandoning me and our 3 children, 9 female, 7 female, and 5 male. Because of this, my parents, 65 male and 64 female, offered to let us move back in with them for a while. Everything was fine, but after a few weeks, I noticed that the food being given to us was both unhealthy and given in very large quantities. I didn't want to offend my mom, so instead of bringing it up with her, I offered to do some of the cooking instead. However, she insisted it was all done by her because she enjoys it. Reluctantly, I obliged and just thought, I'll just leave most of it. The problem with this is that she started offering anything I didn't eat to the children, who always ate all of it since they didn't realize how bad it was for them. I also didn't want to talk about this with the children because creating a fear about gaining weight always does more harm than good. This carried on for about a year before I finally brought it up with her. I've gained almost 50 pounds and I'm now almost obese, and 2 of the children are clinically obese now as well, with the youngest still being firmly overweight. All of them get a reasonable amount of exercise, but it makes little difference when they're eating almost 3,000 calories a day. A few weeks ago, I watched their school sports day and it was worrying how little they could run. The 2 girls couldn't even run 100 meters and had to walk the final part. I told my mom she had to stop giving us so much unhealthy food, but she snapped at me and said I should be grateful that she's even letting us stay there. I hate conflict, so I ended up backing down, but I feel really bad about the effect it's having on my kids. Recently, the oldest one has been trying to avoid sport at all costs since she doesn't enjoy it with the extra weight. The thread labeled her as the a-hole. I think if I had to really put a label, I think I'd have to go with a-hole as well. I respect that she wants her kids to be healthy. Like, I think a lot of food habits come from when you're a kid. It seems like she's very conscious. She even said, like, she doesn't want to have the conversation necessarily directly with the kids because she doesn't want them to have eating disorders based off of those conversations, because those types of things things really bleed into it. But at the end of the day, like, if her mom is letting them live with them and is cooking for them, I feel like beggars cannot be choosers in that situation. I almost want to say no a-holes here, because it's definitely not everyone sucks. Like, I don't think the OP sucks. I don't think OP's mom sucks. They just have different opinions on how they want to live their life, and a very difficult situation where OP needs the mom to live, but the mom is currently living a certain way, and if they're gonna do that, then they have to mesh with it. This one does have an update. I brought it up again more harshly with my mom, but she refused to budge, so I took the kids to a pediatrician. It went how you might expect. They need to lose weight and have to cut down on how much they're eating. I explained the situation, and he wrote a note for my mom explaining the importance of the kids losing weight. After reading some of the comments, I suggested I be in control of serving the food so she could still cook, but I had control of portions. My mom wasn't so keen on this, so we met in the middle and allowed the children to get their own servings. Although they still took more than was probably healthy, it was less than before, so progress was made. My mom still did my portion and is still very large, but I didn't mention it and just ate it because I didn't want to annoy her just when I was making progress. After dinner, I managed to convince my two youngest children to come on a walk with me and my dad. The walk wasn't long, probably only about a mile, but it was a step in the right direction. However, when I got home, my mom told me she had given my oldest daughter, who stayed behind, seconds because she looked hungry. I told her not to do that again, but she was pretty non-committal, so I'm not sure I trust her. And just to clear up a few misconceptions, I have a job, but is basically minimum wage. My mom is also obese or very nearly obese, so it isn't just us it's affecting. Update 2, for anyone still interested. I've spoken to my kids about how they don't have to eat everything put in front of them. I've also asked my mom if I can make a side dish on top of the meal she cooks. Today, I just made a light salad and put it out before any other food was out so the kids wouldn't prioritize the less healthy food. All of them ate the salad before my mom arrived, and we were allowed to serve themselves again. They still all took more than I would have liked, but for the first time, my youngest complained about being full before finishing his plate. Before my mother could say anything, I took his plate and put all the remaining food onto my own. I knew dumping it in the bin would cause a row, so I just ate it myself, so I wouldn't undo any progress with my mom. My oldest two ate their portions and the salad, but at least they got something healthy into their bodies. Turns out they get quite sluggish after eating dinner, so I didn't push them to do exercise today, and I'm going to go for walks with them before dinner instead next time. I'm also in contact with a friend of mine to see if I can stay at their house for a few months before I get a place of my own, hopefully before the end of the year. Once again, just very hesitant to call this mom an a-hole. Like, clearly they care about their kids. I want to see what people said in the comments. You're the a-hole. How can you neglect your kid to the point that they're obese and blame it on your mom? Oh, so they're saying that it's OP's fault. It was your responsibility to set boundaries. This is your fault, not your mom. I don't know if I agree with that. That seems like a very base layer read of the conversation, and that's not how I picked it up. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like Reddit can be too harsh. I'm not gonna go with the a-hole here, but I definitely want to know what you guys think in the comments below about this post, and of course any other posts I read in this video. Am I the a-hole for not giving the mother of my dead husband's child his possessions? Me, 30 female, and my husband got married when we were 25. After 6 years, he passed away in an accident in April. A few weeks before the accident, I found out that he had a one-night stand with a woman he works with. When he died, I hadn't decided yet what was going to happen in our relationship. We entered counseling and we were still living together, but obviously it was hectic. I wasn't sure if we were going to divorce. I decided not to tell our families and only confided in a few close friends and my therapist. I didn't want opinions from everyone. I also didn't tell his family when he died. There was no reason to. A few weeks ago, the affair partner reached out to me. She's 5 months pregnant and preparing to raise the baby. She wanted me to tell his family because she wants her child to have a relationship with his family and be connected to his culture. I said I wouldn't do this and simply passed along their contact information. Shit hit the fan. I am close with his brothers and I thought that they were going to raise him from the dead and kill him again. Apologies for the dark humor. They're coming around to the idea of having a relationship with the baby, but I do not want to, nor has the mother offered, which is fine. Mother has gotten back in touch with me to ask for some of my husband's possessions. She wants his clothes, his books, his record collection, and bizarrely, his wedding ring for the baby to feel connected to its father. I've made it very clear to her that I will be giving her nothing of the sort. His parents and brother have some of his stuff. She can access things like that through him. She kept pushing and I lost my temper and called her an outrageous bitch who should find some shame. I wouldn't be opposed to passing some of the stuff along to the child via my in-laws when they are older and can appreciate it, not the wedding ring, which was the worst request in my opinion, but other sentimental stuff. I've also retained a lawyer to look into whether I owe the child any money legally from my husband's passing. If I don't, I might set up a trust fund for them when they're an adult with his money because I really don't need it. I just do not want to give this woman all that I have left of my husband. I really do not trust her with any of it. Obviously, she thinks I'm a bitter, raging monster bitch and an asshole, and my in-laws are divided. My in-laws are largely supportive, but some think I need to give some of his stuff to her and the baby. Some of his brothers have told me that they are sympathetic, but that I'm behaving like an a-hole and a baby by not cooperating for the sake of the child. I'm unsure whether the complicated grief is clouding my judgment. Wow, this is just messy, bro. This is messy as hell. I'm taking the position of not the a-hole. Seems to be what the rest of the thread thought as well. I think it's ridiculous that some of the in-laws want her to just be cooperative. Like, no, she got cheated on, and then to add insult to injury, salt in the wound, her husband dies, and then, hey, you know what, that wasn't worse enough. By the way, his mistress is having his baby. I would be in shambles. I'm going to sympathize with OP, not the a-hole at all. Do whatever you need to do, and then yeah, like, I love what they said about, oh, in the future maybe there's an opportunity for us to have a connection, or for me to meet up with them and give them some of their stuff, or to set up this trust fund. But like right now, when it's fresh, like, she hasn't been able to heal from any of these wounds yet. Like, let her heal, let her do her thing. Absolutely completely unfair for anybody to expect her to do anything else. Not the a-hole. She wants to get possessions of her partner after they die. They should consider getting married instead of being the other woman. There's nothing bitter about what you're doing. She just doesn't know how life or the law works. Edit, it's not your job to have any sort of relationship with the child, and I also don't get why you'd need to set up a trust fund for the baby. Seems like you're willing to do more than you need to. Also, what exactly does your husband have that a baby would even want? That's fair. I mean, none of the stuff that she asked for is like, oh, hey, like, he needs it. Like, the wedding ring, I do have to say, is extremely uncalled for. Oh, hey, let me take the thing that's supposed to symbolize the marriage that I fucked up. That's crazy. Am I the a-hole for breaking my sister's engagement? My, male 37, sister, female 29, recently got engaged to the love of her life I call Derek, male 34. They've been dating for about a year and a half, and we, the family, have gotten to know Derek since the beginning of this year. We all love Derek, especially my dad and I. We watched F1 every weekend together with the rest of our friends. The engagement was announced about 3 weeks ago. We were all obviously excited. 2 weeks ago at the last GP, I was talking to Derek, and at some point, reason I might be an a-hole, my mind slipped, and I said something along the lines of, it's great you found someone you love so much you would abandon having children. Oh no, dude. Sadly, my sister had to fight a battle with ovarian cancer when she was 16 to 17, which resulted in the surgical removal of her ovaries, and from what I understand, part of her uterus. Now, I didn't think much about my comment, but turns out she never discussed this with him. It was like I dropped a nuclear bomb of information. He said now it made sense why she always avoided discussing about children. Well, needless to say, the engagement broke, and they have now separated, and in the eyes of my sister and my mother, I'm the a-hole who separated my sister from the love of her life. Wow, and they labeled him everyone. No way OP sucks here. No, I can't believe people would even say OP sucks here. Like, it's not like he intentionally tried to break them up. What? If anyone's the OP here, as bad as it sounds, it's the sister. That's the conversation that the sister needs to have with the boyfriend before they're about to get married. Either way, this was gonna come out and probably end poorly. I mean, it's crazy that they would even get married before having the kid conversation before this. Hold on, I want to read the update. The update has to be crazy. It appears there's been a general consensus that everyone, meaning my sister and I, are assholes. And in retrospective, I cannot disagree. I'm an a-hole for disclosing my sister's medical information behind her back, and she is an a-hole for not discussing such important medical information with significant other. I've sent my sister an apology letter. She hasn't replied yet, but she will. I know her well. I just need to give her some space. As for those calling me a misogynist, F off. Perhaps my choice of words in the post was wrong because my English is my second language. Also, I meant biological children, but don't for a second believe I think my sister is less of a woman because she can't bear children. It's just that she's been through so much suffering and heartbreak because of men who did mistreat her due to her medical condition. I would know I was the one to support her emotionally, not our always busy parents. I was genuinely happy because I had mistakenly thought she found someone who accepts her for who she is. As a result, I made comment during a conversation and made an a-hole of myself. And I cannot blame her for so much for lying either. This is/was her longest lasting relationship. I guess she was terrified of the potential consequences. As for Derek, I talked to him. We're going to hang out this weekend. Plans were made in advance. I'd be letting down a lot of people, and that's not who I am. I'll talk in more detail with him. At worst, there will be some closure. At most, maybe something can be mended. His primary complaint was my sister withholding something so important and her attitude when confronted. He said he didn't think much about the kids prior, and anytime he'd mention it to my sister, she'd answer with something like, we'll see, and so he didn't want to pry into something that made her uncomfortable. He said he needs some space for my sister to rethink and reevaluate how he envisions his future, future. I guess it's a good point. Like, it's not his position to disclose that medical information, but honestly, like, if my sibling was getting married or engaged to somebody, I would think that they knew that medical information. Like, I have to sympathize with OP here because I would probably make the same mistake, low-key. And I don't know, it didn't come across to me that he was being misogynistic. Maybe this is the one where you guys are like, I want his head on a stake, you know? But truthfully, I don't think OP's the a-hole. I want to know about your guys' opinions on this one. This one's crazy. Everyone sucks here. Obviously, your sister shouldn't have lied and should be honest with him, so it's her fault the engagement ended. But also, what a shitty thing to say to someone. Like, not having children is some huge burden, and that your sister needed to do more to justify him marrying her because of her ovarian cancer. I don't know, it didn't come off to me like that. Like, I could definitely tell English was not this person's first language, especially them talking about F1. That's a very European sport. Not that everybody in Europe doesn't speak English. I promise I'm cultured. European people are gonna be like, head on a stake. Am I the a-hole for excluding my new neighbor from stuff and hurting her feelings? Last month, my old neighbors moved out and some new ones moved in. A couple in their late 20s with 4 small children. The wife is a stay-at-home mom and the husband is a trucker. I went to introduce myself and bring them a pie right before they moved in. I didn't really like their vibe, but I'm a friendly person, so I tried inviting the wife to things. Our neighborhood is small, a collection of 10 houses. Everyone knows everyone and is generally pretty friendly. No one else has young kids though. It's mostly couples with no kids or older couples whose kids moved out. I hang out with the 2 of my female neighbors who are similar age to my own, mid-20s. We go on walks, have lunch at each other's houses, etc. I only work 3 days a week, so I have a lot of free time. I invited the new neighbor, Molly, to 2 different things, lunch at my house and also a walk/hike me and the others were going on. Both times, she just assumed she could bring her kids and showed up in my house with them. I turned her away from lunch at my home because I don't want 4 rowdy kids under the age of 6 in my not childproof house. She was upset because she has no one who can ever watch them and she can't come without them. She did bring them on a walk with us, but we couldn't go in the forest because her stroller, so it kind of ruined things for us. There's no trees or shade in the neighborhood and the summer heat makes it off. The forest is much better. Since then, I've been avoiding Molly like the plague. I just don't want to be her friend. She's invited me over, asked to come over, bring her kids. She even asked me to watch her kids the other day so she can have a break. I barely know the woman and I feel like her behavior is pretty inappropriate and she's maybe not picking up on social cues. Today, me and my other neighbors went for a walk in the forest and she saw us go. She texted me to ask why she wasn't invited and I said it's because we don't want our plans to be altered by her children and she's expressed that she can't do anything without her children. She went on a rant about how it takes a village and we don't understand what it's like and she called us all a-holes. I agree with her that I don't understand what it's like because I would personally never choose to have 4 kids with an absent husband. I just feel like she's being unreasonable to expect us to have a bad time just so that she can have a good time. Her kids were super annoying and hard to deal with. My husband thinks she's an a-hole, but my mom thinks I should be more sympathetic. Am I the a-hole for excluding my neighbor from activities? Dang, another one that they labeled everyone sucks, but I don't think OP sucks here. OP just has boundaries. They don't live a lifestyle that's conducive to kids and that's how they want to live their lives. Why should they cater towards these kids and everybody else in the group as well? I just don't think that OP is the a-hole and the only person who's really showing any a-hole symptoms is the Molly. Molly can't expect everybody else to change their plans for her unless they're like family members or really good friends that have been around for a while. These are your neighbors that you just met. And honestly, the way that they explained it to her seemed fair. Oh, hey, this is something we normally do. This is a lifestyle we normally live. And if you're a part of it, it just shifts things. All of it honestly sounds very like high school drama, but I don't know, the suburban mom version of it, I guess. Personally, I'm gonna go with not the a-hole, but let's read the comments because I always read the comments and I feel like I missed something. Both of you are a-holes. Now you clearly saw that the woman had 4 kids and the husband is a truck driver. When you invite her to go places, where the fuck else would the kids be? Come on now. Babysitter. I don't know. How do people not put these things together? Molly, she wasn't an a-hole until the whole watch my kids thing and it takes a village. That's true. I forgot to even mention that. That's really unfair for her to be like, oh, you should come over and watch my kids without any like payment or without you offering or without us being really, really good friends to where I can ask a huge favor like that. Taking care of 4 kids is not just something that you're like, you know what, I'll volunteer for that. Like that, no. It's foolish when you don't even know the people watching your kids. Back to you. The snippy shit about having kids with an absent father is stupid and unnecessary. Okay, I'll agree with that. That's pretty fair. Y'all, you and the Mean Girls Club have every right not to kick it with the lady, but being mad that her kids come along is hella stupid. No, I don't agree with that. It wasn't like they were hella mad about it. They were like, that affects how we do things here, so bye. People are always like, put up boundaries, like, you know, speak your truth, and then when they do, they're like, you're an a-hole. What the? No. This one was juicy, guys. Always drop in the comments your guys' opinions. I always love to hear them. I always say, I could be wrong. Like, I could 100% be wrong. Am I the a-hole for calling my stepsister the ugly stepsister because she freaked out over a nickname? My female 29 family jokingly refers to me as princess / the princess because I have a reputation for being opinionated and sensitive. This is mostly because of sensory issues, so certain noises or textures grate on me to an extent that I will leave the room or avoid touching things. I'm also just a picky person and I like things how I like them, so my stepdad started referring to me as the princess, like, don't open the car window, the princess will get upset. My stepbrothers and mom use it as well. It's a running family joke, well meant. I've never been offended by it in the 15 years it's been a thing. My stepsister Georgia, female 30, hates it. She used to snap whenever anyone said it, but over the years she just started making the odd passive-aggressive comment about it. Everyone ignores it because Georgia has a habit of thinking everything is about her, and if it's not about her, the reason it's not about her is because we all hate her, which then is still about her. So our whole family is visiting my parents in the countryside for a couple of weeks. Georgia has brought her boyfriend Jason along. I've met Jason a couple of times before at dinners, and he's a nice guy, and he fits in well. This morning, me and my mom were making breakfast, and Jason came down to help out. We normally have breakfast in the kitchen / diner, so eventually everyone started gathering at the table. We always make the tea and coffee last so it's hot when we eat, and we had all the mugs out and Jason offered to help make the drinks. I told him not to do mine because I liked it made a very particular way, and he said, okay, princess, I will just watch how you do it so I know for the next time. And we laughed. It was a joke. The next thing we know, Georgia shouts she's sick of everyone calling me that. She then swore at Jason for being just like them. She said, since everyone thinks I'm so special, what does that make her? And I replied, the ugly stepsister, obviously. No one said anything, but Georgia burst into tears, pushed her plate onto the floor, broke it, and went upstairs, and Jason ran after her. He's since come down to apologize for her. She hasn't come out of her room. My stepbrothers are on my side. The parents say I should have just not said anything and she would have calmed down, and that I went too far picking at an insecurity. That might be true, but I'm sick of her making everything about her. The joke doesn't have anything to do with her, and I am, as are my stepbrothers, sick of her acting out to force everyone to behave how she wants them to. So the Reddit thread labeled her as the a-hole. While I do think OP is a little bit of an a-hole, I think this whole situation is just an everyone sucks here. For starters, I don't know if you guys caught this, but OP and Georgia's ages are 29 and 30. I was like, oh yeah, these are like two kids in high school. Maybe one of them's in college, you know, still that immature age. But then I had to like backtrack and reread their ages. I was like, dude, grow up. This is just not something that a 29 and a 30-year-old should get in a fight over. And when I say everyone sucks here, I think it applies to the parents as well. Like, clearly if their kids are like this, they didn't do something right while they were parenting. I'm guessing for Georgia, this is stemming from like a deep-rooted childhood trauma that she feels the need to lash out about still in her 30s. And don't get me wrong, OP is clearly delusional as well. She's talking about how Georgia is making everything about her and how she's sick of it. But literally the first 3 paragraphs, we're talking about how OP always makes everything about her. I'm guessing all of this isn't just stemming from the nickname, it's stemming from the behavior and how the whole family treats it, which is why, yes, OP is an a-hole, but I think everyone sucks here. I think everyone needs therapy. Send them to family therapy. As always, I want to know what you think in the comments below about this post or any other posts. Am I the a-hole for completely ruining my future sister-in-law's bachelorette party? My 28 female life and my parents' marriage was ruined because of an MLM. What happened was my mother joined a supplement MLM, got way into it, drained both my and my brother's 33 male college funds, and went into tens of thousands of dollars of debt to maintain her rank. When my father was injured and had to take some time off work, the house of cards she built came tumbling down. We went from a loving home with 2 parents, a nice house in the suburbs, and at least $20,000 in a college fund to our parents divorcing because she refused to leave the MLM, having to live in a crappy basement in our grandparents' house, and facing the reality of taking student loans if we want to go to college, as well as having to to work as young teens to help provide for our family of 3. So suffice to say, I hate MLMs with a passion. Now to the situation. My brother is marrying his fiance, 29 female of 4 years in 2 weeks. Last Saturday, I was invited to her bachelorette party. She said that she wanted a low-key night at her home with some food, some alcohol, and some fun games. I get there, and including her, there are 14 other women. 3 of them are my cousins who are 19 and 18. After I arrived, I was the last one there because I live 3 hours away. One of the women stood up and said that the fun can now begin. Then she dragged a chest of sex toys and started pitching us her MLM. From the get-go, she said that my sister-in-law agreed to host, and at the end of the night, depending on how much we got, she will get some money to help with her honeymoon. I was fuming. She knew how much both I and my brother hate MLM, so I just stood to leave. Then I told my cousins to grab their bags and follow me. They tried to stop me, sister-in-law and MLM hun, but I just said that we had to leave. But then I couldn't just leave the other woman to be preyed on. So I went on a rant about MLMs, how scammy they are, how I bet after plying them with alcohol, they will be pressured into buying stuff they didn't want, as well as into joining this pyramid scheme. My sister-in-law was teary by then, screaming at me to just leave and that I ruined her bachelorette party. I grabbed my cousins and left, and while I feel a bit bad about ruining her night, I did not feel bad about standing to a scammer at all. My brother says that while he completely understands where I come from and that he had a really big fight with her, I should have just left with my cousins without ruining the night altogether. This one's hard for me because a part of me wants to go with not the a-hole, and I think that's what the Reddit thread actually went with, but also a part of me wants to go with you're an a-hole just because it's this woman's bachelorette party. I mean, whatever she wants to do with the bachelorette party should be what's done with the bachelorette party. Like, I kind of agree with the brother a little bit. They should have just got up and left and not said anything. I don't know. Can I make up a new label? Like, everyone kind of sucks here. Not enough to be an a-hole, but enough to be like, maybe I don't want to hang out with you. The sister-in-law clearly did not communicate that this MLM party was going to happen. Otherwise, OP wouldn't have gone in the first place. And that's something they should have definitely communicated. The MLM chick is just an a-hole because she's pushing an MLM. And then OP stood up for her values and expressed her opinions on MLMs, which is a good thing, I think, but you can also do that in an a-hole way, and I would say this one leans a little bit more towards the a-hole way. Anyways, I'm just making up my own rules. Everyone kinda sucks here, but definitely let me know what you think in the comments below. And hey, if you're still here, that probably means you're enjoying the video or you're a psychopath. Either way, hit the subscribe button down below so you can see my videos every single week. Am I the a-hole for expecting my wife to support my elderly parents? My wife has a high-paying job and earns significantly more than I do. I work as a teacher and make around $40,000 while she works in a private sector and makes about $300,000 to $400,000 after tax. We split our finances equitably, with her paying 70% to my 30%. A little background, her parents both immigrated to this country so she and her sisters could succeed in life, and now all have very high-paying jobs, one working in tech and the other being a surgeon. Meanwhile, my parents worked government jobs, and my sister lives on benefits, so we are a relatively low-income family. My wife did help my younger sister when she became a single mother at a young age by offering her a secretary job at her office, but my sister quit after a month as she found it too difficult, which I can understand as she was raising a baby on her own. Recently, her parents retired, and she and her sister give them around $2,000 every month, which I find ridiculous. They have pensions. Why do they need $6,000? She assured me this money does not come out of our joint account. However, when I brought up that my parents were also retired and could use the help, she told me that if I could afford to send it from my own salary, I should. I was shocked and angry. My parents only had me to depend on while her sisters made a lot of money, so her parents would be fine either way. My wife told me her parents sacrificed a lot by moving to this country. It is her responsibility and my parents should be my responsibility. She says that I'm being an a-hole for asking her to support my parents when she has never put pressure towards me for not contributing more to our household. We had a similar argument before about loaning my sister some money to put a down payment on her house, but my wife said she would not use her money as she thinks my sister is unreliable and won't pay her back. I just don't understand how she can be so cheap because she earns so much more than me. On the Reddit thread, they labeled OP the a-hole. I'm guessing people are going to hate me for this. I was raised on my values, and this is just my opinion. When you marry someone, you're not just marrying them, you're marrying their family, which is is why I want to go with everyone sucks here. Like, I don't think OP should expect his partner to pay, but that's definitely a conversation they should have had before they got married. When you marry someone, their parents become your parents and vice versa. And I think those relationships should bleed down equally on both sides as much as you see fit, right? So like if they would have had a conversation and she would have said, this is how it should be, should we still get married? And he agrees to that, then yes. But personally, I would never want to marry someone like this. If I'm like the wife and I'm making a ton of money, I want to not only support my parents, but my spouse's parents. And vice versa, if I was in OP's situation, I would want my spouse to treat my parents as if they were her parents. Especially in this case where she could definitely afford to support even just a little bit. I don't know, I think that just comes down to values and how you were raised. I know my mom did incredible things for my grandpa on my dad's side who had a lot of health issues, and that's very much bled down into my definition of family and in my opinion how it should be. But let me know in the comments your experience and your opinions. I always like to hear it. I'm always okay with admitting I might be wrong. Am I the a-hole for buying my son a car but not my daughter? I, 47 male, made the same promise to my two kids, Ronan, 21, and Lana, 18. I told them that if they graduated high school with above a 3.5 GPA, I would buy them a new car in addition to a graduation gift. Ronan absolutely rocked high school. He was his class valedictorian, played 3 sports, was captain of the debate team, participated in model UN conferences frequently, was on the student council, and volunteered extensively. He now goes to an Ivy League school with a generous scholarship. Of course, he more than met my requirement, and I bought him a nice car that he chose. Lana, on the other hand, struggled. She needed tutoring all 4 years and barely had any extracurriculars. I'd never say this to her face, but I'm just relieved that she graduated at all. I'm proud of her for working so hard to pass her classes, but she mostly got D's and C's and plans on going to our local community college that basically takes anyone. Unfortunately, she didn't get a high enough GPA to meet my requirements. I did get her a nice graduation gift, but it wasn't nearly as expensive as Ronan's car. When the end of the school year rolled around, Lana started showing me different used cars that she would like. I assumed that she was planning on buying one for herself and wanted my advice, so I worked with her to find one in good condition at a fair price, and she finally picked one out. The trouble came about 2 weeks after she made a decision about her car. She came to me and asked whatever happened to that car I wanted. I was confused and said, I don't know, did you buy it? From there, we both became more and more incredulous until it came out that she'd expected me to buy the car for her. Apparently for years, she had assumed that my promise to buy her a new car if she got a certain GPA meant that I would buy her a used car regardless of her academic accomplishments. She accused me of favoritism and misogyny and said that if Ronan had failed school, her words, like she had, I would have still bought him a car because he's my favorite and also a boy. This is not and was never the case. If she had just asked, I would have made this clear to her. Lana went to the rest of the family with some sob story about favoritism, and now, nearly a month later, my sister, brother, and parents have all chipped in to get Lana a used car. Everyone who chipped in has been very distant to me and Ronan. I've tried to explain myself, but no one will give me the time of day. Ronan is the only one who doesn't think I'm a misogynist and a terrible father. Am I the a-hole? I'm not even trying to be a problem or controversial here, but I've disagreed with like every decision that the Reddit threads have made on the post in this video. And this is another one where I disagree. Everyone labeled the dad as the a-hole, saying that they should have cut the daughter some slack. Some people aren't as academically gifted. I would disagree. I honestly think this is good parenting. He set the boundary. He set the level. 3.5 GPA or nothing. Do I agree with 3.5 GPA being the only requirement that a kid should be able to live up to? Absolutely not. But I kind of get it. It can directly correlate to how much the parents are contributing to college. He set his level. The daughter clearly knew that level and she just didn't meet it. It's honestly wrong of her to expect that the dad is just gonna crumble. I don't know, maybe I'm an a-hole, but I think that's just good parenting. Teaching your kids that there are things you gotta work to in life. I actually think it would have been worse for the daughter if he just handed her this car on a silver platter. That being said, when I have kids, I want to set up something like this for them, but it's not going to be completely GPA based. Don't even get me started about grades and the school system and how stupid it all is. I also think 3.5 is a little too high, but hey, his house, his rules. Am I the a-hole for pre-gaming my wife's dinners? My wife and I are both 32. Since we got married and moved in together 5 months ago, my wife has simply not made nearly enough food for me. This is not a kind of situation where I'm constantly agitated at her for incompetence or anything like that. My wife has, every single night of our marriage, done the same thing. She'll make me a tiny dinner. I'm talking a Chinese chicken salad with 30 grams of chicken and 10 leaves of lettuce arranged fashionably with dressing. When I finish eating, I'm still hungry because for a 230-pound man who works a physical labor job, it's not enough food. At first, I tried to openly communicate with her, but she always took it horribly. She would adopt a 1,000-yard stare and then begin talking about how incompetent she is and how she can't even make her husband a proper dinner. I tried to calm her down with, oh honey, that's Oh, time to wake up. I tried to calm her down with, oh, honey, that's not the case. I just eat too much. Or, don't worry about it. I can make a bit more. I tried to be overwhelmingly positive. It never helped. She would always just get incredibly disappointed in herself, cry, and or take it out on me. Then she would make the same exact amount the following day. After the communication route failed, I tried to eat her dinners as is. It became hard to sleep at night due to hunger, and I lost 7 pounds in the first month. Eventually, I figured out my own system. On my way home from work, I started swinging by a fast food restaurant and getting myself a burger. I would basically pre-game her meals with some more calories. I figured it was a win-win, as what she doesn't know can't hurt her, and I could have my fill of food. I would eat on my way home, walk in the door, pick at the salad or homemade mac and cheese she made, compliment her for her delicious cooking, and later dispose of the wrappers discreetly. 2 days ago, I was on my way home and in line at a drive-thru. My mother-in-law was coming out of the restaurant. She ran over and greeted me. I asked her in a humorous way not to tell her daughter where she saw me because she'd take it badly, and she agreed. But then she narked on me anyway. I got home to a furious wife who demanded details. When I provided the truth, she got extremely angry and looked legitimately hurt. I'm not good at handling confrontation and feel like I betrayed my wife in some way. I almost want to go with not enough information on this because there is something going on with that wife. This could be a couple of different avenues. Like maybe she has anorexia and it's bleeding into her partner in the way that she feeds her partner. Maybe she's low-key manipulative and wants her husband to lose weight on her terms. I don't know. There has to be something. Like, how does OP tell his wife what the problem is and then the wife doesn't make any effort to fix it? Actually, now that I'm like saying that, I think I have to go with not the a-hole. Not the a-hole, but also get more information on your wife. Maybe send her to therapy. There's definitely something there that needs to get worked out. That's the root of the entire problem. The last line kind of got me, the way he said he feels like he betrayed his wife. Let me know in the comments if you think OP betrayed his wife and if they're the a-hole or not. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend to stop flaunting her money and calling her a gold digger? I, 39 female, have been BFFs with Jill, 40 female, since we were in high school. Between the two of us, she's always been a bombshell. Blonde, tall, slim, big boobs, etc. She never dated anyone in high school, which was weird to me because almost everyone in our school did, including myself. When we were in college, she was still turning guys down and I asked her why, and she said she wants someone who is financially stable. I laughed it off at the time. I should also mention she grew up poor, as in her mother was going to a food bank poor. After we graduated, she got a job at a gym teaching yoga. I continued my education to be a teacher. She eventually met someone at the gym and he's rich. Like, I can't even comprehend the kind of money this guy has. Fast forward to now, they're married with 2 kids, and I believe she signed a prenup when they married. We were out to dinner on the Saturday that just passed with 2 other friends from college, and she wanted to go to a very expensive place. Her treat. She does this a lot. Flaunts her money, clothes, trips, etc. I always try to smile and ignore it, but it has been slowly bothering me. The dinner was going fine until one of our friends, Amanda, asked Jill what she was planning on doing for her birthday. Jill said her and her husband were going to Greece for 3 weeks. Amanda and Sharon both made comments about how nice and lovely that is, and I kind of scoffed at it. When Jill asked me what was wrong, I admittedly lost it. I told her I'm tired of her flaunting her money at everybody all the time, and everyone knows she only married her husband for money. It got very quiet for a couple of seconds, and to my surprise, Jill very calmly asked if that's what everyone really thought. I said yes. Jill then asked if it was at all possible that she initially dated him for his money, but fell in love with him along the way. Both our other friends said, of course. At the same time, I said no. I told her she fell in love with what he could provide for her. She then stood up and said she had other places to be and not to worry about the bill. She left, and the 3 of us finished our meal in silence. When the server came around, she handed me the bill for my meal only. She paid for herself and the other 2, but left me to pay for an almost $50 meal that I couldn't afford. I texted her and called her an a-hole. She replied saying not to message her again until I apologized for my earlier comments. If you've been watching my videos for a while, you know that these are my favorite types of posts. The ones where they write out literal paragraphs about how much of an a-hole they've been and then clicked post on Reddit, still thinking, people will be on my side. So many things wrong with this. For starters, it's not flaunting to take your friends to a nice place and offer to pay. That's called being a really nice friend. You should appreciate that. And then OP saying all these terrible things and still expecting Jill to pick up the bill. That was a nice rhyme. Jill to pick up the bill. Jill to pick up the bill.
You assuming I'm a human. What I gotta do to get it through to you? I'm superhuman.
The audacity, bro. Like, how are you gonna say all those awful things and still expect her to pay for you? Also, it's super important to note that Jill didn't just bring up out of the blue that she's going to Greece. Like, her friends asked what she was doing for her birthday and then she responded. That's not flaunting, that's answering a question. OP is definitely the a-hole here. I can tell just by how this was written that they're jealous, they're insecure, and they need therapy because this is not how you treat a friend. Do you agree with my verdict? Definitely let me know in the comments below. And hey, if you're still here, probably means you're enjoying the video even a little bit. If you could do me a favor, hit that subscribe button so you can see my videos every single week. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my wife after she blew up my phone with calls because of a fire? I work in a place where we are not allowed to have personal electronics on us at all. No phones, no smartwatches, no pagers. Who the hell still has a pager? What the? I've been working here for about 6 months, so my wife knows this and understands that she should not try to contact me by my cell at work. Phones are dropped off in our lockers, and I typically have mine on Do Not Disturb. Before this incident, my phone has never gone off in the locker before. Recently, there was a pretty big fire at a secondary work site that I do work at occasionally, but that day I was working at the main building. Local news covered the fire before I found out about it because, again, no electronics. Plus, the work we do isolates us a bit, so news travels pretty slow. There were a few casualties and a lot of seriously injured folk. My wife had been watching the news from home and started freaking out. She called me 20 freaking times, which, and I did not know this was possible, overrode my DND and my phone was ringing for a while in my locker. In the middle of my shift, I got called into my manager's office and was chewed out and written up for my phone making so much noise. They told me to go take care of whatever it was making my phone go off before I went back to work. I won't lie, when I saw those 20 missed calls from my wife, I was seriously pissed off. Like I said, she knows not to try to contact me directly, and a citation hurt my chances of getting a raise or a promotion. I called her back and she was sobbing and asking me if I was okay. I said of course I was okay and asked what the F was wrong with her trying to call me so many times. She was still crying and started talking about the fire. After that, I started half yelling at her about all the reasons it was dumb of her to call me. When I got home, she was super upset with me. I apologized for yelling, but she refused to talk. She's been very chilly the past few days and sleeping in our daughter's room. I know it was not the best decision to yell at her, but I still think my anger is justified. 1, she knows I don't work in the secondary worksite very often. 2, she knows I can't be contacted directly and she should have just called the office. 3, 20 phone calls is absolutely insane. So the Reddit thread labeled this one as "you're the a-hole," which I do have to agree with to an extent. While your wife's behavior was a little irrational, it was all coming from the fact that she loves you and cares about you and wanted to make sure you were okay, which was then met by you yelling at her and calling her dumb, which is terrible. Nobody should do that. Nobody wants that. Could the wife have maybe been a little bit more rational about it? Yeah, but I don't think you can expect anybody who thinks their spouse might be dead to act rationally. I think there could potentially be an argument for everyone sucks here if you want to claim that the wife is being an a-hole, and also the manager. What kind of manager gives someone a citation because their phone is ringing in their locker? Especially after you guys just had employees die. Like, what? So stupid. That's why I could see there's an argument for everyone sucks here, but I want to know what you think in the comments below. Am I the a-hole for upgrading my house's thermostat so I could password protect it from my wife? My wife, 26 female, and I, 28 male, have been married for about half a year now. This summer has been quite hot, and so like most people, we have been running our air conditioner nearly around the clock. My wife and I have very different ideas of how we should run it though. Using energy saver recommendations, I like to keep it at around 76 Fahrenheit and on low. My wife likes to turn it down to 60 degrees and blast it on the highest setting, then turn it off when she gets cold, then turn it back on again when she gets hot. I've tried discussing this with her, but there's literally nothing I can do or say to convince her. She currently stays at home taking care of the house while I go to work, and the second I'm out the door, the thermostat is messed with. I've tried showing her our exorbitantly, oh my, what the f? I've tried showing her our I've tried showing her our expensive power bill, but she doesn't care. She says that she's at home all day, and so she should have control over it. We've argued about this on and off since. About 3 weeks ago, I got a reservation for a new digital thermostat installation. The guys finally came in a few days ago and installed a new smart thermostat off of our older air conditioning unit. The first thing I did was password protect it, so you would need a PIN to change any of the settings. My wife came home a few hours ago after I had set the PIN and noticed the new unit. When she tried to change the settings, chatting, she was met with a request for a pin and she asked me what it was. I told her that I wouldn't be telling her that. Then she asked what she should do if she gets hot. I responded that she can still turn the air conditioning on and off without the pin. The next morning, I left for work as normal, setting it to 76. When I got home in the afternoon, I found my wife on the living room floor pantomiming a fainting spell. She mustered the energy to say, "Help, water." I ignored her because you can't faint from heat in a climate-controlled room. When she realized I wouldn't give her attention, she exploded in anger and yelled that she could have died, prompting another argument. She ended it with calling me controlling and hasn't said more than a word to me since. And if you look to our left, you'll see OP and his wife acting like children. Like, bro, come on. What is this post? I know everybody likes to laugh at those like dad with the thermostat memes, but OP has really taken it to a new level. OP definitely earned the a-hole title with that one. Like, bro, it's both of your guys' houses. Give her the pin. But then they're both just collectively a-holes for not being able to compromise like grown adults. Hey, if you like 76 and you like 60, let's meet in the middle. Wow. Who would have thought of that? Oh, some idiot YouTuber on the internet. Yeah, this is just stupid. Just grow up. Am I the a-hole for asking a female coworker if they could possibly leave me alone? Long story short, I am not exactly comfortable around women, and I do what I can to minimize my interactions with females as much as I can. Has nothing to do with capabilities or anything. I just get extremely uncomfortable. We have a new hire that's been trying to get to know people around the office better, and I happen to just excuse myself when she comes around. Thankfully, I work in the field a lot, so I'm often alone. So it does not happen often, but when I do come to the office, she keeps trying to befriend me or talk to me. I am civil and polite. I say hello and can handle idle chit chat, even if it is visibly uncomfortable for me. She brought this up with my friend in the office and he explained the situation. And since then, it seems she has made it her mission to have me open up. On Friday, I asked if she could leave me alone, please, that I have no intention to become her friend or open up. She lashed out and called me a misogynistic a-hole. I thought it over the weekend and have been racking my brain. Am I really the a-hole for not wanting to put myself in uncomfortable situations if I can avoid it? If I have to take her out in the field or help explain my drafts, I will push through since it is work related. I still get uncomfortable, but it is what it is. Those are situations I cannot avoid, but general interactions, I do not think it is wrong of me to limit those when possible. On the other hand, I also understand this is a me problem. I go to therapy, but that only does so much. This is something rooted in trauma, and I am not comfortable writing about it. She should not be punished for my own issues. So the Reddit thread labeled OP as the a-hole, I don't agree with that whatsoever. Everybody who was commenting on this thread was just completely ignoring OP's trauma and saying he's a terrible person for not just overcoming it. Like, what the? Look, I don't want to be that guy, but I also want to advocate for men's mental health. I think there's a high chance if OP was a female afraid of male coworkers, nobody would say they're the a-hole. But since it's the opposite, y'all aren't willing to go to bat for OP's mental health. It's not like OP's being mean about it. It's not like the situation hasn't been explained to this coworker. If anything, the coworker's kind of being an a-hole. It's like the extrovert that tries to pry everything out of the introvert. Like, bro, if he doesn't want to be your friend, he doesn't want to be your friend. It's not a challenge. Go be friends with somebody else. OP is actively in therapy trying to overcome this trauma, whatever it may be. I see no inklings of a-hole here. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed of this thread. Male mental health issues are also serious, and it's a little disappointing to see the internet not support that. Going with not the a-hole here, I think OP just politely set their boundaries, and the other person took it the wrong way. But as always, I want to know what you think in the comments below. Maybe I missed something. Am I the a-hole for telling my poor friend that he's actually the privileged one now? One of my very close friends, Nathan, 29 male, and I, 28 male, met during our first post-college job at a prestigious finance firm. We immediately bonded over the long work hours, crappy middle management, and general soul-sucking nature of making PowerPoint slides and Excel sheets all day. For the next few years, a lot of our friendship revolved around us talking about work and how much we hated it. A few years ago, I decided that I just couldn't take the corporate grind anymore, and I quit my job to move into the nonprofit world. While I now certainly make less than I would have at my old job, I am exponentially happier, healthier, and absolutely love the work that I do. I also still make a very good salary, $80,000 a year, which I feel is more than enough money for me and my needs. Nathan has been ambitiously climbing the corporate ladder and recently became a VP at his firm. He makes well over $300,000 a year. Nathan grew up in a very poor family, and his relatives are still financially unstable successful and often ask him for money. I, on the other hand, grew up in a comfortable, upper middle class suburb with parents who have always been financially stable. They're not millionaires, but if anything ever happened to me, they could and would help me until I could go back on my feet. Nathan does not have that privilege. I recently got offered my dream job where I would be making slightly less money than I am now, $75,000 a year. Despite the money, I am genuinely giddy about this job prospect and was pumped to tell my friends. However, when I told Nathan, his response was, "I'm glad you have the financial privilege to take a pay cut." Not, "Wow, OP, I know you've really wanted this job for months now and have told me all about how excited you are about it. Congratulations," or anything along those lines. I'll admit that I snapped back at him and told him that he makes triple the amount of money that I do and that at some point he needs to realize he's now got privileges of his own instead of pointing out mine. The conversation got a bit heated and we agreed to hang up and cool off before talking it over later. Now I'm wondering if I should apologize to Nathan for what I said or if I should stand my ground. I'm feeling angry and a bit defensive, which I realize is exactly the reaction that a spoiled rich kid would have. However, I also do think it was a bit mean of him to say that at the exact moment when I was so excited. And while generational wealth does give privileges that income alone does not, he literally does make over triple the amount of money that I now make. So it seems a tiny bit hypocritical for him to be calling me privileged. This one has an update. Before I get in the update, just kind of general opinions about when I first read this. You could make arguments on both sides about one person being the a-hole or the other. Clearly what Nathan said was just uncalled for. And I do think OP is right. He should have just in the moment been happy for his friend. But on the other side, OP doesn't know what it was like for Nathan growing up in a non-upper middle class family that didn't have financial problems. And this is coming from somebody who grew up in upper middle class and have heard stories from my friends about the financial instability that they had to go through when they were kids. No matter how much you hear about it, I will never truly be able to experience the emotions and negative experiences that brought on those people. So I guess everyone sucks here. I also just think it doesn't matter. What matters is Nathan a friend that you want to keep forever? Because if that's the case, I definitely think it's worth it just to take the high ground and be like, hey, I was the a-hole. Let's reconvene. The update. Nathan's been my buddy for years through thick and thin, and so I called him back up to apologize. I mentioned that I really didn't know what his experience had been like and that I was proud of him for all he's accomplished and that I just felt a little hurt and unsupported when he called out my privilege from the get-go instead of just being happy for me. I felt like he was minimizing my success, but it turns out he's just been having a tough time at work and didn't respond in the best way to my job news. He apologized too, and we had a really nice conversation. I think that since we started our careers at the same place and time, it's easy for us to compare ourselves, and we're both guilty of competitive comparison game with each other. Anyway, it's all good now, and I think we've opened up a good dialogue where I can learn more about my buddy's past and what it's been like for him and try to support him with some of the mental struggles of coming from poverty. Also, Nathan and I will be going to a baseball game next week, and he offered to buy the tickets because he's loaded, and I'm a non-profit schlub. Both his words, both said with love. All right, cool. I'm glad it all worked out. Clearly, this was a good enough friend to keep around. Am I the a-hole for asking my friend if she's pregnant? My, male 25, friend, female 23, usually goes to the gym regularly and parties a lot. Lately, I've noticed that she stopped drinking and smoking. She stopped heavy lifting and going to the gym as regularly as she used to. On top of that, lately, she'll often excuse herself to go to the toilet, presumably to throw up. And I've noticed she got a bit thicker and watery. Don't get me wrong, I'm not jabbing her looks. It's just something I've noticed. Her chest is also noticeably grown. We were out the other week and I noticed she didn't even touch her Red Bull. So I pulled her to the side to have a private conversation and asked her if she was pregnant. She immediately flipped out and denied it. Right after that, she went home and I covered for her when the group asked me why she went home. I texted her later that same night if I had overstepped and she simply replied, "You literally called me fat douchebag." I never did such a thing, but I simply let her be instead of arguing. Today, another friend told me she indeed is pregnant, and I don't know what to make of her reaction towards me when I asked her in a 4-eye conversation. Edit, for those curious, when I asked her, I verbatim said, "I noticed you've been excusing yourself pretty often lately and are avoiding some things. Could it be that you are pregnant?" This one's hard because I don't think OP is being malicious at all or his intentions are malicious, but he did everything wrong here. So like unintentionally, you're the a-hole? Is that a thing? Probably not. At the end of the day, it's not really your business. It doesn't sound like she had a spouse or anything like that. So sharing something like that is up to their discretion on their own time. They'll bring it up with you when they feel comfortable. You don't want to be that guy. I also think your verbatim asking them if they're pregnant was not good at all. You did not tee that up well. You gotta like literally lead with like, hey, I haven't noticed any body changes, but I did notice you're not drinking alcohol. You're not smoking. I don't see you at the gym. You excuse yourself from the table. That just led me to the conclusion that you're may be pregnant. Like, if you're going to ask, which you shouldn't, that's the way. So yeah, unintentionally the a-hole, once again, making up my own acronyms because I can. But I want to know what you think in the comments below about this post or any other post in my videos. And hey, if you're still here watching the video, enjoying the video, hit that subscribe button so you can see my videos every single week. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to split my jackpot win with my husband's friend? My female 30 played the lottery for the first time last year when everyone was talking about the Powerball jackpot. Since then, I've played casually, only spending a few dollars a week. I occasionally won a few bucks and never really expected to win anything big, but it was nice to dream as I had a ton of debt and have been struggling a lot. Fast forward to a few months ago, I checked the winning numbers one night against my ticket and it matched with my numbers perfectly. Initially, I didn't believe it and thought there had to be a mistake, so I told my husband, male 35, and we checked it like a dozen times, and I was right. We won. It's life-changing, multi-generational FU money. We instantly agreed to keep the news to ourselves and wait a few months before we did anything. The past few months have been an incredible high, filled with disbelief, and though it's been difficult, we have managed not to make any large purchases or change our lifestyle. We fantasize about what to do with our money, but the time to claim is drawing near, so we have begun having more practical decisions about how to claim it and what to do with it. While discussing, my husband Adam brought up that he thinks it would be a good idea to split the money with his best friend slash business partner, Tim. Tim and Adam have been friends since they were in middle school and have done everything together ever since. Together, they've started businesses, worked together, invested money, moved to the same town, and have often dreamt about our families making it big together. Since we have to take risks together and are so close, Adam feels it's fair to give them 1/3 of the cash prize so that 1, we are not going on this journey to a new life alone. 2, it's suspicious to make all this money suddenly and more easily explained if Tim makes money as well since we do everything together. I, however, feel it's risky to share that we have come into this money with them because Tim's family tends to be more flashy and like showing off, and I don't fully trust that they will keep it quiet or modest enough to not raise suspicion. This is important because I've seen community members harass and attack people with far less money just because they feel entitled. This could jeopardize our safety, so I want to avoid it if at all possible. Also, I'm not really comfortable with his plan to add Tim and his wife as members of our LLC to claim the prize because I think it could have them feeling entitled to a bigger chunk or take the money. Adam thinks I'm being selfish and he won't enjoy our newfound wealth if his friend isn't living the same lifestyle, but I think we could find a way to later give them some money after figuring out a way to explain how we came into money without telling them we won the lottery. I'm rolling with not the a-hole. Further, I think it's so unbelievably suspect that your husband wants to share the money. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a terrible person, but if I came into like a large sum of money, I wouldn't want to just fork over some of it to my friends. Like, there's ways to keep it secret without giving it to other people. It just doesn't really make a ton of sense in my head. Also, as somebody with an LLC, terrible idea to add them on as joint owners because yeah, I think they would have rights to bigger chunks of the money. I think there needs to be some lawyers involved here, some financial advice that is obviously more sound than some guy on YouTube. But from what I know, this is not a great idea. I don't think OP's being selfish for wanting to keep everything in-house and prioritizing their safety. I don't know why, but it just rubs me very wrong that the husband is so upset over this. There are ways to maintain your wealth and share it without actually actively like giving them a huge chunk of ownership. But that raises a good question. If you won the lottery, would you give your best friend a part of it? Definitely let me know in the comments below. Am I the a-hole for bullying the police into pressing charges against a bunch of kids? This past winter, I had a pool installed at my house. About a month ago, I had to travel for work and was gone for about 2 weeks. I came back to find my backyard trashed, and it seems someone had a pool party while I was gone. The locks on my gates were broken, but luckily no one broke into my house. I checked my security cameras and saw at least 20 teens having an all-day party that lasted late into the night. I did not give permission for anybody to be at my house, so I was mad. My cameras are HD, so their faces were clearly visible, and I recognized some of the neighborhood. I went to the police and submitted a copy of the recordings and tried to file a report. The cops did their best to try to talk me out of it, but I pressed them until they relented and took a report. Weeks passed by, and I heard nothing, so I called them to find out nothing has been done. I got angry and threatened to sue unless they got off their behinds and enforced the laws. I should point out that I live in a town of about 2,000 people, and nothing ever happens here. The cops are not understaffed or too busy on other cases. I also know I probably can't sue the cops into doing their jobs, but I lose nothing by threatening a lawsuit, and I was mad at the time. Finally, they got some of the teens seen on my security video, but again, they tried to talk me out of pressing charges. I was adamant and insist they file charges. When my girlfriend found out about the situation, she said I should have let it go, and we got into an an argument about it. My own mother thinks I'm being a bully by forcing the cops to file charges against some teens who just wanted to throw a party. Virtually everyone I know is making me out to be some grumpy guy with a score to settle, and I kid you not, everyone in my life is trying to talk me out of it. They're worried about me destroying these teens' future over a pool party. I don't know when it became okay to break into somebody's property. Right now, it feels like it's me against the entire world. In my opinion, not the a-hole. OP is fully in their rights to press or not press charges as they see fit. It might be a little bit of a crappy move to potentially ruin these kids' futures with a charge, but they're in their full right to do so. Yeah, kids are stupid, but at the end of the day, they chose to do that. I do think OP maybe could have taken an extra step and gone and found the kids, found their parents, presented it to them, and give them the opportunity to not press charges. Maybe just be like, hey, pay for damages and make your kid mow my lawn, do my landscaping, something like that. Because I do think like a kid will learn better from that and not mess up their future. But who knows? Maybe their parents are crappy, especially from this update. I'm so glad I posted my situation here. Many of you pointed out that the cops might know the kids, so that's why they're dragging the case. I never thought of that because I've only lived here for 2 years. I called my buddy who grew up and still lives here, so I invited him to dinner tonight. I asked him about my situation and showed him my security video. He immediately said that about half of the high school senior class was in the video. His kids are in the same high school, and he recognized the daughter and niece of the mayor. He also told me that he thinks a couple of the kids belong to the local prominent families, one of which own one of the local grocery stores. We talked about it, and I decided to take your advice and drop my complaint in exchange for the parents paying for the damages. I'll call the cops tomorrow about it. There is a post below about someone's uncle living in Oklahoma who made a complaint and subsequently got pulled over repeatedly for phantom traffic violations. That really opened my eyes, and I definitely do not want that to happen to me. Yeah, catch me dead if I'm ever living in a small town. I hate stupid stuff like this. Good on OP to kind of meet in the middle, be like, hey, I want something to be done, but I don't necessarily have to press charges. A lot of it seemed also maybe a little bit selfish, not in a bad way. I want to know what you guys think in the comments below about this as well as the update.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to my sister's child-free wedding despite not having kids? For some background, I'm the youngest of 4 girls. My older sisters, 32 and 30, both have kids. My third sister, 27, doesn't and is getting married at the end of the month. I, 23, also don't have children, but my partner and I hope to have some in the future. Oldest sister lives overseas with her husband and is mostly irrelevant in this situation. Her and sister 3 don't speak. Anyways, sister 3 is having a child-free wedding. She is aggressively child-free. We don't really get along. So basically our parents are old farts, LOL, I love them, and can no longer drive. I can't drive either, but my husband can, as can my older sister. She's a single mom though and has no watch her kids. My husband and soon-to-be brother-in-law hate each other. They grew up together and there's just a lot of hard feelings there. So my husband wasn't going to the wedding. I was going to have him drop me off. In the end, last weekend, after months of anxiety, I said I would stay with the kids so my parents and sister could go. She will drive them and attend in my place. Once we decided, my husband gave the okay to work on the day of the wedding. My sister lost it at that, then decided she would have someone else drive our parents and me to come. I told her no. My older sister wants to go. I'd rather her there anyway. Sister lost it and said I was being selfish. I then told her I didn't see the point in going to an event half the family would be missing from anyways, referencing the kids. She said it shouldn't matter to me because I don't have kids. I then said they were better company than her and point blank refused to attend her wedding, even if the kids have a babysitter, which sister is now off. I do have to say the older sister has solutions. Like she was like, I would be willing to pay for a babysitter. Even if your family's not super close, I could understand how you would want everybody at your wedding, but super confusing situation. I can see why they labeled her the a-hole here. It's your sister's wedding that only happens once. I feel like that's the bare minimum of a decent family. I don't see why they can't all go to the wedding and find a babysitter. Yeah, the fact that the sister offered to pay for a babysitter gives nobody any type of excuse. Let's read this edit. Everyone who was asking about the drama between my husband and brother-in-law, here you go. I had to get permission from my sister-in-law before I could share. My sister-in-law, husband's sister, and soon-to-be brother-in-law, sister's husband, dated in high school. He got her pregnant and dipped. Wait. That changes a lot. He tried to force an abortion on her, accused her of cheating, the whole shebang. Yikes, and that person is gonna be in your family? When she had the baby, she had a DNA test done and sued him for child support. The entire time he's slandering her name, making her feel horrible, tried to force her to put their son up for adoption. When their son was 5 months old, he passed away due to an undetected medical issue. She was suffering, hospitalized. All right, now I have a lot less sympathy for the sister and the brother-in-law, bro. That is terrible. Brother-in-law made a post about being free from the shackles of his bank draining baby mama and went on a partying streak to celebrate. So this dude's child dies and he celebrated. Nah, bro, I take it back. I'm going with not the a-hole. If this were my sister, I would be like, hell no. Are you kidding me? This is terrible. Insists that she's a bad mom even now and has never once visited his son's grave and skipped his funeral. Didn't tell his own family members that he'd passed away and they almost missed his funeral. My husband effing hates him. He ended up having to work overtime, pay for the funeral as a 15-year-old because brother-in-law refused to step up. My sister-in-law is still recovering, no thanks to him, but has welcomed a baby girl in the past year and she is an amazing mom. The term bad blood is an understatement. Absolutely. I'm going with not the a-hole anymore. After that, him celebrating when his son died is disgusting. If she just didn't want to go because of the guy her sister's marrying, just be honest and blame it on babysitting kids. That's also true. That's more of a reason not to go. If you don't condone the marriage and maybe you've even like, hey, I'm not gonna go. My husband has a huge problem with this person. God, family Christmases must be awkward. Not the a-hole 1000%. Yeah, I agree with that. I think what Jules said is really important. OP has to be honest to why they actually don't want to go. OP needs to communicate that. Both are crazy. Yeah, I mean, maybe they belong together. Hey, the sister also hates kids. So maybe she's on his side. That sounds like a terrible sister. Am I the a-hole for freaking out when my wife locked her son out of the house at the night after he drank alcohol? I'm male 39, have a 16-year-old son with my wife, female 40. This incident happened a few days ago and she's still mad at me. I was on a work trip, so my wife was at home with our son. When I got back, I found out he had been hanging out with his friends and they convinced him to drink some beer and he got a little drunk. I'm not saying what he did was right, but him and I had to talk about it and it's fine. Problem is that when he came home and my wife found out, she was furious and kicked him out and refused to let him back in until the morning. He was begging her to let him in, but she wouldn't. I found out, I was furious. Regardless of what he did, she made a slightly drunk teenager stay outside by himself at night. Something very bad could have happened to him. We had a huge argument over it. I asked her how the hell she thought that was okay. She just kept saying that it's our son's fault for drinking alcohol. My wife isn't really talking to me now. My son isn't talking to his mom. I feel like I'm in the right, but maybe I'm not. Am I the a-hole? Thread labeled him not the a-hole. I think I have to agree with that. Like, there's no reason to lock your teenage son outside. That's like not a normal punishment. You wouldn't do that punishment anyways. Like, there's so many other ways that you can punish your son for drinking alcohol. If he had drank alcohol and then drove, maybe I could see this a little bit more. Leslie Mahaffey, a victim of serial killers Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka, was locked out of her house by her parents the night they kidnapped her. They took turns making videos of them and torturing her for days before they killed her. Have your wife research that case and I bet she never locks him out again. That's so terrifying. Yeah, at the end of the day, your punishment can't endanger your kids' overall safety. The correct punishment for a drunk teen is a relatively loud awakening and chores first thing in the morning. Educate them about the dangers of underage drinking and the consequences of drinking in general, starting with targeting a potential hangover. Your wife needs some serious therapy if she thinks that's an appropriate punishment. Am I the a-hole for saying my wife will quit her job if we get booted from another daycare? My wife and I have a 3-year-old daughter, Alexis. Both of us work and Alexis has attended daycare since she was 1. In the 2 years since, we have been asked to leave 2 programs because my wife is a micromanager. I admit both of us went into the first program not really understanding daycare. I quickly learned that they can't provide personalized care, and after learning from our teachers, I reset my expectations. My wife, however, has a lot of anxieties and worries about our daughter. She hates when she gets even a little upset. She's in therapy and working on it. Okay, that's cool. First program, my wife would constantly watch the live feed and call the daycare multiple times a day. We had several talks about it and the school talked to us twice. My wife ended up screaming at one of the teachers. Another child took a toy away from Alexis and she would cry. The teacher would give the toy back to Alexis, but my wife didn't understand why the other child wasn't punished for it. This daycare didn't kick us out, but did eventually suggest that maybe this would be the best program for us. My wife and I decided to pull Alexis out. We chose a smaller home daycare this time. We couldn't afford another center. The woman who owns it is very nice, but also firm. She stands by her boundaries and won't let my wife break any rules, whereas the centers were definitely more accommodating. I thought all was well as the owner only sees my wife for most of the part. Then I got put into a group text saying my wife has been bombarding the owner with text every day. She said at this point, she will only be responding at specific times of the day and not looking at her phone the rest. I think they meant to say like the owner added to this text message several pages of the contract with passages highlighted, reminding us of certain policies my wife has violated. My wife and I talked. I said this was our last option for daycare. The other centers are too expensive, and this was the only home daycare in the area that we like. A nanny is not in our budget. My wife made a million excuses, including that it's not her fault. She's anxious. I said if we are asked to leave this program too, my wife will be the one quitting her job to watch Alexis, not me. This upset my wife. I pointed out I've spoken to her kindly about this plenty of times. I encourage her to keep up with her therapy, but she can't keep getting us kicked out of programs. My wife is now not speaking to me. Edit, I cannot be the primary contact for daycare due to not being able to have my phone on me at work. I'm leaning towards not the a-hole, but I think it's a little aggressive for OP to be like, yo, you gotta quit your job. Because I sympathize with the wife, like it isn't her fault. Anxiety is just something that people feel, but she also needs to come to an understanding that if you want it done a certain way, do it yourself. And that would require you to quit your job. I think there's nicer ways to get to that conclusion, not the way that OP got there. Not the a-hole to keep it 100% honest with you. 20 years down the line, your daughter is going to hate your wife and there's a high chance she will not be a part of your lives. Wow, that is an incredible statement to make from some text on an internet forum. Yo, not to predict the future or anything. That is so funny. Like, how would you possibly know that? Your wife is the exact definition of a toxic helicopter parent. She's going to not only ruin your life already in that process, your daughter's life in the future, and her own life. This is 100% not the a-hole. OP's wife isn't just a helicopter parent, but a steamroller. She will steamroll any and all the challenges her daughter will ever face, making sure that their daughter is either terrified of the world or completely incapable of dealing with any kind of disappointment / challenge or both. OP needs to do something now if he wants a relationship with his daughter. If you guys have any opinions, drop it in the comments. I'm gonna go to the next one. Am I the a-hole for refusing to forgive a debt that will cost my sister a house? My mother died about 2 months ago. She didn't leave behind much other than a paid-for house worth about $180,000 and a little money in the bank. Mom announced a couple years ago that she intended to leave her house to my sister Sarah, who takes care of her severely disabled son full-time. Mom said that she wanted to make sure they had a roof over their heads and the rest of her kids could make it on their own. Sarah does a lot and has said many times that she wouldn't have been able to make it without mom. When mom died, she had some bills outstanding, but her biggest debt was that she owed me $37,000. I had loaned her the money so that she could fix her plumbing and septic system, as well as making the house more handicap friendly for Sarah and Jeremy. Mom had been paying me back every month. Here's the problem. If I file a claim against her estate like any other creditor would do, my brother, John, mom's executor, would have no choice but to pay it. But to do so, he would have to sell the house since there isn't money in the estate to pay it any other way, which means that Sarah and Jeremy would have to find a different place to live. I know mom wanted Sarah to have the house. There's also the issue that mom's will said Sarah got the house, but any money in the estate would be split evenly between the 4 of us. So technically, we think that means Sarah wouldn't actually get anything. John is talking to a lawyer to make sure he is reading that right. Sarah is also concerned that if she did get a large amount of money, John and I both said we would give her whatever we got from the house if it does get sold, but interfere with the help she gets from the government. Oh, John and Sarah are both pushing me to not file a claim against the estate, but if I don't, then the loan basically goes away. Sarah has said that she will pay it back to me and would even sign a new loan. The trouble is that I don't believe her. She has borrowed money before and never paid it back, not because she doesn't want to, but because she can't afford to. She struggled with money living with my mom, so it is going to be even worse with her without mom paying bills in the house as well. If I don't file a claim, I will be out $37,000, and that is far more than I want to hand over as a gift, even to my sister. I've told John and Sarah that I'm officially filing a claim on Monday morning. They are both calling me a greedy a-hole and telling me that I am ignoring what mom wanted. I think it's unreasonable to expect me to just forget $37,000. I have to sympathize with OP.
I don't think anybody in the comments would want to be out $37K.
I think at the end of the day, OP should not file a claim because it just sounds like it's going to make everything messy. I think there's another solution here where like they can sell the house, OP can get their money. Theoretically, they quote unquote split the money, but then instead of giving it to the sister, they all just chip in to get her a different house. Maybe they get a house for more like $100,000. The mom has $43,000 to work with. I don't think OP is the a-hole, but I don't think they should file the claim. Let me read the update. I officially submitted the paperwork to get payment for the debt. However, I decided that I would forgive a fourth of the loan. So instead of claiming $37,000, I'm claiming $27,750. I told my siblings that I would forgive a fourth, and if keeping the house for Sarah is important to them, then they each need to come up with the same. Wow. Not the way I thought this post was gonna go. So far, they are saying they will not contribute. John and I spoke with the lawyer. We were wrong about how any cash from the sale of the house would be dispersed. First, any liquid assets would have to be used to cover debts. If the assets need to be liquidated, then whoever was supposed to get that asset gets whatever proceeds left after paying debts. So no matter what my siblings do, Sarah will get the rest of the money if the house is sold. The lawyer also pointed out the same thing many people here did, that giving Sarah the money could affect her benefits. Instead, he suggested she turn down the inheritance in favor of placing the money into a special needs trust fund for her son. Sarah will be talking to a lawyer on her options and exactly what that means. Sarah's attempting to get a loan using the house as collateral. Not all the paperwork is in order yet. Exactly how much will be left in the estate after all debts are paid, and we are probably looking at needing to get a professional appraisal of the home first. One person at the bank talked to her and said that with her credit score and She doubts she would be approved, but that she would process the application once Sarah got all data. That's tough. Is there like a deadline on this type of stuff? I don't even know. Seems rushed. It's tough because I'm sure the sister doesn't want to leave the house. Also, OP shouldn't have to eat the cost of $37,000 that she just loaned to her mom. For them to call OP greedy is unfair. Unless you're a millionaire, billionaire, I think everyone would be upset if they lost $37,000. That is really nice of her to forgive part of the debt. Yeah.
Am I the a-hole for leaving my surprise wedding because I felt blindsided? Last week, I, 30 female, was invited to a supposedly fancy party by my longtime boyfriend Mark. While we have discussed marriage before, there was no immediate plans for a wedding. Excited about the event, I dressed up in my best attire and arrived at the designated venue. As I entered the grand hall, I was completely taken aback to see all of our family, friends, and acquaintances gathered eagerly awaiting. It turns out Mark had orchestrated an elaborate surprise wedding for us without my knowledge. Everyone erupted into applause as I stood there shocked and overwhelmed. I just felt a mix of emotions. While I love Mark and had dreamed of our future together, the idea of getting married without any prior discussion or consent felt like a breach of trust. So I pulled Mark aside and tried to express my concerns and reservations about the surprise wedding. I explained that I wanted a say in the planning process, to be part of the decision making, and to have a chance to prepare mentally and emotionally for such a significant milestone in our lives. However, Mark dismissed my concerns, saying that he thought it would be a romantic gesture and that I would be thrilled. In that moment, I faced a difficult choice to either go along with the surprise wedding, putting on a smile despite feeling unsettled, or stand up for my autonomy and voice my true feelings. I ultimately made the decision to not proceed with the surprise wedding, much to the disappointment and confusion of our guests. Now I find myself at odds with Mark, our families, and even some of our friends who believe I overreacted and spoiled a beautiful moment. However, I firmly believe that a marriage should be a joint decision with open communication and shared expectations. Everyone's excuse for this is I have always talked about marrying Mark, and again, the problem isn't marrying him, the problem is not having any say in my wedding. Mark thought I'd appreciate it because 1, I always spoke about how stressful planning a wedding must be, and 2, I love surprises. It's a thing everyone has known me to love. Yes, I love surprises, and yes, I think it's stressful, but I'd still like planning one, to choose the perfect date, to choose my bridesmaids, to pick out my cake, etc. After this whole ordeal, everyone asked if Mark and I were ending things, in which I replied no. I emphasized to them and Mark I still wanted to marry him, and most feel like this is making me more of an a-hole since I just wasted a perfectly fine wedding. That is incredible that not only Mark, but all of these people think this was a good idea. I would bet my house, my life, that if you put 100 normal people in a room, 99%, if not all of them, would be like, WTF, bro. A surprise wedding is unheard of, and I think it takes this much common sense to figure out, that might not be a good idea. Absolutely not the a-hole. I do think this raises a couple of red flags, at least about Mark and more about your friends. If your friends think you're an a-hole for this, they're out of their minds. They're back crazy. And with Mark, I really can't decide if he's just like kind of dumb or if this was a little bit malicious. Him dismissing her feelings when she expressed that, hey, I'm not comfortable with this, is just not sitting right with me at all. I don't know, maybe he's a good guy and this is obviously a very one-sided story, but I had to put money on it. Mark is a little sus. Is OP the a-hole? I don't think so, but you let me know what you think in the comments below about this post or any other post in this video. Am I the a-hole for forcing my stepdaughter to cut her hair? I, 31, met my husband, 34 male, 8 years ago, and we have been married for 6. He has an 11-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. I work from home, so I mainly end up taking care of her. I have since she was young. We have a generally good relationship. She stays at her mother's most weekends. She has incredibly long, blonde, wavy hair just past her bottom. It's a nightmare to take care of. It frequently tangles, and she always needs help brushing and styling it before school. I'm not a morning person, and I do not like having to wake up early to do a kid's hair. It's expensive to maintain as she requires more products. She insists on using hair oils, which can cost around $11 and only last a few weeks. She also insists she has to use curly hair shampoo. instead of regular shampoo and conditioner, which is often over $10 per bottle, and she goes through it at a fast rate. She won't use a regular brush on it as she insists it breaks her hair and hurts, so she uses a wide tooth comb, which takes a long time to brush when she could be doing other more productive things such as homework or helping me with chores. I decided she had become obsessed with her hair, and I do not want her to become vain, so I decided it needs to be cut. I do not see it as a big deal as I have always had shoulder length hair as my hair does not grow very fast and I get frequent trims. It's a lot more practical. I took her to the hairdressers as normal. In the car on the way down, she said she wants to make sure the hairdresser doesn't cut too much. I politely explained that I would like her to cut her hair to shoulder length as it has become a burden. At first I thought she was joking, but when she realized, she started to cry. When we got to the salon, the hairdresser was reluctant to cut her hair due to her tears, but I explained the trouble we have maintaining it and assured cutting it would be best for her. In the end, the stylist agreed and cut her hair. The stylist braided her hair, then cut it, and she kept it. Her hair was now just past shoulder length and looked a lot darker. The car journey home was silent. I offered her McDonald's, but she refused. She went straight to her room when we got back. My husband went up to see her when he got home and apparently found her on her bed sobbing, holding her old hair. My husband immediately called her mother to come and collect her, and as soon as my stepdaughter was out the door, he started yelling. Her mother also came in and gave me a mouthful. I explained my reasoning, but my husband wouldn't budge. He said if I had an issue, he would have done her hair in the mornings and he didn't mind paying for the products. He was so furious, he said he no longer trusts me around his daughter and doesn't know if he can be with a woman he doesn't trust with her. This broke my heart. I didn't mean her any harm. I was just so tired and I'm trying to reduce stress. I've always been the one to raise her and her brother, and I'm just exhausted. I don't know why, but I love finding the stories where I just think to myself, you really typed that out, that whole thing. And in your head, you're like, people might not think I'm an a-hole. What? The only position I can even somewhat sympathize with the OP on is the fact that, hey, I just don't like taking care of this hair, which is reasonable, but your solution was not at all appropriate. Even if this was your actual daughter, it would have been an incredible stretch to say that you were in the right, and it being your stepdaughter just makes it even worse. Clearly, this child's hair makes them happy, and you just stripped that happiness away from them. The trauma you just caused is probably gonna bleed into that child's adult life. Good job. Definitely the a-hole. And if the husband decides to divorce you, A, that's probably the right move, and B, you did this to yourself. Am I the a-hole for having my son miss his graduating road trip to watch his siblings? My son just graduated high school and we were paying for him to go on a road trip with his friends. He was supposed to leave Wednesday, but my wife's mother and father got in a car accident right before. They live in another state, so we had to drive about 4 hours. My wife was a wreck and wasn't in a position to drive since her dad was in critical condition. We have 2 other kids, ages 7 and 11. We can't leave them at home alone, and we couldn't find a sitter to watch them in such short notice. We even tried our neighbors, but he couldn't do it. So that left our 18-year-old. He was pissed, to put it mildly, but did it. I told him we would make it up to him and asked if his friends could move the trip back a week, but sadly they couldn't. We were gone for 2 days, and luckily my wife's parents pulled through. My wife stayed, and I headed back to the kids. I paid him for watching the kids and went to talk to him about getting him on the trip. It was supposed to be 2 weeks and they should just be a state over, but he blew up on me about ruining his trip and said there's no point going even though he'd still be able to enjoy 12 weeks of the trip. He called me a jerk and locked himself in his room. I think some parts of the update are important for context as well. He called his mom. Let's say it didn't end well. He basically said the same thing to her that he said to me. My wife had a breakdown on the phone with him. She sent him the injuries and pictures of grandma and grandpa. After the call, he finally came out of his room and told me he isn't going to go on the trip and the plane tickets aren't needed. I talked to my wife after the call and have never heard her that mad. The son started yelling at her the moment the call started and she lost her when he called her selfish. For people saying we didn't have an emergency plan, we did. First, my closest friend on vacation, main babysitter, not available, backup babysitter, not available, last resort, grandparents in the hospital. We even reached out to neighbors and friends with no luck. This thread blew my mind because on Reddit, they were calling him the a-hole. And the reasons for it were number 1, that he could have taken the kids with him, and 2, that he left his wife, who was in an emotional emotional wreck, which blows my mind because those are not the important parts of this story and have easy justifications. Number one, when they left, his wife was a wreck, which basically means there was one parent to operate, and to have those two younger kids with you would be a nightmare. On top of that, the thread was like, oh, the younger kids would want to see their grandparents, but my family had a very similar experience with my grandpa when I was younger, and my parents chose not to bring me because around that age is when you start remembering things, and they didn't want the only thing that I remember about my grandpa to be him dying. And to the second point, clearly by the time that OP left to go check on his children that rely on him, the grandparents were fine, or at least estimated to be fine. So I don't know what kind of crack this Reddit thread was smoking, but give me some, because I'm trying to be as delusional as they are. Not even close to an a-hole. Your son sounds like an undiagnosed sociopath, and maybe everybody else on Reddit is an undiagnosed sociopath. I don't know. Like I say in every video, my opinions on any of these posts could be wrong, so definitely let me know what you think in the comments. But honestly, if I'm wrong, I'm selling all my earthly possessions and becoming a monk, because clearly I don't understand anything. Am I the a-hole for not giving my husband a single hour off on Father's Day? My husband, 36 male, and I, 33 female, have been married for 8 years and have 3 kids, 5, 3, and a 1-month-old infant. I am currently still recovering from my planned C-section and is taking a lot longer than I had hoped. I am not on bed rest, but pretty darn close. Unless it's to go to the bathroom or changing or feeding my baby, I'm pretty much always sitting or laying down. Both my husband and I are still on maternity/paternity leave. Obviously, that means that pretty much every other aspect of our lives falls on my husband right now. He's been doing a great job of taking care of the older kids and making sure everything in our lives is running as smoothly as it can, given our circumstances. He's also great about taking care of the baby and giving me breaks as much as he can, but I can tell it's starting to wear on him mentally and physically. Neither of us is sleeping well, and I swear he looks like he's lost more weight than I have since the baby came. Due to me being pretty much immobile, I can't really go out of the house to do anything without assistance, so I wasn't able to plan on anything really fun for Father's Day. I did help the older kids make him cards and ordered him some nice steaks to cook though. I felt bad because for Mother's Day, he bought me a 6-hour pregnancy spa treatment and took the older kids out of the house all day so I could have peace. But on the morning of Father's Day, I was feeling worse than usual as I had to strain myself the day before to pick up something off the floor and I aggravated my incision. So I was laid up all day. Again, this meant my husband had to do literally everything that day. By the time he got the older kids to bed, I could tell he was irritated and upset. I told him to try and relax for a bit, but then the baby started fussing and he jumped up off the couch, grabbed a pillow, and screamed into it. I tried to calm him down, but he just kept freaking out about how he's at his wit's end and he needs a break, and that I couldn't even find a way to give him a single hour of quiet on Father's Day. I started crying and he just looked at me and walked away to take care of the baby without saying anything. After he took care of the baby, he came back to me and apologized, but he said he needs a break and he's going to talk to family about taking the older kids for a week or so, and that he's just disappointed that his Father's Day was spent running around doing everything for everyone else. He didn't even get to cook his steaks. He ate cold pizza for dinner. I asked him what I was supposed to do because it's not like I can move or leave the house, and he said I could have looked into a sitter for the kids or made them sit with me and watch a movie for an hour so he could just have a sliver of time for himself. He said he feels like his needs are at the bottom of the list and he just wanted to feel like he matters for one day. This one's hard. If I had to slap a label on it, then I have to go, yes, OP is the a-hole, but truly I don't think a-hole is the right word for this. More just lacking common sense or the ability to problem solve. Have you ever seen one of these? Pretty much everyone has one of these now, unless you're Amish. And this thing can do a lot. It can hire a babysitter, it can get family through the door, it can be as simple as ordering food that he doesn't have to cook himself. Like, you could have done everything on bed rest. Maybe if it was like 1950 and none of this existed, sure. But even then, there's probably little things that you could have done. I feel like I'm being harsh. I want to sympathize with OP. I'm sure it's not easy to give birth and then be on bed rest like they are, but there's definitely more that you could have done here. I will say, however, there does need to be improvement with communication from your husband. I feel like this was just the explosion of a bomb that was slowly building up and becoming more dangerous. He should have communicated to OP earlier about how he was feeling, and they together could have found solutions, could have figured out a way that that he doesn't lose his mind like it sounds like he is. Slapping a label on it, OP's the a-hole, but you let me know what you think in the comments below.
If you enjoyed, click right here to watch another one of my Reddit videos, and hit subscribe so you don't miss out on new messy Reddit threads every week.